You were out walking the family dog.
Yes. The pit bull latched onto my dog, and my dog was squealing a lot.
My dog is not vicious, and she likes to play with little dogs.
Clearly not on this day. She didn't like to play with other dogs.
This is Judy. Heather Stevens for vet bills and pain and suffering after a dog attack.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Hello, Judge. Case 2139, Stevens versus Stevens.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Although your names sound the same, they're spelled differently, and you are clearly not related based upon this case. You live in the same general area.
Yes.
Okay. Could you step up?
A young woman.
Tell me your name.
Emily Feringer,
This is your daughter.
Yes.
How long have you been living in your house?
8.5 years.
How old are you?
22.
Tell me what you do.
I work at a bakery right now, and I'm a full-time college student.
Where do you go to school?
Idaho State University.
You were out walking the family dog.
Yes, I
Family has one dog?
Just one, yeah.
What kind of dog?
It's a miniature schnauzer.
Weighs about 10, 12 pounds?
Yeah, around there, 15-ish.
How old is the dog?
He is 9.
You've had him since he was a puppy.
Yes.
This case has to do with injuries that your dog sustained.
Yes.
And the payment of vet bills by the defendant, who you allege has 2 dogs unleashed that attacked your dog while you were walking.
Correct.
Him.
Just one dog.
One dog.
One.
One dog attacked our dog.
You have a pit bull.
Yes, ma'am.
What color?
White and brown.
How old?
She's 5.
Is that the only dog you have?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me what date you were walking the dog that this incident happened.
July 26, 2021.
Time.
Around 8 p.m.
Dark?
No.
Still light out.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you walking in the neighborhood?
I was walking down the sidewalk, and I passed the defendant's house, and I reached the end of the sidewalk.
Your dog's name is what?
Jax?
On a leash?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you always walk the dog on a leash?
We do.
Tell me what happened.
I was walking down the sidewalk, and I reached the end of the sidewalk. I was about to cross the street, and...
Do you have a picture or diagram?
I do. I
of where
have a
this
diagram.
happened? May I see it, please? Oh, okay. There it is. Would you go over to the diagram so that you can point directly and I can understand where this happened?
A map of the street corner.
I was standing right here, and I noticed the dog come up on my left side.
On your left side?
Yes.
Did you notice from where the dog came?
It seemed to be out in the street when it approached me.
So it didn't come from the defendant's house, it came from the street?
Yes. It had been on the left-hand side of me. And then the pit bull latched onto my dog on its leg.
What color pit bull?
Brown and white.
Was there any fighting or a scuffle before?
No, ma'am. It just ran up to me, and it latched onto my dog's leg, and it picked my dog up and was yanking it around in the air. And it was very loud, and my dog was squealing a lot and crying out very loudly, so I yanked his leash so that I didn't have to bend down and get hurt myself. And I picked him up, and I ran back.
So you yanked him up by his leash?
I did.
Okay. Did he have what kind of a collar on? A regular collar or one of those harnesses?
We have both, so I'm not sure which one he was wearing at that time, but I believe he was wearing the collar.
Just the collar?
Yes.
So you lifted him up by the collar?
Yes.
Did you see where the dog went?
I do not remember. I think the pit bull ran back into the defendant's household.
But you're not sure?
I'm not sure.
What did you do next?
We took the dog to the animal hospital.
Okay. You can go back now.
Emily rejoins Audrey at the plaintiff's table.
Stand close to you.
Sorry.
Had you ever seen this dog before?
I have.
Where had you seen the dog before?
I've seen the pit bull in multiple places around the neighborhood. I've seen it across...
That same dog?
Yes. I've seen it across the street in that across-the-street neighbor's yard, and I've also seen it in my yard, and it's also been next to my chain link fence before.
Did you or you, Ms. Stevens, ever have a conversation with the defendant about the dog being unleashed?
I have not spoken to her at all.
For how long have you seen her unleashed dog out and about?
Probably about 10 times.
Have you ever said anything to your mother about seeing this dog outside?
I have.
Okay. I'm listening.
Yes, ma'am. May I show you on the...
Absolutely.
On the diagram? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. First of all...
No, don't tell me first of all.
Okay.
Were you there at approximately
Yes.
8 p.m.
Yes,
on
I
July 26th?
Correct, I was.
Okay, where were you? Show me where you were.
I was right here. I was loading a fridge into my home. I had my dog right here in the middle of the driveway, chained to the fence, okay? She came from across the crosswalk here, because I have a witness as well to show. She came from the crosswalk with her dog in front of her. She came across right into my driveway, the dog went into my driveway, and my dog went up to her and they began to fight.
You're going like this.
Yes.
You're going like this. I don't want you to go like this.
Okay.
So your dog was on a chain.
Yes, ma'am.
A chain that extended almost to the end of your driveway.
Correct.
So show me exactly with your finger
Okay, yes.
where you say this confrontation between the pit bull and the schnauzer took place.
Right here, ma'am.
Well, you're pointing to about a foot. Well, now you keep moving your finger.
Right here.
Heather points at the end of her driveway. Caption coming up.
You know that I don't believe that your dog hasn't been out and about in the neighborhood, unleashed.
No, ma'am. I don't let my dog off the leash.
We do have pictures of the dog as well, if you'd like to see those.
Oh, do you?
We
Yes.
You mean out and about?
Yes.
I'd like to see that.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Audrey, Emily, and Heather.
Audrey Stevens claims her neighbor, Heather Stevens, owes for vet bills after her dog was injured by Heather's pit bull.
Now you're moving your finger. So you're saying it's right at the end of your driveway?
Yes, ma'am.
Just a second. It was up further 5 seconds ago.
Okay,
Now
my
you
dog was right here,
yeah,
ma'am.
Yeah.
The fight occurred right here.
Well, now your finger is at a different place, madam. I'm
Well-
just letting you know your finger moves up the driveway.
Right, I'd say right here.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Heather returns to the defendant's table.
You know that I don't believe that.
I know you don't believe that,
You,
Honor, but
you
that's
know,
what happened.
you know that I don't believe that your dog hasn't been out and about in the neighborhood. Do you know that I don't believe that? I don't think she's lying to me that your dog's been out and about in the neighborhood. Unleashed.
No, ma'am. I don't let my dog off the leash.
We do have pictures of the dog as well, if you'd like to see those.
Oh, do you?
We
Yes.
You mean out and about?
Yes.
I'd like to see that.
And this is after.
Shh, shh.
Sorry.
I don't care before or after.
Yeah.
She just said, I don't let my dog go out without a leash.
Well, this is the injury.
Audrey hands photos to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She looks at 2 photos of an unleashed pit bull.
Ms. Stevens, these pictures belie the fact that your dog is out, leashed only. Do you want to see the photograph?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Kevin brings the photos to Heather, who reviews them.
Yes, Your Honor, I do see that, but I was outside with my dog at that time.
I don't care whether you were outside with your dog or not. You said your dog is never out without a leash. That's not true. That's not true. Were you a witness to this?
Yes, ma'am.
Be very careful. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
A woman rises.
Tell me your name.
My name is Karen Brennan.
Are you a neighbor?
No, I am a friend
A friend of whose?
of Heather Stevens.
Go ahead.
Well, on that day,
On what date?
on July 26, I was helping Heather with the fridge.
With the what?
With the refrigerator. And I was approaching the driveway,
Just a second. You were helping her with the refrigerator doing what?
bringing the dolly out so it can be moved
Bringing the dolly out from where?
from the side of the house.
And?
And I looked over and I saw the little dog and it caught
You
my eye.
saw what?
The little dog. And it caught my eye because every time before, anytime I put the dog out, Miss Stevens' dog, that little dog, if it was in the backyard, would continually bark at.
Just a second. Did you put the dog out that day?
No, I did not that day. But I recognized
So
the
you
dog.
did not put the dog out
No,
that day?
not that day.
Okay. What time did you get to Miss Stevens' house?
Mid-afternoon.
What's her dog's name?
Lily,
Was Lily chained to the fence all afternoon?
when we were,
Was Lily chained to the fence all afternoon? That's either a yes or a no when you were there. That's either a yes or a no. Was Lily chained to the fence all afternoon when you were there? You said you got there mid-afternoon. This happened at 8 o'clock. Was the dog chained to the fence all the time you were there? Yes or a no? Or I don't know. No.
no,
Where was the dog?
in the backyard
Until what time?
until around 7-ish or so. I don't know the exact time, but it was mid-evening.
Okay. And what happened at that time when the dog was moved from the backyard, outside of the backyard? Who moved the dog?
We went to go get the refrigerator.
No. Who moved the dog?
Heather did.
She took the dog from the backyard.
Yes.
Just a second. To the backyard to the driveway, just to the driveway, because that's where she pointed out that the dog was chained to the driveway fence.
Yes. When we came back from we went to go get the refrigerator.
Just a minute. Well, you didn't tell me, so you left the house.
Yes.
What time did you leave the house?
Mid-afternoon. It was like
What time?
approximately 4 or 5.
Okay. And the dog at that time was where?
With us in the vehicle.
So you had the dog in the car. So the dog was in the backyard.
Yes.
And then from the backyard, the dog went with you in the car.
Correct.
And then what?
And then we picked up the refrigerator, and we came back, and then she had chained her.
Okay. So from the car, the dog went to the fence, which is chained sort of midway up the fence, according to the defendant, sort of midway up the driveway.
Correct.
Is where she chained the dog.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Then where did you go?
And then I went to go get the dolly and bring it around so we could get the fridge out.
Okay. And where did Miss Stevens stay?
She was in the driveway.
And it was when you were coming out of the backyard that you saw Miss Stevens in the driveway?
Yes.
And saw the little dog?
Yes.
She was in the driveway. Was she next to the dog? Go over there and point out where she was, would you, in the driveway?
Karen points at the driveway.
She was
She, Miss Stevens,
that Miss Stevens, yes.
your friend,
Yes.
was right in the middle of the driveway, near where the dog was chained.
Yes.
And show me where the defendant's house is, because you had been in the house earlier that day. Point on that diagram where the house is,
Right here.
where it says defendant.
Yes.
That's the whole house. And where's the front door?
Right here.
Up there. And where's the porch on the front door?
Right there.
Okay. Now, that's not where she was. She was in the driveway.
Correct.
Okay, now go back. Now I'm going to read to you what your friend Miss Stevens wrote and swore to in her answer. I was standing on the porch, maneuvering the fridge inside, and I saw a little dog sniffing around and walking up my driveway. She said she was on the porch.
Well, she was back.
That's where she said she was, on the porch. I know the plaintiff's dog is a barker since it has come to the backside of my property and barked at my dog through the fence. The dog walked all the way up the driveway to where my dog was. Now, you want to think back? Miss Stevens says she was standing on the porch. You were very certain she was standing mid-driveway right near her dog. Which one is it?
Well, we were trying to maneuver the fridge, so we were back and forth.
No. Which one is it? Was she on the porch, which is all the way at the other end?
Yes.
Or was she mid-driveway?
Mid-driveway.
She was mid-driveway. So Miss Stevens lied when she said she was on the porch.
Caption, coming up.
I didn't look at a police report. I listened to you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I listened to your witness.
Yes.
And you and the witness that you brought told two divergent stories, two totally different stories. She was your witness.
Heather's eyes widen. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Audrey, Emily, Heather, and Karen.
Audrey Stevens is accusing her neighbor, Heather Stevens, of losing control of her pit bull. Heather claims Audrey's dog ran onto her property.
So Miss Stevens lied when she said she was on the porch. That's what she says in her answer. I was on the porch when this happened. You understand? Do you understand?
Yes.
Sit.
Karen sits.
Can I see your vet bills, please?
Your Honor, I have a video of my dog. Can we present the video that I have brought?
You mean for that day?
Yes, ma'am.
For that-
No, not for that day. No, not for that day, but just to show you that my dog is not vicious.
Oh, what?
That she likes to play with little dogs.
Clearly not on this day. She didn't like to play with other dogs.
That dog is constantly barking at my dog in the backyard, and that's the only. My dog loves dogs. I have obedient records.
Miss Stevens.
Yes.
I want you to understand something.
Yes, ma'am.
Whether the Schnauzer is a barker or not a barker, I told you, I didn't believe you when you told me that her dog was off leash. I didn't believe that. Either you or your witness lied. I don't know which one. So I'm going to have to assume it was your witness. Do you want me to assume it was your witness or you? One of you lied. She says you were in a totally different place. She was coming out from the backyard. That's where she was. She had gone to get the dolly. You said you were maneuvering the refrigerator up on the porch.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, who was telling me the truth? You want to tell me?
It was a very hectic day.
It was a very hectic day.
Yeah.
And I have photographs of your dog, despite the fact that you tell me that your dog is never off leash, always on leash. I have 3 photographs taken 3 different times of your dog being off leash. Now, there's no question that your dog caused the injuries to the dog.
This has been going on for over a year in court. They dismissed it in criminal court, and there's a reason why they dismissed it.
Just a second.
Yes,
You're
ma'am.
going to try to tell me why they dismissed the case in criminal court? You have a document. I mean, I understand that they filed a criminal case against you.
There was a criminal case that was dismissed, Your Honor.
That's okay. That has nothing to do with this civil proceeding. You know, somebody may not want to put you in jail because you let your pit bull roam around without a leash. Somebody may not want to put you in jail, but you are clearly responsible for this dog's injuries. You are. If you have a pit bull, and pit bulls can be dangerous dogs, they can turn on a dime and cause serious injury. Pit bull lovers, I don't want to hear from you. I've been going through it for 25 years. Some of them are nice. Some of them are not nice. But when they're not nice and they turn, they have configurations that can cause a great deal of injury. One killed a woman who was babysitting for it.
I understand, Your Honor.
So you do understand. You do.
I believe, may I say something? I believe that a dog is how it was raised, okay? I've raised that dog from a baby. She's never been mean like that. That dog that lives next door, which is Miss Stevens' dog, yaps at my dog every single day. She goes outside, yaps, 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 yaps at her.
So what you're telling me is your dog, so if what you're telling me is that your dog had the right to be aggravated because the dog yaps at her all the time, that's not a reason to let any dog, but especially a dog that has potential to cause injury, out without a leash. And you do that regularly, and you can't do that.
Your Honor, can I also add that I did have a brief interaction with Miss Stevens on the day that it occurred, and it seemed like she did come out of the street with the dog. I don't believe she was in the driveway. She offered help for me.
She did?
Yes, before I went home.
And
Where was
not
she?
to interrupt, but we also have video of her acknowledging fault with the officer's body cam video.
What is that?
They have a body cam on when he was talking to her when she said she's really sorry and she's going to pay the vet bill.
Oh, may I see that, please?
Body cam footage.
Getting ready to take her for a walk. We were moving in a fridge.
Oh, okay.
And she jumped out of the car when she seen that little dog, because I was getting ready to get in the car and
Gotcha.
right on the corner here.
Okay. So were they just across the street then?
No, they were right here.
They were just right here on the sidewalk. Okay.
I'm going to pay the bill, I know, and whatever I got to do.
Yeah, so she's down at the clinic now.
It was a bite on her, on the shoulder, I think.
On the shoulder?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she was just protecting me, because
Sure.
that's all. And I'll pay the bill.
That you're responsible
And I want to
for, so-
apologize.
Sure.
I feel bad. I do feel bad about it. I do love dogs. I'm a dog lover. And I do feel bad. And I believe she just said, the defendant just said that she was in the street when that happened. It was in my driveway that happened, Your Honor. I'm just saying, we want to be honest.
Was your dog on a chain?
My dog was on a chain, Your Honor. Another thing, I never got my side of the story added to that at all. It was all one-sided. The whole police report was one-sided, Your Honor.
I didn't look at a police report,
I have
madam.
one right here.
Just a second. I didn't look at a police report. I listened
It's
to
all
your.
one-sided.
I listened to you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I listened to your witness.
Yes.
And you and the witness that you brought told 2 divergent stories, 2 totally different stories. She was your witness.
Yes.
Easily confused, but she was your witness. And you should have prepared her better, consistent with what your answer was. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor. I wasn't trying to.
Very, very good. Okay. Pain and suffering, unfortunately, is not yours. If you had had injury to yourself, and I think that the law is a little crazy there, but we can gauge pain and suffering for an animal. Anyway, your vet bills were $435.
Your Honor, we just added that just because, you know,
I understand.
blatant disregard and the dog's still out all
Oh,
the time.
no, excuse me. The total with tax was $441. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Emily, then Karen and Heather.
It's been a struggle just because of how long it's been going on.
It was a crazy day.
The dog almost got to our dog's leg bone and broke it.
Because the dog is always japping at my dog.
It was pretty scary.
So it surprised me that that happened.
He was bleeding and everything.
She's not vicious whatsoever.
We ran him up to the hospital.
The animal control never get in my house.
I had a feeling that Judy would see right through her, so.
I love dogs, and I felt sorry for the little dog.
I'm happy about the settlement and how we got our money.
Judy and Sarah.
I'm not even going to get on my soapbox with regard to dogs that are potentially dangerous. There's no question that this lady has a dog that she's had from a puppy, and the dog has never caused her any difficulty, but there's also no question that she lets that dog out without a leash.
I mean, they had proof of different occasions of the dog out and about.
After this
after
happened.
this incident.
After this incident.
So you can, I think that's also a great lesson, that you can feel bad and be an animal lover and want to take care of the bill. But if you don't take any subsequent remedial measures to fix your bad behavior that caused this great deal of injury, then I don't really believe you that you feel sorry or that you're a dog lover. Because,
well, that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, I mean, you knew what you had to do to ensure the safety of the dogs and other people in your neighborhood, and you chose not to do that, so.
After it had already had an incident.
Exactly.
At least one.
Yeah.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
He'd gotten a restraining order against me.
Against you.
I sent him a letter saying that I wanted payment.
This letter threatens to go to his boss to get him fired. That's what that says. That's what you were threatening.
This is Judy Justice. Herman and Tina Smoody are suing their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, for unpaid loans.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge. Case 2082, Smoody versus McDonald.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, the defendant used to be married to your daughter.
Yes, Your Honor.
And according to what I've read, they were married for about 5 years.
Yes.
The thrust of your claim is that he owes for a couple of things, for rent and the balance of a truck. That's your lawsuit against him. I'd like to know, do you know the date of their marriage?
3/16/2011.
And your ex-wife's first name?
Jacqueline.
And when did you and your former wife separate?
In 2020.
And you had 2 children. How old are they now?
They are 5 and 8.
And who has custody of the children?
Dalton has physical, and they have joint custody.
Just a second. So he has custody of the 2 younger children?
Yes.
That's a yes. How long have you had custody of the 2 children?
Since July of last year.
At some point during the marriage, there was a truck purchased.
Yes.
Who purchased the truck?
Dalton purchased the truck. I co-signed for it.
And when was it purchased? Month and year?
June of 2017.
Was that the only car
Yes.
that they had?
Yes.
So that was a family car.
Yes.
And in 2017, was your daughter working?
Yes.
So both parents worked. And both parents, I assume, pooled their money and I assume made car payments.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Is that correct? Both. And then they separated in 2020, and at that time, the children came to live with you.
Correct.
And you took the truck
Yes.
by agreement with your now ex-wife.
Yes.
In 2020, who made the car payments?
My husband did.
Is that correct?
Yes. I made all of the car payments on that vehicle. All of them, from the time it was purchased until we paid it off.
Okay, so what you're telling me is from 2017, you made all the car payments.
That's correct.
Did your daughter and son-in-law make any of those payments?
Not directly, but they paid toward the balance of the money that they were.
You paid for the truck
That's correct.
since 2017, since they
correct.
were married,
Yes.
with no reimbursement.
I took payments out of my daughter's check.
Just be very, very careful with me, sir.
Yeah.
I want you to be very careful with me. I read that, what we call in Yiddish, Bubameises in here, that you took money out of your daughter's check. Bubameises, it means grandma's tale. It means it's not true. It means it doesn't sound right to me. I read it in here. Don't try to repeat it here because that won't be good for you. Okay, I'm going to believe you if you show me copies of her checks that you made to her with withdrawals from money she owed you. That's all I want to see. Do you have that?
I do not.
Not, of course not. Now, he has the truck, and this was clearly either a gift or a marital debt. Either one of those two things. It's either a gift or a marital debt. It was a family car that was used by your daughter, her husband, the grandchildren, with, according to you, no reimbursement, according to you, except this ridiculous reimbursement from your daughter's check, which I don't believe, so I'm not even going into it, with no reimbursement 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And when your daughter and the defendant separated in 2020, according to him and according to you, he took the truck and the children. And that was with her consent or not?
Yes, it was.
With her consent. Is that so far right? That's what you're telling me.
It's accurate.
Right. Did you intervene in the divorce proceeding and say that there is money owed, marital debt owed, and part of the marital debt is this loan on the truck?
No.
No. The answer is no, you did not. It would also be fair to say that you don't know how much, according to you, she paid for the truck.
I do, Your Honor. I have
Well-
that ledger that I have. I would go to her each week and say, Jacqueline, how much can I take toward the loan? And that's how much I would take off each week.
All you have to do, sir, is show me. Otherwise, this is a whole bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
It's a marital debt. You did not intervene in the divorce proceedings and say, listen, this is a debt that's still outstanding, whatever it is, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. You didn't do that. Now, the only thing that you can say to me with regard to this truck business is if you had, had an agreement with the defendant in 2017 to pay the truck. And be very careful, because what you've told me is he didn't make any payments to you from 2017 ever.
He made some payment.
Just a second. Interesting. Show me where he made payments. Did you give him a receipt for payments?
No, we're this is a small town, and
It's not a small town, it's a family, sir. It's not a small...
I do have the ledger.
I'm not interested in a ledger you created. It's self-serving and therefore inadmissible and created for the purpose solely of this litigation and not created at the same time that the event took place. I might even cut you a little slack if you had a ledger, a book with entries in it at different times from 2017 in different ink, with a day, how much was paid back on the loan. I guarantee you do not have that. You have a very nice piece of white paper that you created for me. Is that correct? That is correct.
That is accurate.
Okay, so I'm not interested in your ledger. That's not a ledger. That's a document prepared for the purposes of litigation. So I want you to tell me what conversation you had and when with Mr. McDonald about paying for the truck.
Caption, coming up.
They bought this boat from you.
Accurate.
And how much did you sell it to them for?
$2,500.
Did they pay you for it?
No, part of that was put on the ledger, and part of it was cash.
You know I'm not buying your whole story.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Herman, Tina, and Dalton.
Herman and Tina Smoody claim their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, owes for unpaid loans.
Now, I want you to tell me what conversation you had and when with Mr. McDonald about paying for the truck.
That was from the very beginning, because I was paying all their bills.
Just a second. I don't care whether you were paying their bills. I understand you were paying all their bills because they came to live with you for a brief period of time because they were evicted for whatever reason, and that was sometime in 2016. Okay. So I understand that you were paying their bills. Well, sometimes that's what parents do. They pay their bills.
We were paying their bills because they had no checking account.
That doesn't matter to me. I want to know your conversations with, where did it take place? Because you're not suing your daughter, you're suing him.
The conversation was when we rented the farm for them, which I know is not with the truck, but the landlord would not let them rent from them because they had terrible credit.
We'll get to the rent later. Stick with the truck. Don't talk to him when I'm asking him questions.
Well, the truck was the same thing. We put that on the ledger then, or on the running total, and they agreed. They both agreed that they were going to pay us off.
Okay.
He came over on Labor Day weekend, and I showed him the ledger, which he saw all the time.
No. Don't tell me what he saw. Don't tell me what he saw. If what you're saying is you showed him the ledger when he came over with the boys.
Yes.
And he was going back to Minnesota.
Right.
And he brought the boys to see you to say goodbye?
Correct.
Okay, so far, it's very nice. You have a reasonable relationship with him, and certainly your daughter was clearly overwhelmed because courts do not usually split up children, so they must have felt that the children's best interest would be served if they remained with their father. Clearly what happened, the father came over to you to let you say goodbye to the children, and when he came over to let you say goodbye to the children, let me understand what you're saying to me. What you said to him was, not thank you for taking over this responsibility. Your daughter had more children than she could take care of, physically or financially, right? Clearly.
Yes.
Clearly. So what you want me to believe that two nice people who took in their daughter with her 2 kids and a husband and bought a truck and made arrangements for them to have someplace to live, that these two nice people, when he came over, because your daughter couldn't take care of her children, and he brought them to say goodbye, you said, it's very nice. I want you to take a look at this ledger and see how much money you owe me. That's what you're asking me to believe, right? I'm going to let you live with that fantasy that I believe that.
And so I did give him the balance of what he owed me on the rent.
No.
And
No.
and on the truck.
Nice.
And he looked me in the eye, he shook my hand and said, Jerry, I promise I'm not going to screw you on this. I'm going to make those payments.
Make payments for what?
On the rent and on the truck.
Okay. Did you have that conversation with him?
No, I did not, Your Honor. The conversation was when I came up there the last time, Jerry was trying to sell his fishing boat, so I posted it on Facebook, and I sold it for him.
In what month and year?
That would have been September of 2020. After selling the boat, he gave me $1,200 for helping him.
How much did he sell the boat for?
It was $4,700.
So that was after you'd already moved?
Correct.
With the children?
Yep.
Okay. He helped you sell the boat for $4,700? Just answer my question.
No.
Did you give him $1,200?
No. He bought that boat from me a year prior to that. He had it.
So they bought this boat from you.
Accurate.
When?
That would have been in the spring of 2019.
And how much did you sell it to them for?
$2,500.
Did they pay you for it?
No, part of that was put on the ledger, and part of it was cash.
You know, I'm not buying your whole story. I'm not buying your whole story because what
Your Honor, I'm telling you the honest to God truth.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that I would have sold people who had no credit, who couldn't buy themselves a truck, so you had to co-sign for the only means of transportation that they had, who couldn't pay for their rent, who couldn't pay their bills because of their bad credit. I don't believe this whole scenario about selling them a leisure boat for $2,500. Is mind-boggling that you would think that an intelligent person like me would accept that. Okay, forget the truck. You have the truck now.
Yes.
Okay. You haven't finished your story with me, so sold the boat, and he gave you $1,200.
Correct. I gave him the $1,200 back, which made us even on the truck payment, and he gave me the title. Tina signed it, and then I brought it back to Minnesota and put it in my name.
Okay. Who signed it?
Tina signed it.
My name was on it as well.
Your name?
Yes.
As joint owners with him?
Yep.
Co-signer.
Oh, interesting. In what month did Mrs. Smoody
Yes.
sign over the car to you?
The same day that I gave Jerry the $1,200, that would have been in September.
Now, do you remember the $1,200?
No, it was $1,000 that he paid toward the loan when I sold the boat for him.
Okay.
And it was his boat that I sold for him.
Okay. You did not create this as a marital debt. It absolutely was a marital debt. So I'm dismissing that portion of your claim that deals with the truck. Now, let's deal with the rent. The rent that you're talking about was rent in what property?
The farmhouse that they rented.
From when to when?
2016, November 2020.
And over the years that they lived there as a couple.
Yes.
The rent was paid to a landlord.
Correct.
By you.
Yes.
Is that right?
Correct.
And they, your daughter and her husband, would give you cash, checks, or whatever to cover the rent.
Yep.
Yes.
And how much did they give you to cover the rent?
When we started out, rent was $800, and Later on, he raised it to $900. We never made it a set amount each week. They gave us what they could. And we've done this before in the past, and they've always paid us back.
Well, then you should have sued them and listed all of this as a marital debt in the process of their divorce. So it could all have been...
We're handling Jacqueline in another way.
You what?
We're handling Jacqueline alone.
I don't understand what that means.
Well, you're saying it was marital.
Just a second. Does that mean that you've already served your daughter with a summons?
Not yet, no.
Of course not. Of course not. And you did know when they were divorcing. Yeah. You did know when they were divorcing. I'm not buying anything of this lawsuit, most of which, at least the rent part, is totally stale. I'm just curious, Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, somebody wants to answer this question for me. Mr. McDonald has custody of your two young grandsons, who I assume that you were close to because they lived with you in your house. And you
seem to live with us. The two boys came back to live with us.
From when to when?
December of 2021 until July of 2022. 6 months we had them.
Just a second, 2022. Was there a court proceeding?
No.
But then in July, they went back with their father.
That's accurate.
And they've been with their father since?
Yes.
Okay, so the boys lived with you for 6, 7 months.
Right.
Was that an acrimonious transfer?
Caption coming up.
That's what you meant when you said, any employer that has gone through all that paperwork and red tape, as I have, will do anything to avoid it. The anything is firing the employee.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Herman, Tina, and Dalton.
Herman and Tina Smoody are accusing their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, of refusing to pay back loans.
Was that an acrimonious transfer, or was it something that you both...
What happened there was he called my husband to see if
No, don't tell me what he said to your husband.
Okay,
I will tell you then. He called me in December and asked me if I would please take the two boys. I told him, I will take them, Dalton, if you start making regular payments.
Oh, well, we're out of the money business now, sir. What you're saying is from 2017, when the children were in his custody, your daughter may have been there, but they were in joint custody, and then he maintained custody of the children, and during the time he maintained custody of the children, there was no question whatsoever that he was not paying you back money. He did not make any payments to you. Occasional here and there, we don't keep records. All of a sudden, now you have the boys with you. And then in July, he comes back and he takes the boys back. All I asked you was whether that was an acrimonious, which is an unpleasant, or a harmonious transfer of the children. Mr. Smoody was in July.
In July, it was acrimonious because at that point, he'd gotten a restraining order against me.
Against you?
Against me while we had the children. Because I sent him a letter saying that I wanted payment, and he went and got a restraining order against me because they took that as a threat.
I'd like to see the letter, please, Kevin.
Herman hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
And this is what needs to happen moving forward.
That's correct.
You need to mail me $200 on the 1st of every month and $200 on the 15th, starting March 1st, 2022. If I do not get these payments on time, the following will happen, which is, you could say, I'm going to sue you, right? I'm going to sue you, but that's not what you say. You say, I will go to your boss and talk to them about garnishing your wages. Any employer that has gone through all the paperwork and red tape as I have will do anything to avoid it. So that's a threat. What you're saying is, I'm going to call your boss and tell him that I'm going to sue you, and then your boss is going to have to go through all the red tape of what it means to have a garnish on your salary. You have to go through accounting, and they have to deduct it. And no boss wants to do that, which is in effect say, so either you pay me or your boss is going to fire you. That's what you meant when you said, any employer that has gone through all that paperwork and red tape, as I have, will do anything to avoid it. The anything is firing the employee. The only thing that...
You can legally fire somebody.
Just a second. Whether you can legally fire them or not, that's what you were threatening. That's what that said. So we got an order of protection against you.
Correct.
And?
Then I didn't fight it because I didn't anticipate having any conversations or contact with him.
When you wrote this letter,
Yes.
you had the boys.
Yes.
Right. Not before.
No.
Not before. And he had had the boys for some time alone.
3 months.
He had had the boys for some time alone. Okay. Let's go back to my original question, which was, when the boys went back to their father, was it acrimonious or harmonious?
It was not good.
Well, so tell me your version of what happened.
The reason it was acrimonious is because he knew very well that once we got him, we put him on a strict schedule. 8 o'clock, brush your teeth, 8:15 pajamas, 8:30 bed.
Where was your daughter living at this time?
With us.
Yeah, just to say, if you're going to interrupt him because you want to get it out,
I'm sorry.
that's not going to be good for you.
She had a room at our house.
Just a second. So your daughter was living with you. So what you're telling me was your daughter was in the wind someplace.
Accurate.
Okay. You know, you had her for a long time. He only had her for 5 years. And I can understand the sadness if your daughter is in the wind and not being responsible, sir. But that doesn't mean he has to shoulder all the burden. Right now, he's shouldering all the burden of supporting the 2 children, which I assume you're doing. They're living with you. And so are you working?
Yes, I am.
And he's working. Your daughter is not.
She's working 2 jobs.
She always has.
If she's working 2 jobs, why was she in a
She
room?
wasn't renting, she was living there free.
Okay, so now let's get back to this acrimonious transfer by the children back in July.
Dalton called me, or called the kids.
Okay, so he called the
After
children.
bedtime.
Okay,
Called
and
my wife's phone 4 times. Ring, 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 and she wouldn't answer because kids were in bed. And then he called my phone twice. The second time, I have an old flip phone. I flipped it, walked in, because now I hear the boys are awake. I let him talk to the boys. And then I took the phone back and I said some naughty things to him and hung it up.
What did you say naughty things to him for?
Because I was very angry at him. Can I use some swear words that I used when I told him?
No, I assume you used some terrible words.
Yeah,
but
I just told him, don't call me anymore.
Is there any reason that you discussed with your wife why she didn't answer the phone?
Because the boys were already in bed. He had done that before.
You already told me that you heard the boys, so you took the phone into his room.
After the phone calls, they woke up.
Is what you're telling me that the first time that he tried to talk to the boys, that you or your wife didn't answer the phone?
I think it probably happened once or twice prior, and then we told him, don't do it anymore.
Okay, fine.
And this time we were fed up.
Fine. So that's when he said, I'm coming to take the boys.
No, no.
Well, when did he say he was coming to take the boys?
Not until July. Jacqueline told us that Dalton was going to be taking the kids once they got out of school.
Okay, I'm going to take the pain out of this case, and I'm going to do it relatively quickly. I think, Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, that this lawsuit was very ill-advised. The defendant doesn't owe you any money. He doesn't owe you any money because if there was money owed, it was a marital debt, and it should have been taken up at the time of the divorce, listed as a marital debt, and then it could have been fixed by the judge who approved the divorce how much and by whom is owed money. You chose not to do that. It was only after a very acrimonious set of circumstances, roughly 5.5 years later, after this truck was purchased, that you chose to exercise any prerogatives with regard to a debt, except this letter, which threatens to go to his boss to get him fired if you don't stop making payments, and that was only after the 2 children came to live with you and were sort of overwhelmed. You have to understand, Mr. McDonald, who I think probably is trying, he's got the 2 boys. It got very complicated, but it's not a lawsuit, and I would make nice with him. He's got 2 children that you probably want to have some connection with, and this lawsuit certainly doesn't help that. Well, anyway, for all the reasons that I've stated, your lawsuit's dismissed. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Herman.
He owes us that money. He admitted he owed us the money.
I think the judge was absolutely correct.
He promised he was going to pay us the money back.
I don't owe Jerry any money.
Kids are irresponsible, have no sense of honor, duty, respect, responsibility, nothing.
It really should be a family thing, and maybe one day it can go back to it.
This was a great case that explains why a lot of cases in civil court have a statute of limitations before you can bring a certain kind of case, because here it was hard for us to understand why they would not have requested that money back earlier. So when you ask for it now, years down the line where so much has happened, court's not so likely to feed into that because you don't know what the real motivation is behind it.
I agree. I think it's really foolish of them, especially since their ex-son-in-law has total custody of these two little boys, for them not to maintain reasonable relationship with him.
It was a good showing, though, that if you do give money to your daughter, son, and their significant other, and they do get divorced, you should follow that divorce proceeding. So if you do have a claim,
legitimate debt,
or claim, then
List it.
that's the place where you should bring it.
Absolutely.
Title: Judy Justice.
Are you having a family dispute? Go to judyjustice.tv.
You contracted with him to make you a costume.
Yes, ma'am.
And what was wrong with it?
Many, many things.
I'd like to see it.
A young man puts on a brown cloak.
It's a costume. Get a life.
This is Judy Justice. Cade Newton is suing costume designer Robert Estrada for a deposit, lost wages, and a superhero costume.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy enters.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Case 2162, Newton versus Estrada.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Newton, you retained the services of Mr. Estrada to make you a costume.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was, according to your complaint, you make a living as an influencer?
Yes, ma'am. I produce content.
Now, Sarah has actually tried to explain that to me, what that is. And I think the kindergarten version of what she told me was, you are on the internet and your idea is to get as many people to follow the things that you do in your life as possible. And you post on the internet your pictures doing whatever you're doing. And then when you have enough people, advertisers, people who make products, pay you to tout their products one way or another, and that's how you make a living.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
No problem. Anytime.
Okay. So you don't produce anything, you just being you.
Well, no, but I do own 3 companies, and one of them is a social media advertising company. So it's important to meet and mingle with as many people as possible.
I get that, but it's all to support your primary function.
Yes, ma'am.
As we had a case years and years ago. It was one of my favorites. It was a guy who was being supported by a woman. And quite frankly, I couldn't see what this perfectly delightful, productive woman, what she saw in this guy. But I said, she gives you this, she pays your rent, she pays for your food. What does she get in return? And I'll never forget his answer. He said, she gets a me. So I don't know why that came to mind when you're talking about being an influencer. What do you, how does that happen? Anyway, you asked Mr. Estrada to do a costume for you. You like to go to events. I don't have to hear all about it. I sort of understand it a little bit now. You contracted with him to make this costume for you for $1,000. You paid him a $500 deposit. He delivered the costume, albeit he delivered it a little late, but you accepted it, and then you didn't pay him for it because you say it was not made well.
Yes.
And you have the costume now.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. In addition to the costume, you gave him another costume that you wanted him to just put another applique on of something. It was a relatively minor thing.
Glue something.
Whatever. You asked him to do something. It was work. He's not your brother, uncle, father. You're not related to him. That's his business. And when you refused to pay him the balance of the costume that he made for you, he has the other costume, and he says, when you pay me, you can get your costume back. Am I clear?
Yes, but we have talked about creating multiple different costumes in the future, and every single time there was a dollar amount mentioned. This was never discussed. Okay. You discuss it prior, but that was never discussed.
Well, that's true. And whose fault is that?
It was never brought up. But
No. Whose fault is that?
I assume.
No, just a second. If the complaint about the costume that he was just supposed to put an applique on of some sort of a creature, a spider or something, if you gave it to him, and this is his business, then you say, how much is it? So I'm just letting you foment that in your head, sir. When did you order this costume from him for $1,000?
August 7th,
And he delivered it in October.
October 8th, I believe.
And what was wrong with it?
Many, many things.
Just say you have it with you.
I have every single bit of the costume with me.
I'd like to see it.
You like one piece at a time?
No, just a second. That's a boot. What else?
This glove.
Just a second, that's a glove.
Yes.
Okay.
And he actually has plenty of pictures that he sent me in the chat that he was actually making the glove himself. This comes from a costume store from the main movie that this comes from.
Okay,
and it came out in 2005. He sold me a glove that was almost 20 years old, and he said he was making me one.
Okay, keep going.
And this belt right here, I only tried it on once to see how everything fit, and by the time I tried to take the belt off and on, it broke between 20 minutes of use in the house, just testing it out in the mirror.
I just want to see that. I see boots, I see a glove.
There.
Looks perfectly normal to me.
Kevin brings the belt to Judy, who examines it.
And that's put on with Velcro.
Yes.
No big deal. You put on another piece of Velcro. That's a substantial belt. Put it back. What's your next complaint?
Well, number one, not only did
Just a second. I don't want to see the glove anymore. I saw the glove. I saw the boot. I saw the belt.
Well,
Where's the rest of the costume?
A boot with a loose sole.
Here's the other boot.
Just a second. Hey, where's the rest of the costume?
Kevin brings a cloak to Judy, who examines it.
We don't have a mannequin or something we could put this on? We don't have a mannequin or something we could put this on?
We could put it on him. Put it on him. Ask him to put it on. I want to see what's wrong with it. It's a costume.
Cade puts on the costume. Caption, coming up.
Listen to me. I'm not hearing you anymore.
I don't think you're being very fair.
It's not a popularity contest, sir. You bought something. I bought many
also
things.
principle involved,
This is not.
which is
this
why
is
I
not.
decided to
This
take
is
this
not.
report.
This is not.
Principle.
You're out. Goodbye.
And later today,
So you were there for a little less than 12 hours, right? You came at 5 o'clock in the afternoon,
On
and
the
at
11th.
4:30, and at 4:30 in the morning, you left.
I didn't actually leave. I was told to leave.
But you left.
A woman nods. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Cade and Robert.
Cade Newton claims costume designer Robert Estrada sent him a poorly made superhero costume. Robert is countersuing for the balance owed on the costume.
Okay, now, would you do me a favor? Just put the belt on. I know that you can't use the Velcro because a piece of the Velcro came off. Put the belt around. I just want to see how the belt's supposed to go.
For the record, it doesn't go like
Just
this.
a second. I didn't ask you anything. I just said put it on.
A cloaked Cade wraps a leather belt around his waist.
No, you have.
It's actually really difficult with this robe on.
Now turn around. Oh, okay, very good. Now you can take all the show and tell away, and you can take it off.
Your Honor, if I could say something.
You don't have to say anything. I've seen the costume for which he wanted to charge you $1,000.
Well, there's still more.
Yeah, but you don't want to put that on now, because
No,
you
it's
don't
not,
have to
it's
put
not
that on
something
again.
you have to put on. We're looking at the showmanship.
A strip of leather.
This should be one continuous piece.
Mr. Newton, get a life. Get a life. Get rid of that stuff. Put it over there on that chair. This is not a $25,000 costume. It's a $1,000 costume. If you go into a store to buy any costume, without boots, without leather glove, it's a couple of $100. Not made. And if you don't like the way it was made, don't use the services again. According to what I read, you have lots of costumes.
I have two. The one there and the one that he brought of my possession.
Oh, okay, so you just have two costumes.
Yeah.
Great, now you have two. Now you pay him $500 for the costume that he made for you. That's the balance that you owe him for the costume. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the...
I'm not accepting the costume because it's
Just a
not
second.
up to my...
That's why you're in court, sir. I don't care whether you like it or not. Don't use his services again. He made it, you bought it. Based upon my view of that, it may not be perfect.
I paid for it to be perfect. That's
Just
the
a
reason
second.
why I bought
Just
it.
a second. I like a lot of things perfect, sir.
There's a
Life
reason
is
why I
not.
bought it.
Life is not perfect. You're going to pay him for the costume.
I paid for
No,
perfection.
you're going to pay him for the costume. That's it. That's why you're here, for me to make a judgment. If I looked at this thing and didn't think that, for instance, when you sent him those boots, were the soles falling off the boots?
No, there will not.
I didn't think so. That's for my benefit. He's going to pay you the $500 that he owes you for the costume.
The belt wasn't.
And then he bought it.
The belt wasn't falling apart either, but one use, and within 20 minutes of trying it on, and voila.
Just a second, Mr. Newton. I'm done with that. I'm on to the next gig. I'm on to your other costume that he was supposed to put an applique on. You have that costume?
I do.
Very good. Now, I want to tell you something. He didn't send those boots with soles off.
They don't fall off by themselves.
Just a second. No, they don't fall off by themselves.
And I didn't wear it anywhere.
I don't care whether you wore it anywhere, and I know they don't fall off by themselves, and he didn't send them that way. So you figure out, let the people out here figure out what's in my head, how the soles came off both of those shoes.
You can tell me why one piece of the costume has a bigger arm than the other.
Listen to me. I'm not hearing you anymore.
I don't think you're being very fair.
Listen.
Just to be fair. I'm a big fan of you, but I don't think you're very fair right now.
It's not a popularity contest, sir. You bought something. I bought many things. This is not.
Which is why I decided to take this to court.
This is not. You're out. You're gone. Goodbye. Your case is dismissed. Do you want your costume back?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. How much was it to put the applique on it?
It was $100.
$100. Very good. Judgment on the counterclaim, $600. He gets the costume back.
Yes.
You understand? We're done.
Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Cade, then Robert.
I paid a pretty penny for something that was just fabric and boots.
I tried to explain how the costume works, and unfortunately, he didn't really listen. He doesn't listen.
It's one of my favorite things of all time. I've always wanted it.
Well, I gave him what he wanted, but when I delivered it, he actually didn't take the time to hear me tell him how the suit goes on.
Sarah and Judy.
So what do you think the likelihood is that the defendant shipped those boots with the soles the way we saw them in court today?
0.
I totally agree. I think that the plaintiff thought it would help his case to have a little bit more destroyed of a costume than
drama.
Maybe it was, and doesn't look good for him.
Actually, I thought that what was sent, the boots were substantial. There's no question that he dislodged the soles from them before he came here. The belt was a really substantial belt. What he was complaining about was a piece of Velcro.
And it's a costume belt. Velcro comes off. The clasps
and you
come
put it
undone.
back on.
You just super glue it back on.
Absolutely right. There was clearly $1,000 worth of work that went into that costume and putting it together with the boots and the belt and the glove. It was really sort of outrageous that he didn't pay it. Anyway, made my life easy, besides the fact that he was a nudnik.
Case 2135, Coleman versus Washington. All parties, please step forward.
Koana Coleman is suing caretaker Jessica Washington for stolen money, travel costs, and elder abuse.
Miss Coleman, how old is your mother?
90.
Do you live with her?
I do.
How long have you been living with her?
3 years.
You're her primary caretaker?
Yes, ma'am.
She suffers from?
Dementia.
For how long?
I identified it in December of 2019. And I just stayed from that point on, sleeping on her couch.
At some point, you had to go out of town for a period of time.
Yes.
You hired the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you get to her?
My cousin Andrea was friends with her, and she said that she would be a great candidate.
Did you interview her?
I spoke with her later on. She came by the house, and...
What date did you first speak to her?
Maybe about a day or two before I left.
And on what date did you leave?
The 11th of August.
How long were you going to be away for?
About 7 days.
And tell me, Miss Washington, are you employed now?
Yes, I am.
By whom?
Well, I do self-employment, and I also have my own little business on the side as well, you know, caring for elderly people.
Okay. Did you have any special training for the care of the elderly?
I got my AED and my CPR. No, not really, because basically I've been just dealing with family members.
For how long?
I'm gonna say at least like 5 years.
And you had no special training for the care of the elderly? Okay, and did you explain that to the plaintiff?
She knew that.
Don't tell me what she knew. I didn't ask you what she knew.
Caption, coming up.
You left, and when you left, you took the $400 that you found.
Because the mother told me to.
You mean the mother with dementia and Alzheimer's who you stayed up with 4:30 in the morning told you to take the $400? Uh-huh.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Koana and Jessica.
Koana Coleman claims caretaker Jessica Washington stole money from her mother who suffers from dementia.
Okay. On what day were you supposed to report to take care of her mother?
August 11th.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Who was there?
It was Miss Coleman and her mother.
And the arrangement that you made with her was for 7 days, and you would be living with her mother.
For 7 days.
And what was she to pay you for the 7 days?
We never discussed a payment.
Well, this is what you were doing for a living, and you had jobs for the last 5 years. Is not an answer. Yes is the answer. And when you work for other people who you'll tell me about, what did you charge them?
I didn't really charge them anything. That's why I'm saying me and her never discussed a price, because she didn't know if I was going to charge her or not. Because I could have watched her mother for nothing, just because. That's family.
Okay. Well, this is what the case is about. You watched her mother for 1 day, and then you left. And according to her, her mother fell. When you left, after the 1 day, she had left $400, and you took the $400. That's what she says when you left. Your answer is that you earned that $400 in the 1 day. That's why you took it. You have a counterclaim because she has said to someone that what you did amounted to elder abuse. Now, you started on the 11th. Tell me when you left.
The date that I left was August 12th at 4:30 in the morning because I was put out.
Who put you out?
Her cousin Andrea, which is my godmother, because I called her to help me pick her mother up off the floor, which her cousin told me to leave.
No, you can't tell me what anybody else told you. Prior to 4:30 on the 12th, did Miss Coleman's mother suffer a fall?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And where did she fall?
She fell on the floor. She was sitting at the table where I was sitting at as well, too. I got up to use the bathroom.
At 4:30 in the morning?
We was up all night.
Could you tell me why?
Because she was waiting for her daughter to come back, because before her daughter left out the house, being as though that the lady has dementia and Alzheimer's, they think about the future, the past, and the present. She's thinking that her daughter is coming back because her daughter said, I will be right back. So that's why she sat up all night long. I was trying to put her to bed. She didn't want to go to bed, so I called.
Okay, so you were there from what time in the morning on the 11th?
I got there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on the 11th.
So you were there for a little less than 12 hours, right? You came at 5 o'clock in the afternoon,
on
and
the
at
11th.
4:30, and at 4:30 in the morning, you left.
I didn't actually leave. I was told to leave.
Well, but you left.
Yeah, and I didn't want to.
I don't care whether you wanted to or not. It's not particularly relevant whether you wanted to or not. I understand what happened. You left, and when you left, you took the $400 that you found.
Because the mother told me to.
You mean the mother with dementia and Alzheimer's?
Yes, her mother told me to.
Just a second. You mean the mother with dementia and Alzheimer's who you stayed up with 4:30 in the morning told you to take the $400? Okay. Now, you're suing her for a lot more than the $400 because she said you had to come home from your travel. She's not responsible for that. She has to return the $400 to you. You told me 2 minutes ago, Miss Washington, that you never discussed fee.
We did.
Because this is not a question and answer. You didn't even know whether you were going to charge her anything, because as far as you were concerned, it's family. Is not an answer. And you listened to the woman that you had been hired to care for because she has dementia and Alzheimer's and had fallen, and she said to you, take this $400, it's yours. What if she told you to take a piece of her jewelry? Would you have taken that?
No.
Yeah. You would have taken it because she gave it to you.
Because I'm not no thief. I wouldn't.
No, that's not what I'm telling you. You say that you took this $400 because this woman who can't make a judgment told you to take it. What if she said to you, I want you to have my pearls? Why not?
I'm not taking no jury because I have my own. I don't need her jury.
Okay, that's ridiculous. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. I'll take a look at the instance that you have on your counterclaim for slander when she says that you are guilty of elder abuse. What do you have to show me?
It's in a court order.
What do you mean it was in a court order?
It is. She went and filed elder's abuse on me, plus the traveling expenses, too. I have that court order.
Just a second. Is that what you're telling me? In her case against you for the $400 and for any other travel expenses, which I'm dismissing, that part of her claim, she said you were guilty of elder abuse. That's protected. Okay, your counterclaim's dismissed. We're done.
Court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Kawana.
I think the judge did a great job. I assumed that she would be able to deal with my mother. It's difficult being a caregiver, and we as people need to do much more to protect our elderly.
Sarah and Judy.
We've seen a couple of these cases, and it's so unfortunate to see the elderly, and whether they're ill or sick or mentally not capable of caring for themselves anymore, zero training that some of these people have to really care for them, and it's scary. We've seen it too many times, and $400 on the counter to someone to just take it for 12 hours worth of work.
You know, it's always struck me as a shame that society has and the government has created situations where you need licenses to do certain things. You need a license to tweeze someone's eyebrows. You have to be a cosmetologist, you have to have a license, you have to go to school, you have to pass an exam. You need a license to have a dog. But the most vulnerable people in the population, those people who, as she said, she didn't know whether her daughter was coming back or not coming back. She said she'd be right back, so she was waiting up for her. That vulnerable person, when it worked to the defendant's advantage, said, well, she was perfectly capable of saying to me,
take the money.
Take the money. Yeah. Terrible. Really frightening.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Your dog killed their bird in their house.
She literally was like chewing her up and like dropping her and like biting her again, you know? Everything was happening so fast.
The story has changed 2 or 3 times at this point. The story, it's sad.
Really?
This is Judy. Patricia Franchini and her husband Giovanni Nunez are suing their neighbor, Scott Elam, for the cost of a baby macaw bird.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy enters.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge.
Hello, Kevin.
Case 2194, Franchini Nunez versus Ellen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Nunez?
Yes.
Your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
You and Mr. Elam?
Elam, Your Honor.
Elam are neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have backyards that are joined, separated only by a fence.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of fence?
It looks plastic. I'm not sure.
Who has a picture of the fence?
Scott hands a document to Kevin.
And you each have, as would happen, dogs, same breed.
No, ma'am.
What do you have?
I have a Shetland sheepdog and a Dutch shepherd, ma'am.
And what do you have?
I have shepherd mixes.
How many dogs?
2, Your Honor.
And you have 2?
Yes, ma'am.
This is what the case is about. This is the fence. It's not a chain link fence. It's either a wooden or a plastic fence. And you can see that underneath this fence, there's a board here where I assume there's a hole because the dogs dig holes to get to each other. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Case is about an incident that occurred. You've been neighbors for a while, and you have had this dog digging also for a while. Also correct?
Yes, the defendant's dog.
Okay. This incident happened on the 16th of December, 2022. Yes. Why don't you tell me what happened?
I got up that morning to let my dogs out.
Both?
One dog. Okay, so the day started out, me and my husband woke up. My husband had to go get a tire fixed, so he took my smallest dog, my Shetland sheepdog, with him. I remained home with my 2 children.
Slowly. Okay.
Sorry.
How old are your kids?
They are 6 and 7, ma'am.
Okay.
I remained home with my children because they were ill, and I had an appointment with them later on that day. My husband went to go fix the tire at 8 a.m. I got up in the morning to let my dog out.
Got up in the morning to let your dog out?
Yes.
The shepherd mix?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I let her out, and then she came back in, and I was cleaning, and my 2 children were in my master suite with my macaw, Penelope.
Okay. That's what the case about. This case about a macaw.
Yes,
the
ma'am.
cost of a macaw.
Yes.
Which is a bird.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
My kids were in the master suite. I opened the door. I'm out there cleaning. I let my dog out of my...
And the dog came back.
Sliding door. She came back. Well, then she stayed by the door. Now, none of my windows have curtains, so I can...
Just a second. So then, but she stayed by the door, but she was inside?
She came back inside. I shut the door. This was 20 minutes went by. She's by the door. She's crying. I told her we would play later. I assumed she had to go to the restroom again, and I let her out again. She stood on the step, but she didn't go further than that, and she was just kind of staring out. From the left side of the house is where the defendant's dog, Bella, charged in my home. And then when I tried to grab her...
When you say his dog, Bella,
yes,
came into the side and ran into the house, that doesn't... Somehow, if the dog, Bella, came out and your dog was on the step, it would seem to me it would stop on the step at first to sniff, play with your dog if your dog is sitting outside. I mean, I have dogs. Would go over to that dog first, not run into your house.
You would think that, ma'am, but she's been in our house 3 times before this because I had to return her to the defendant on 3 separate occasions. And she didn't do that day. When she came in the backyard on the 3 other instances, I remember the very first time someone from that household came to my door, and I knew the dog was in my backyard, but I didn't open my door. I left her back there. I figured they'd come. They did. And I said, hold on a second. I put my kids, I put my Sheltie in the room with my bird, and I shut the door.
Are we talking about the same date,
ma'am.
December?
We're talking about other days that I brought.
Okay, let's not go on tributaries.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your dog's name?
Lucy.
Lucy. So the dog just went straight into your house. And what did Lucy do?
Lucy charged after her and tried to attack her.
Okay, so the dog has been in your house before. Have there been incidents with the 2 dogs?
No, ma'am. The defendant's dog is submissive to my dog. So the only time I brought the dog in my home was when I shut all the doors to all my bedrooms. Someone from the defendant's home came, I opened up the front door, brought her in, and she went straight out because there was nowhere else for her to go.
Okay, so it's your dog that is Lucy is the more aggressive dog.
Lucy's never been aggressive with her. I believe that Lucy was aggressive with her that day because of the way she came in the house.
When you say Lucy was aggressive, what did she do?
She started growling at her, and she started...
In the house?
Yes.
Now they're in the house. Put a period there. We have the 2 dogs in your house.
Yes.
And they are growling at each other. So that's not a happy picture because they're big dogs.
Yes.
Now let's get to the bird. You purchased a macaw.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a photograph of what they look like?
Yes.
When did you purchase the macaw?
I purchased her with payments over time. I completed the purchase at the end of September 30th.
This is the macaw.
Yes, ma'am. That's my
A parrot.
Yes, ma'am.
In December, how old was she?
She was going to be 8 months.
And how much did you pay for her?
I paid $4,320.08 for Penelope.
Okay, can I see the bill?
Absolutely, ma'am. Her birth certificate along
She's
with
beautiful.
all of the...
Pretty bird.
Thank you, ma'am.
Patricia weeps. Caption, coming up.
She bolted in my master suite where my kids were.
Lucy?
No, Bella.
Bella.
Bella did. And I went in there, like, I heard my kids screaming, Bella is killing Penelope.
And later today.
Is there something wrong with your mind?
No.
Did you just say to me, am I crazy? Did he say he owed back child support?
Yes.
To her?
Yes.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Patricia, Giovanni, and Scott.
Patricia Franchini claims her neighbor, Scott Ellum, owes for the cost of a baby macaw bird killed by Scott's dog.
Tell me what got you interested in the macaw.
Earlier this year, full disclosure, ma'am, ended up in the hospital very sick for 2 weeks, and I was going through a lot, and I started volunteering at the bird store down by my home, and I really liked the Hans macaw because my grandma had one when she was younger.
Slowly.
Yes, ma'am. And so I spent a lot of time bonding with the birds there, and my husband and I thought it would be good and therapeutic for me, given what I had been going through.
Okay, now the 2 dogs are in your house, sort of fighting with each other.
They did not fight, ma'am. I did not
Well,
allow them to.
growling.
Yes, ma'am.
Growling at each other. And tell me what happened with Bella and the macaw.
I tried to calm Lucy down, and my master door was open. Everything was happening so fast. I know I'm describing it slowly, but it was quick. She bolted in my master suite where my kids were.
Lucy?
No, Bella.
Bella.
Bella did. I heard my kids screaming, Bella is killing Penelope. And
that's the bird?
Yes. And I tried to get to Bella. I couldn't. My dog was standing in between us. And while I was with the 2 dogs, then my son thought, oh, I'm going to go get her. And that's when Bella kind of snapped at him, and she scratched him. And so then I couldn't get her. I couldn't. She literally was like chewing her up and like dropping her and like biting her again, you know? And it wasn't until my Dutch Shepherd bit her on the nose that she finally let her go, and I swooped and I grabbed her. I booked it to my pantry in my kitchen with my kids, and Lucy stayed in front of the door, and I have a door on it, and I just stayed in there, and I called my husband, and I was screaming on the phone. He got home maybe, I don't know how long, it probably really only was like 5 or 10 minutes, but it felt like forever. She was like
and where
dying
was
in my
Bella
arms.
during this time?
Bella was around the pantry with the bird in her mouth. And then I took the bird from Bella, and then I put her to the cage, and then Lucy just stayed by the parrot. And then I opened the door and talked to the kids. They were all hysterical, and I was trying to understand what she was saying.
Where was Bella?
Bella was in the kitchen with a parrot.
And how did Bella get back to the defendant?
I walked her over.
How did you do that?
Kind of like how a mother pup grabs him by the neck. I grabbed her by the neck and I walked her over.
Okay, your dog killed their bird in their house. And?
Your Honor, the hole that allowed Bella to get into their backyard was primarily dug by their dog over the course of many, many months.
And?
I continued to repair my side of the fence. Their dog continued to dig the hole, destroyed wood that I had put there. The dog got through. In that story, it's sad, but that's not the story that he gave to my wife when he came pounding on my door.
Well, you can't tell me what he said to your wife, sir.
Okay, that's fair, Your Honor. I can tell you what he said to me. I called him.
You can tell me what he said to you.
Instantly?
Just you have to understand, he wasn't home when your dog got into the house. He came home at the end of the episode. Do you understand that?
I understand that.
Okay. Understanding that, you can tell me your version of what he said to you.
What they both said to me. I've had conversations with the both of them since this has happened.
Okay.
The story has changed 2 or 3 times. First, it was she was doing something in the backyard and Bella just came charging in and basically knocked her out of the way, got inside. The first story was, I assumed the entire time that he was home, because when he was talking to me over the phone...
I don't care what you assumed. He wasn't home when it started. Your problem, sir, is, first of all, you were aware of the hole. I don't care who dug it. You were aware of it. And it's not the first time that the dog has gone onto their property. Has their dog got onto your property?
No, because I fixed my side of it. I take care
so
of
the answer is no.
Correct.
Who do you live in your house with?
My wife and my children.
How old are your children?
I have a 1-year-old. I have a 7-year-old.
Let us say it's their fault that the hole existed that allowed your dog to get out. But you were aware of it because it had happened before that they had to bring your dog back. That a fair statement?
That's fair, yes.
Okay. Let us assume that it was your dog that was responsible for the hole. And their dog, despite the fact that yours was a better digger, you know, having dogs and having a fence, they both dig at the same place. They may not have fixed their side, but they both dig at the same place, trying to get to each other. Whose fault do you think it would be if their dog created the major part of the hole, got into your yard, and bit your 1-year-old? Whose fault would that be?
I think it would be equally our faults.
Really?
Absolutely, yeah.
Really?
For digging, for not taking care of your property, absolutely.
Really? I actually find that answer sort of bizarre.
I would take responsibility if my child got hurt due to something that I didn't take care of. Absolutely, I would.
Well, you may feel guilty about it, but you would certainly want them to pay all of your child's medical bills.
No, I would not.
Well, then you're a better person than the law is, sir, because your dog was outside of your control, clearly, because it got into their house. It was something that you were aware was a possibility, no matter who dug the hole, so you were aware because it had happened before, and your dog caused damage. And the damage your dog caused, and I'm putting the emotional distress, these 2 young children and the plaintiff, seeing your dog kill this bird that they had been paying off so much per month for a very long time. Putting aside that, they paid $4,300 for this property that your dog destroyed. And that's your fault. You're responsible for that. So if, because of this problem, and your dog has a problem, and their dog has not come onto your property, but your dog comes onto their property, then you have to say, you know what? I'm not letting my dog go out unsupervised because it has created trouble in the past. May have been their fault because they didn't fill in the hole as quickly or as carefully as you did. But you knew that that happened, and you're responsible for the damage. It would be no different than if the dog ran inside, and as she was trying to get the dog bit her, and she had to have surgery, and she had to have a plastic surgeon deal with reconstruction. Who do you think would be responsible for that? That would be you. And just because it's a poor little bird that happened to be the victim of this doesn't make you any less responsible. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,300. We're finished.
Court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Patricia, then Scott.
I feel like it was justice for Penelope.
When a homeowner doesn't take care of their property and someone lets another dog in their house, they shouldn't be blaming other people for that.
It was extremely difficult to hear my kids screaming like that and do nothing to calm them down.
The judge's ruling is the judge's ruling.
I hope that he never gets another pet again.
I don't think there's gonna ever be a relationship, which is totally fine by me.
Sarah and Judy.
One of the most interesting things about that case is I don't think that the defendant's dog, Bella, was a quote-unquote aggressive dog. But I didn't get a hint that the other dog was even aggressive, even by the fact that the husband was able to walk her back by the scruff of the neck. If that was an aggressive dog, they would just turn right around and give you a nice little snap. So that says to me that although the dog didn't obviously do it on purpose, what are you going to do? But you're responsible as a defendant. You let your dog out. It's a act that's happened more than once. You were on notice.
Dog is out of your control. You're responsible. That's the bottom line.
Case 2202, Young versus Buchanan. All parties, please come forward.
Essie Young is suing her granddaughter's father, Keith Buchanan, for an unpaid loan she gave him for a car.
Judy.
Miss Young, the defendant is married to your daughter?
No.
He is the father of your grandchild?
Yes.
Do he and your daughter live together?
No.
Where does your daughter live?
In Maple Shade.
Were they ever married?
No.
They have one child?
Yes.
Who's 12?
Yes.
Did you live together with Miss Young's daughter?
Well, at one point, she lived with me in Maple Shade.
How long ago?
This was 2010, 2011.
You mean when your daughter was a baby?
Yes.
How long have you had custody of your granddaughter?
11 years. My daughter never stayed with him.
I don't know that. He says she did.
Yeah, but she did.
Caption, coming up.
So she got that money that he owed her for child support, for taking care of his daughter, and he wrote that off of the loan. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Essie and Keith.
Essie Young claims her granddaughter's father, Keith Buchanan, refuses to pay back a loan she gave him for a car.
This is a very simple case, because I don't have to get into the history of why you have custody of your granddaughter.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan, according to you, asked you for a loan to buy a car.
Yes.
When was that?
Before he got it, he was calling every day.
Did you maintain a relationship with him?
Yes and no.
Would he visit his daughter?
No.
Ever?
Once in a blue moon.
Okay.
I usually have to take my granddaughter to see him.
Okay. It was sort of odd to me if he was never married to your daughter, so they didn't have a formalized relationship. They don't live together now. Why would you loan him? I know that you did.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you loan him money?
My granddaughter.
Except you're a very nice person.
My granddaughter asked me to. She said, "Grandma, would you please help my dad?" I told her I really don't want to. And she said, "Could you please do it for me?"
Oh, different story.
Yes, and then I said, okay.
Okay, so you discussed with your daughter during one of these visits that you needed money to buy a car?
No, never did.
You never did?
No.
Who is this person?
That's my wife.
Does she work?
Yes.
Do you work?
Yes.
Well, why would you ask your daughter's grandmother, who takes care of her, who's always taken care of her? You don't, neither does her mother. Why would you not ask your wife's family? You both work, take out a loan. Why would you go to her and ask her for money?
But it was a situation that happened and I lost my previous car. I contacted Essie, I talked to Essie.
No, I'm asking you why you would ask her. What would prompt you to call her? Doesn't she have parents?
Yes, you do. I did that, and at the time they couldn't help.
So you went to her parents first?
I went to her family first. They said, sorry, they can't help at the time. So Mrs. Young was my last resource, which I didn't want to use, but at the time I had to use it because I had no other choice. I had to hurry up and get a vehicle.
Well, why didn't you take out a loan?
Actually, I couldn't.
What do you mean you couldn't?
Because my credit's not all that great. I tried to take out loans. I tried to go.
Does your wife have a car?
Yes, she has a car.
Okay, why don't you use her car?
She worked. I work an hour and a half away from home, and she worked too, and we worked around the same time.
How much money did you borrow from her?
$2,000.
How much did you give back?
$912.
$912. Show me.
Keith hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy.
On page 4, May 5th, 2022, she got $912.
From what?
From my taxes. We agreed on once I filed my taxes, I would give her $2,000 for my taxes. She got $912 from them, that same taxes, because I owed backup child support. So she got on top of my regular payment for child support plus $912.
What? Is there something wrong with your mind?
No.
Did you just say to me, am I crazy? Did he say he owed back child support?
Yes.
And so she got that money that he owed her for child support, for taking care of his daughter, and he wrote that off of the loan. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Oh my God. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Well, not ever. I should take that back. It's the dumbest thing I've heard today.
Sarah nods.
If you owed her back child support, how much did you owe her?
Only owed her $900.
In back child support?
Yes.
Okay.
That I fully forgot.
Just a second. You owed her that money. In addition to owing her that money, you owed her $2,000. Do you understand that? So you owed her $900 plus $2,000. Are you not following me? Am I getting something wrong here?
I'm with you.
Are you following that? That's either a yes or a no.
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, I'm going to repeat it again. What you said was they took money out of your taxes for back child support, $900. So that means you paid her $900 of the $2,000. That's what your argument is.
Yes.
Am I getting that?
Yes.
You already owed her the $900.
I had no awareness that I owed her $900. When I found out that $900 got taken out the taxes, I had no tax coming back. I was like, look, you got $900. You're going to have to give me time. And that's when it went south.
Oh, you got $900 that I owed you anyway. Now I need more time. Oh, my God. How is your granddaughter in school? She do okay?
Yes, she
does
well.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay. Either his math skills or his moral skills are somehow lacking.
It's the moral.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Essie, then Keith.
I think the judge seen right through him.
He was going to be miserable, so I just let him be miserable.
No one thinks like that.
As long as she go about her life, I go about my life, leave my family alone.
I just think he was hustling me.
Only contact me when he got something to do with my daughter, that's it.
I don't want anything to do with him either.
Sarah and Judy.
So initially, I may have been a little lost. It took me some time to get there. But I thought that what the defendant was saying was that he was expecting $2,000 on his tax returns. So he told plaintiff, when I get it, I'll repay you the $2,000. And then in his mind, when the $900 left the account, he didn't know that that was not going to be there for the back child support. So he only had, the $900 and change left to give her. I was like, okay, that makes sense. He thought that it would be the full $2,000. Come to find out, he thinks that the back child support is what fulfills his
loan
obligation, which wasn't even the full amount, not even half. And all to someone that has been raising your child for 12 years.
He's probably worse at math than I am.
Title, Judy Justice.
Have you been cheated? Go to judyjustice.tv.
He said, Dad, I have no place to go.
He fed you. He kept a roof over your head, and you weren't working.
Yes, ma'am.
And the girlfriend wasn't working.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm quickly losing patience with two ingrates.
This is 19-year-old Kaya Eliasoff and Brandon Blanchard are suing Brandon's father, William Blanchard, for unpaid wages, property damage, and stolen belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy enters.
Have a seat, everyone.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Hello, Gus. Case number 2028, Eliasoff Blanchard versus Blanchard.
Thank you, Kevin.
Welcome.
Eliasoff?
Yes, ma'am.
That's you. How old are you?
19, almost 20.
19.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do?
I am a server.
Since when?
As of June of this year.
This is your boyfriend?
A fiance, yes, ma'am.
Fiance. And how long has he been your fiance?
For over a year.
What does he do for a living?
He is currently unemployed.
When was the last time he had a job?
That was about a year ago.
What kind of work did he do a year ago?
Warehouse work.
Is there any reason that he hasn't worked in a year?
He has concussions and back injuries. And
from what?
From car accidents.
Does he currently have any lawsuits pending with regard to those accidents?
No, ma'am.
So the accidents were your fault?
No, they were the other people's faults.
The other people had no
Sorry,
insurance?
the other person didn't have insurance at the time. So later on, he ended up stating that he did have insurance and got out of the ticket.
Do you see a doctor regularly?
Not anymore, no. I used to, though, until I ran out of my insurance for health insurance. And then the bill just kept stacking up on me.
At that time, did you have an attorney?
No, Your Honor.
Did you ever have an attorney with regard to, did you ever consult an attorney with regard to these accidents? No.
No.
Okay, fine. Is there any reason why you're not working?
Yes, ma'am. I have bad back problems that I've had for quite some time. I have 4 discs out in my lower back. I also have knee injuries, shoulder injuries. I was pushing my body more than I should have been. I was over 300 pounds working in a heated environment, working every day. And I dropped all the weight, and then I ended up hurting myself even further from there. And then my doctor told me not to do anything over 20 pounds, so I went against her rules, and I did it anyways, and I kept injuring myself.
What kind of work does your father do?
He works as a U-Haul business associate and mechanic as well.
When did you live with your father?
I lived with my father in January, I believe it was 8th.
January of what year?
Of 2022, sorry.
After you have been disabled all this time because of all the heavy work?
Yes.
Let me give a general outline of what this case is about.
Yes, ma'am.
You and your fiancée were living where?
We were living with my father.
No, before you lived with your father.
My father.
Her father.
In what state?
Wyoming.
There come a time when your father either said it's enough or you decided that you were no longer happy in Wyoming?
It was a conflict with his girlfriend that came about.
Whatever it was. If it was a conflict with his girlfriend, your father told you to skedaddle.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And you called your father.
No, I didn't call my father.
Who did?
My father called me.
You mean just out of the blue?
Yeah, he does it at random once in a
No.
while.
He just called you at about the same time that your fiancé's father told you to get out.
Yes, is what I believe. Anyways, I've had a few concussions, Your Honor, and I don't remember a lot.
Okay, we're going to get there. In any event, you had a discussion with your father that you didn't have a place to live, you didn't have a job, she didn't have a job, you had no money. Her father was kicking you out of the house, and he drove cross-country to get you.
Yes, ma'am.
In what month?
It was in January.
January of 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
How many miles did he drive to come and get you?
I think 1,000 miles, maybe.
Each way?
Each way, probably about 2,000 total, something like that.
Okay, so he drove 2,000 miles to come and get you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then he brought you back to his house.
Yes, ma'am.
And you weren't working.
Yes, ma'am.
And the girlfriend wasn't working.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you weren't working, the girlfriend wasn't working, you had no money, so your father was taking care of your expenses.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. And now you're suing him. And you're suing him for a host of things, which I'm going to give you a relatively short time to tell me about. But one of the things that your girlfriend, fiancé says is that your father owes you for wages because you worked for him.
Yes, ma'am.
Doing what?
I was doing U-Haul work, basically.
What is U-Haul work?
Oh, sorry. I'll explain. Sorry, ma'am. Basically, what we do.
Not basically. I don't want to hear basically.
Sorry,
I want to hear what you were doing.
I would hook up U-Hauls. I would also clean and inspect all the vehicles.
Just a second. Hook up the U-Hauls.
Hook up the U-Hauls.
Clean and inspect them.
Clean and inspect them.
What does it involve in cleaning them?
Basically spraying down.
Not basically.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry. We spray down all the.
Not we. You.
Yeah. Sorry. I spray down every single surface of the innards of the vehicle, basically the steering wheel, the floor plates, the radio, everything.
And when you hook them up, explain how you hook something up.
How I hook something up is just backing up, lining up with axle.
So you'd have to drive?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're driving a car and backing up?
Yes, ma'am. And
so,
then,
you're using a rear view mirror?
Yes.
And yourself? You're looking to see where you're backing up because you have to use both?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then you hook them. Well, what else did you do for your father?
I also did paperwork for him, doing like inventory stocks and stuff like that.
Terrific.
Basically.
Not basically. I don't want to hear basically. Basically is a filler word.
Sorry, ma'am. What else was I doing? I would sweep, clean up his shop. I would do a lot of things.
Okay, all while you were unable to do anything else.
Yes, ma'am. I would.
Just a second.
What were you saying?
After your back issues, after your concussions, after whatever other injuries that you had from working someplace. By the way, you don't have a lawsuit pending against anybody, do you?
No, ma'am.
So it's just a question of fetching, other than maybe trying to collect a disability somewhere along the line from the federal government. You were able to hook up U-Hauls, clean them and sanitize them, sweep out the premises, do paperwork, but you can't work. I mean, because part of the lawsuit is about all this work that you did. But all while you're telling me that you're unemployable because of all the injuries that you had.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okie dokie. You understand how ridiculous that sounds to me.
Yes.
I only had one other case in my recent memory that sounded anywhere familiar to this story, and that was a man that was also receiving disability because he had a bad back. He was the plaintiff in a lawsuit suing someone because he had built them an outdoor patio deck alone, and he wasn't paid the $6,000 for it. But he had been collecting disability for a back ailment for 31 years from the federal government. That sound odd to you?
Yeah.
Well, doesn't it sound odd to you that you're able to put hookups together and sweep and everything else, but you can't say, do you want a hamburger with your fries or fries with a burger?
Yes, ma'am.
That sounds peculiar to you. Right. So I don't want to hear about work. Okay, that's the first thing. And you lived in your father's house for how long, by the way?
I think we only lived there for the first month, and then we ended up getting moved out to a camper for like the last bit of the, I think, 2 months that we were there.
I don't know what you're suing for. You want to tell me?
Caption, coming up.
I don't want to see any pictures of what? Of the truck?
The parts that were missing.
I don't care. I don't care. After 2 weeks, he could burn that truck. It's on his property without his permission. Let's go.
And later today.
That you said perfectly. I would ask her for $50 or $100, and she would lend me that. Is that the word she used?
She would lend me money and vice versa.
Thank you.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Kaya, Brandon, and William.
19-year-old Kaya Eliasov and Brandon Blanchard claim Brandon's father, William Blanchard, owes for unpaid wages and stolen property. William is countersuing for moving expenses and property damage.
Now, I'm not entertaining your wages because you can't work. That's what he just swore to. He can't work. That's why he's unemployed. He has 4 disc problems. I think he said 4, whatever. He can't work. Forget him now. I want you to tell me what you're suing this man who drove 2,000 miles to rescue you after your father threw you out. I want you to tell me what you think he owes you for.
For the stolen property of my vehicle.
What stolen property of your vehicle?
He stole my toolbox with the key with it and also parts that went to my vehicle.
Did you take her toolbox?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Next. What's next?
Whenever I confronted him about it.
About what?
About the toolbox when we went to go get my truck, then he would say what he just said, that he never took it. But when I asked him where did the key go for it, he denied he would just ignore that fact.
Well, it's not a fact. It's not a fact unless you can prove that he took your property. You said he just said to you, I don't have your toolbox.
But my vehicle was on his property, in his possession.
Okay, and that's what you have. Your vehicle, while you were living there, was on his property, and therefore he's responsible for the toolbox.
Yes, ma'am. When he kicked us out and then told us to come back for the truck, he was going to give us 2 weeks to have it towed.
Because the truck wasn't working, but he let the truck stay on his property for 2 weeks.
Yes.
What else are you suing him for?
Just for the repairs on the vehicle.
On what vehicle?
On my truck. That whenever I went to go get the truck off his property after that 2 weeks, that's when the toolbox was missing, and I also looked under the hood, and there was wires hanging out, and those wires, I do have pictures.
So just a second. Let me ask you this question. You said, you said he gave you 2 weeks to come and get your truck off his property. The truck was inoperable when you left it on his property. Wasn't running.
No, ma'am.
That's right. You did not come to get it off his property in 2 weeks. You came after the 2 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
How much after the 2 weeks?
I think just like a couple days after. We came back on April 23rd and we left the property April 6th.
So it was after the 2 weeks?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, let's get there fast because I'm quickly losing patience with 2 ingrates.
Here's the pictures.
I don't want to see any pictures of what? Of the truck?
The parts that were missing.
I don't care. I don't care. After 2 weeks, he could burn that truck. It's on his property without his permission. Let's go. Move on. Your father came 2,000 miles to get you. He fed you for a month. He kept a roof over your head for a month. In return, you're suing him for nonsense. Let us move on.
Yes, Your Honor.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Very good. Okay. Now, Mr. Blanchard.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a countersuit that actually you wouldn't have brought now because you didn't have an agreement with your son and his fiancée when you went to get him. How many children do you have?
8 altogether.
Prior to going to get him cross-country, when had you seen him?
Been several years.
Tell me about the conversation when he contacted you.
He said, Dad, I have no place to go. we can try to stay with her grandmother. I offered, said, I'll come get you if you have no place to go.
And then?
Within a week, I dropped everything to go get him.
Now, when your son and his fiancée came to you, sir, did you put him to work in your business?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long was he in your business?
Altogether, maybe less than 90 days.
Did he work in your business after they moved out of your house? He says they only lived in your house for 30 days.
They were in the house 45 days, and then they were left another 45 days inside of a camper.
Can you tell me why they moved into a camper?
There was a chance of my daughter coming home, and they were living in her room at the time. And so I wanted to make sure they still had something, so I put them into a camper.
Camper on your property?
Yes, Your Honor.
What kind of camper?
Small camper. It had
So they
power.
used the inside of the house to shower and
Yes, Your Honor.
stuff, but they slept in the camper?
Yes, Your Honor.
All true?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And he paid for the camper, he paid for the electricity, water, et cetera, when you were in now. She wasn't working. Did he also pay for the food? Did you eat in the house or did you eat in the camper?
No, ma'am. We were getting food stamps. So we paid for our own food. And we also helped them with their food as well.
Why were you getting food stamps?
For the short bit of time because he recommended to get on food stamps.
Had you been on food stamps when you lived in Wyoming?
No, ma'am.
Okay, how did you support yourself there?
I was working at the time.
And what about him?
A driving company, basically, we go around, pick up food from places and
So
deliver.
you were able to drive?
Yes.
Oh.
For only a little bit.
With
Your
all
Honor.
those injuries? Amazing. Okay, I would like you to testify, sir, now to the conversation that you had with your son with regard to compensation for coming to pick him up in Wyoming. Be very careful what you say to me.
I told my son before I picked him up, I said, you need to pay me back for this trip.
Did you tell him what for the trip? I mean,
Yes,
your
for all
time?
expenses. All expenses for the trip.
For the expenses?
Yes, Your Honor.
How was he supposed to do that? He wasn't working.
He was supposed to get a nighttime job on top of working, helping me out around my shop.
Did he help you around your shop?
He
You said
did.
about 90 days. Did you pay him?
No, Your Honor.
Well, if he worked for you for 90 days and you didn't pay him at all, and it cost you a couple of $1,000s, according to you,
Yes, Your Honor.
to go out and get him, hire trucks, spend time back, whatever it was, and he worked for you for 90 days without compensation, why do you think he did that?
I was hoping just because that's what he really wanted to do.
No good deed goes unpunished. You went and you got him, and now they're suing you, but their case is dismissed. They have no case against you. It's all a bunch of nonsense and ridiculous. But likewise, sir, your counterclaim is for the expenses that you incurred in going to pick them up. I don't actually think that there was an agreement to pay you back for your expenses, but even if there was an agreement to pay you back for your expenses, the fact that he worked for 90 days without any compensation, I think, more than compensates you for that. As a result of that, your counterclaim as well is dismissed. We're finished here.
This court is adjourned.
You try to do your best for your kids whenever you can. This is no different.
It's been very difficult growing up.
I hope he gets his life together.
I don't want anything to do with him.
I'll always be there for him.
It's time to cut the strings. I'm done with him.
That young man sounded as if he was intelligent. That doesn't mean he was smart. That means he was intelligent. Because at age 19 or 20, to have already figured out that you can't work because you have a bad back unless you really have to work. If you really have to work, then you can work for your father. That's a bad mindset for a very young person. That means that your life is really going nowhere. You're not preparing yourself to do anything.
And to take it a step further and to sue the only person that was there for you in a time when you needed them.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Case number 2059, Dobson versus Jones, Poindexter. All parties, please step forward.
Clarissa Dobson is suing her sister-in-law, Kenesha Jones Poindexter, for a trip and wedding expenses.
Judy.
Miss Dobson, I assume this is your brother.
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
And this is his wife.
That is correct.
They're newly married.
That's correct.
When were they married?
June of 2021, June 26th.
Were you at the wedding?
Yes, I was. I was in the wedding.
Wedding at your house?
Wedding was at my home.
This is the unfortunate circumstance that I read in your papers, which I hope to be able to resolve quickly. You've known the defendant for many, many years.
Yes, that's correct.
She became engaged too when she was getting married, and they were planning a wedding, according to you. And Miss Poindexter, according to you, asked you to lay out certain monies for her for the wedding.
That's correct.
They were married. It was a joyous day, I gather. And then you asked her for the money back.
Yes, that's correct.
And she said, I never agreed to pay you any money. We're family. I've done things for you. You've done things for me. There was never an agreement for me to pay you. And your brother He said, leave me out of this.
Yep.
I don't want to get involved with this. You two ladies take care
That's
of it
exactly
on
what he
your own.
said.
Okay, well, it seems like a family matter, then more like a court matter.
Caption coming up.
I don't see
taking her for her
stupid
word.
written over here.
No.
If somebody doesn't have $50 and you think I believe that you relied on her statement that I'm going to pay you for this trip that your brother is going on too, I don't believe it.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Clarissa and Kenesha.
Clarissa Dobson claims her sister-in-law, Kenesha Jones Poindexter, is responsible for trip costs and wedding expenses.
You have your own home.
Yes, that's correct.
Tell me about your home.
Nice home, got a lot of land around the property.
How much?
I would say probably a half an acre, which was big enough to put up 2 large tents, 45 guest tables, chairs, the mayor, some police. It was nice.
And there were certain things that you paid for.
Yes, that's correct.
You paid for a photographer?
Yes, that's correct.
How much?
The photographer was $300, Your Honor.
Okay, what else did you pay for?
Because the party was held at the home, the wedding, excuse me, all the events pertaining to the wedding party had to take place at the home.
Like what?
So like when we had our bridal shower meetings, because also Miss...
Oh, you mean the meetings to plan the wedding?
Right, to plan the wedding.
I'm not interested in
You're
that.
not interested in that?
I'm not interested in that. Yeah, so far we have $300 for a photographer that you say you laid out. Did she lay out that money?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, what else?
Her rides back and forth.
I'm not interested in her rides back.
Well, how was she going to get there? She's in Philadelphia. I'm in New Jersey.
$300 for a photographer. What else?
And just money she asked to borrow for the most part throughout the wedding.
Just a second.
So we have...
How much and when? So far, $300 for a photographer.
So on January 20th, Your Honor, we have $150.
For what?
She didn't say what it was for. It was for the wedding, though, because I have it here. Everything wedding is here.
Well, did she ask you for this $150 on the phone, in person?
She asked for it, like, over the phone, but then I sent the money, too. So anything that I sent to her, I always sent to her through Cash App because she's in Philadelphia, no car.
Okay. Then let me ask Ms. Poindexter. Ms. Poindexter, there would be no other reason for Ms. Dobson to send money to you through a Cash App during the wedding period other than for the wedding. Would that be accurate?
Not in January, Your Honor. We didn't start planning our wedding until 90 days before June. So anything that happened in January had nothing to do with my wedding.
Okay. Do you have Cash App statements before January?
I have nothing before January.
She has nothing before.
I have everything
Only
from
after.
January on.
Only after. So that would be for the wedding.
We didn't start planning our wedding until about March. We got married in June.
So what would she be sending you money for?
It has been times, I'm sorry, it has been times when I'll ask her for, let me get $50 or, it has been times if I didn't have it or I might have needed a car fare or something, and she would do that. She would lend me money and vice versa.
No, I'm not talking about vice versa. I don't have a counterclaim. That you said perfectly. I would ask her for $50 or $100 and she would lend me that. Is that the word she used? Let's make sure I heard that right.
She says, it has been times when I'll ask her for, let me get $50 or, there has been times. And you asked her why. She said if I didn't have it or I need a car fare or something, and she would do that. She would lend me money and vice versa.
Thank you. Lend me money. So, okay, now we're going to get to Ms. Dobson. Yes. How much money did you send her via Cash App? Because she's already just acknowledged that those were loans.
So, 150, 100.
Let me have the dates.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's go back. 150 on what date?
January 20th.
Okay, 100 on what date?
February 11th.
Next.
March 8th, $50.
Okay.
April 4th, $100. May 11th, $20. May 17th, $25. May 22nd, $205. 15 on May 25th. May 28th, $45. June 3rd, $15. And I had a February 28th in here for $50. That was the first one, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had February 11th only, so you have another...
Right, a February 28th for $50.
Can I see all of those?
Yes, ma'am. Here you go.
Clarissa hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews them.
Okay. Sarah Rose, would you fix that up for me? Okay, and you, based upon the read back and based upon what I thought I heard, anytime she sent you money, it was because you ran out of money, you were in a bind, and she loaned you the money. That's what was here. Okay. So you have
$775.
$775. Has she paid you back any of that money?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, the photographer. I want you to tell me how it came about that you paid the photographer.
Because Miss Jones/Poindexter was waiting on unemployment to hit. And I'm not saying she wasn't trying to get the money up, because she was. But when the time came, this photographer guy needed to get paid, she didn't have the money.
Want to tell me about the photographer?
Yes, the photographer, I believe I was short like $300 some odd, and Clarissa did put the rest of the money.
Why didn't you pay her the $775?
I don't believe I owe Clarissa.
Well, you just told her that she loaned you the money when you were short, and she wired it to you or did whatever they do in a cash app. I don't understand all of that. You said it was a loan. Is there any reason why you didn't pay her back? No. Okay. So far I have $775 and $300. Next.
Okay, so now we have the trip. They are the godparents of my twins. Yeah, Anna, we were inseparable.
Okay,
So,
they're the godparents of your twins, your twins.
came time for their birthday. She said...
Month and year?
April of last year, 2021.
Okay, April of 2021.
Right. So in the process of planning the twins' birthday, Miss Jones-Poindexter said, oh, I would like to go. I'm just waiting on the unemployment, pandemic money, all that to hit. When it came time to go, they didn't have the money.
You're talking about the defendant and your brother. Yeah. They both went.
Right, so...
Just a second, they both went.
They both went, that's correct.
And what kind of work does your brother do?
He was a chef at the time.
So he was working?
Yes.
And she wasn't working?
Yes. Can I say something?
You can say whatever you want to say. You know where I'm going, don't you?
I know where you're going.
Okay.
Like I said, we were inseparable, right?
I don't care. I don't care about the social aspect of this.
Okay, but certain things she just didn't want to let him know she was doing, because at the end of the day, she thought she was going to get this money.
Miss Dobson, I don't care whether you say she didn't know what she was doing. You were already in a place where on January 20th, she didn't have $150, so you sent it to her. On February 11th, she didn't have $100, you sent it to her. On March 8th, she didn't have $50. You had to send it to her. So I don't see stupid written over here.
No.
If somebody doesn't have $50 and you think I believe that you relied on her statement that I'm going to pay you for this trip that your brother is going on too because his godchildren are celebrating a birthday, I don't believe it. So let's just forget a trip. $775 is what she says she owes you because she says it was a loan. $300 for the photographer. You have the pictures?
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't hear anything from you suggesting to me that this $300 was a gift.
I honestly did believe that she was doing it for our wedding.
Okay, good. $1075, judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
So, Your Honor, what about my
adjourned.
That's it.
It's just a sad situation all the way around.
That's probably how she feels right now.
I love my sister-in-law.
She loves me and I love her. So what?
Honestly, I just want to be able to see my godkid.
I'm sure we'll be all right.
It's always unfortunate and sad when nice occasion turns sour by one thing.
Yeah.
And I thought the brother/husband was
The smartest one.
The smartest one. I'm staying out of this between my sister and my wife.
Yep. The safest place he could be was right where he sat. Just unfortunate. I mean, families squabble all the time, but just to bring it into a legal system, there are ramifications for that, that sometimes your anger or emotions can get the better of you.
That's true.
But to take it to a filing stage and to use the court system, that's just a next level that I feel like most family members don't need or shouldn't do.
Yeah, you're right.
Title, Judy Justice.
Are you having a family dispute? Go to judyjustice.com.
See your right hand.
I'm moving my arm as I walk.
That is a lie.
Somebody else was keying his car in the back.
Yes.
This is a lie.
He yelled at me. It's very unnerving.
That was a lie.
If you say again it's a lie, I'm going to dismiss your case. Do you understand that?
This is Zachary Martin. He's suing his neighbor, Nancy Morrell, for property damage after his car was vandalized.
Judge Judy enters.
Court come to order. All rise.
She takes her seat behind the bench.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge. Case 2151, Martin versus Morrell.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Martin, you and the defendant are neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been neighbors?
Moved into the subdivision in 2019.
That's how long you've been there?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how long the defendant has been there?
I think 2014.
Is that right?
2017, Your Honor.
Oh, okay.
And where do you live in respect to one another? You want to go over there and show me?
I live in this house right here. Or I did. I don't anymore. this house right here. And
Does-
she lives right here.
You sold your house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the defendant
She
lives
lives right here.
where the blue car is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
A diagram of a neighborhood.
This is sort of a circular area, and from the circular area, you pull into your driveway. Is that right? Okay. It is your claim that the defendant keyed your car.
Yes, ma'am.
And when did this happen?
January 22nd, 2022.
The defendant says that she did not key your car. She has a counterclaim. She claims that she was falsely arrested and held overnight in jail.
That is a lie.
But just a okay. That's her claim, that she was falsely arrested, that she spent a night in jail. She had to hire a lawyer, did hire a lawyer after her lawyer requested several adjournments. You were not, at least physically, in the courtroom at the time of the last adjournment, and the case was dismissed. So let's go back to prior to January 22nd. I assume that if you're alleging that the defendant keyed your car, that you have some negative history with each other.
Yes, ma'am.
Starting when?
There are so many. I mean, it started out when we did the subdivision. They were nice at the beginning, no issues. And then the kids started having, her granddaughter lives with her.
Okay, how old's your granddaughter?
She's 9 now. She was 8.
Okay.
They started out having some issues, as kids do. I mean, you know, that happens.
You have a child of a similar age?
Yes, ma'am. She's 11 now. She was 9 or 10 when we lived there.
And the two children had an issue?
I mean, you know, kids argue.
No, I understand that. I'm not going into who was right and who was wrong in the kids' argument. I don't really care. But when did that argument between the two children spill over to the neighbors?
Well, I guess the final straw was Labor Day weekend of 21, the Sunday before the Labor Day. We came home late. It was about 7 o'clock. We were working, and we told Jillian we were going home for a little bit, and she said, I want to swim in the pool. I said, all right.
Jillian is your 10-year-old?
Yes, yes. And of course, she said, well, that's boring, Daddy. I want a friend to swim with me. So I said, okay, one friend. That's it, because your brother's going to watch you, and then we're leaving to go back to work. So she goes next door to Patrick's house, which is the next door neighbor, and she asked Patrick to come over and go swimming. He comes over. At the time, I didn't know this. At the time,
At the time, the defendant's granddaughter was there.
Yes.
At Patrick's house.
yes,
Got it. So your daughter went over and invited Patrick
right,
to come and swim.
right. And not,
You had told her that she could have one friend in the
Right.
pool, so Patrick left to come swimming, leaving your granddaughter alone.
well, she had to go home.
She had to go home.
Yes.
She came home.
Oh, just a second. Okay. That's what happened. Okay, you had a grandchild who had hurt feelings. I assume
She
had
actually
hurt.
went over to go swimming. She thought she was invited too.
You had a
Then-
child with hurt feelings.
And I went to ask what had happened.
Okay.
That's this big hoopla.
Okay, now your grandchild comes home. I assume she was upset. Was she crying?
Yes.
Okay. And that was about what time?
In the evening. I honestly can't remember.
Okay. And when she came home crying, tell me what you did.
Went out and, honey, what's wrong?
What did you do?
Are you okay?
Yes, and she told you what happened.
Said I went over to Jillian's. She invited us swimming. And when I got there, her dad said only one person could swim.
Okay.
So she came home.
Okay, and what did you do next?
That's not what happened.
I talked to her, calmed her down, and I went over and said, hey.
You know, just a second. You walked from your house, where the blue car is.
Yep, around the corner.
Did you take your granddaughter with you?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
She's lying.
And what? Shh. If you do that again, I'm
All
just
right.
going to dismiss your case. Do you understand that? And you know, it's
Yeah,
easy.
I got it.
This isn't my case, it's your case.
I know.
So you walked alone to his house. Did you knock at the door? Did you go outside? I want you to tell me exactly what you did.
I don't remember if I went to the front door, if I went to where the pool is, and I do believe Mr. Martin was out there.
Okay, so Mr. Martin was out there, and you said it in that kind of a calm tone?
What happened to my granddaughter? Why is she crying?
Well, she told you why she was crying when she was home. She told you she was crying because she went over there to swim, and Mr. Martin said you can only have one person swim with you.
Which is totally out of character. The children swim together all the time.
You mean at Mr. Martin's pool?
At Mr. Martin's pool, and if they need another adult,
just a second.
I go.
So they swim all the time in Mr. Martin's pool. So you wanted to know what happened on this occasion when he said only one person can swim.
Yes.
And you said it in just the same kind of conversational tone that I'm talking in, is my question.
I was very calm at the beginning, yes.
Oh, okay. And so you said to him what happened, and what did he say to you?
I don't remember exactly. It was to the effect of his son was going to watch them, and he could only have one child in the pool.
Right, that he wanted his son to have responsibility of only watching one other child other than his sister.
Correct.
Right, well, that sounds reasonable.
And that's fine.
Just a second. So how did it escalate? He said, I only wanted one child in here. My son's going to watch the kids. We have to go back to work. And that should have been it. Why wasn't it?
I don't know.
Caption, coming up, Zachary at the diagram.
So I walked back out and looked at the Pathfinder, and that's what I discovered, the scratch across the back. It's bright white, so that indicates it's fresh. I told her while she was standing there, you're going to jail. I'm going to call the police.
Okay, now I'd like to see the video.
Nancy rolls her eyes. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Zachary and Nancy.
Zachary Martin claims his neighbor, Nancy Morrell, keyed his car and owes for the repairs. Nancy is countersuing for a false arrest and lawyer fees.
Now let's get to your version of what happened. Okay, so you said only one child. Her granddaughter went home. Her granddaughter, who's a little girl, is upset. Why can't I go swimming too? I got that. And?
This is a lie. Everything she told you is a lie.
Just a second.
She did not come to my house.
Just a second.
She did not come to my house.
If you say again it's a lie, I'm going to dismiss your case. Do you understand that?
Yes.
I asked you what happened.
She did not come to my house.
Okay.
Her daughter came to my house.
Just a second. You mean her granddaughter's mother?
Yes. I never talked to her.
Before my daughter went over, I had gone over.
She didn't.
Oh, no, just a second. Yeah. Now I don't believe you, Miss Morrell. Now I don't believe you, madam. I watched your eyes. I just watched it. Now, uncross your arms. So, her daughter came over first.
No,
Yes.
I
Well,
went
she
over.
never-
I don't want to hear you.
She never came over. The daughter came over. She bypassed my front door and went to the side gate where the pool is. She told my son to go get me.
To go get you?
To go get me. I came out and she called me a jerk. You should let her swim in the pool. Blah. I just told my daughter, look, you can have one friend because your brother's watching you. It's not fair for him now to watch 3 kids. Just 2, that's all. I told her, I said, look, I don't know what you're talking about. I said she could have one friend and that's it. She proceeded to call me a jerk. She said some other choice words I'm not going to repeat, in which case I did cuss her out and told her to get off my property and not to come back again, anybody in her family, or I would file trespass charges.
Okay, and that was on the Sunday before Labor Day?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did this incident happen with your car?
January 22nd.
After that incident on Labor Day weekend, did you have any other contact with the defendant?
Yes.
When?
So I think it was right after Jillian's birthday on November the 21st. I think it was like a week, like December the 1st, I think. And this is really sick, but it got to the situation where she would watch my kid. And every time my kid would go to Aubrey's house or Patrick's house, she would take toys, she would unpack her stuff. And I told her, I said, look, you can't play with her. So they would wait 10 or 15 minutes till she got unpacked and get all comfortable, having a good time. She would send her granddaughter over there. She had to pack her stuff up and come home. She would come home crying many times. So then it got to the point where Patrick, he would come over to our house. He'd be over to our house all the time. They would get on trampoline, play video games, blah, blah, blah. So I was doing something one day and then the camera went off and I give me a look at my iPad. Here comes Nancy up my driveway. She knocks on the door and she says, can we play? And I said, no, you can't play. Get off of my property. File trespass charges if you come back. That was, the last time I interacted with her until she keyed the video.
Well, it's not my job to be judgmental in a social way, but I have to tell you, I would have handled it a little differently with her. She wasn't the one who behaved badly. I wouldn't visit her daughter's bad behavior on an 8-year-old. There are kids who live right around the corner from each other, and it seems to me that the bad behavior of a parent or a grandparent shouldn't impact on a child. The granddaughter is a nice little girl.
Well, I mean, if you say so. I mean.
Is she?
Well, she spread rumors about my daughter and said that, she told Aubrey that my daughter stole some of her toys, and that was a lie.
Okay. All right. Well, it sort of started to get nasty. Now let's get back to the keying of the car. So that happened in January. So tell me about the January incident.
Okay, so she got up January 22nd. It's a Saturday. She decided to walk her dog. She's walked her dog.
Go over there. Show me what you saw.
Okay.
Zachary at the diagram.
So she decided to walk her dog, and so she walks up the sidewalk.
Well, you didn't see that.
No, not right here.
No, you didn't see that.
When she gets about right here, which is Patrick's house, the mailbox is right here, you can see in the video. That's when the cameras detect motion. That's when I get the alert. So I see her walking the dog, and she's walked her dog past my house many times, but never gotten that close to my vehicle. So immediately I thought something.
Where was your car?
My car is parked right here.
In the driveway?
Yes, ma'am. So she walks the dogs, and she is right beside the view. I mean, you can see in the video, you can see her right hand go up. So I immediately run out of the house. I have a truck parked right here. I looked at my truck. I thought maybe she did something to the truck. I looked at it, didn't see anything. I went back outside and I said, well, wait a minute, let me go back outside and look at the Pathfinder. So I walked back out and looked at the Pathfinder, and that's what I discovered, the scratch across the back. It's bright white, so that indicates it's fresh. I told her while she was standing there, you're going to jail, I'm gonna call the police.
Okay, step back. When you said to her, you're going to jail, I'm going to call the police, did she respond?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, now I'd like to see the video.
Okay.
Footage of Nancy walking her dog.
You can see as her hand goes up right there.
Nancy disappears behind the vehicle, then emerges and hurries away.
I'll take a look at it again. Is there any reason that you stopped behind his car? Is there any reason?
Stopped to sniff, I stopped with him.
You see her right hand right there.
I'm moving my arm as I walk.
Yes, and that's where the scratch is.
Okay, can I take a look at the photographs of the scratch, please?
Zachary produces photographs, then hands them to Kevin. He brings them to Judy, who reviews an image of a scratch on a vehicle.
Okay, so based upon what you saw, you called the police. And based upon that, the police came, interviewed you, and viewed this tape.
Actually, I had contacted the police after he had yelled at me. He's a little incorrect. Could I show you where?
Sure.
I did walk my dog around here. His cars impede the sidewalk, so I moved. And I had completed my whole route over to about here, and he did indeed come out and yell at me. I caught a few words of it, said I'm walking my dog, waved my arms, and continued on. That's not the first time he has yelled at me as I've been walking, and I went home and I filed an incident report, and I do have that.
Just a second.
The second time I've been walking and he's come out and yelled at me, it's very unnerving.
That's a lie.
We're very far.
Sorry.
It's going to cost you getting your car fixed. It's something you don't understand.
I have it.
Something you don't understand. I'm allowing both of you to tell me your sides of the story. You can't say that's a lie. Do you understand?
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
not cutting you off. I let you tell me your story, sir. I let you tell me what happened, and I want to give the defendant the same opportunity. You can't interrupt her. Now you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I will tell you what I don't understand, Miss Morell. You see, if I had got into a kerfuffle with him, which you had, because he said you and your granddaughter, which I actually think was socially wrong with regard to your granddaughter, but with regard to you, he doesn't want you there, right? I wouldn't walk up a cul-de-sac to go past his house. If it were me, I see plenty of space where you can walk. You can cross the street from your house and walk in the street the other way. And then when you come back, you can walk the other way. You don't have to go inside that cul-de-sac to walk anywhere near his house. That's looking for trouble.
Caption, coming up.
Can I just say something?
About what?
The trend that another gentleman, he tried to accuse of scratching his car.
Are you her husband?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to let you stand up now, and you're going to show me where he accused somebody else of keying his car in the back in January. Show me.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Zachary and Nancy.
Zachary Martin is accusing his neighbor, Nancy Morell, of keying his car. Nancy is countersuing for a false arrest and lawyer fees.
So you have a counterclaim, and your counterclaim is for false arrest. He didn't arrest you. The police arrested you. And the police arrested you based upon what they believed, after looking at that video, was probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause to believe you participated in the commission of that crime, which is vandalism. He didn't make a citizen's arrest. The police made an arrest. And not only did they make an arrest, but they were serious enough to have you get a lawyer. Your counsel went in. I assume your new counsel asked for an adjournment. I assume your new counsel, you were there.
I believe so. I was not there, ma'am. I waited out in the hall, and my lawyer represented me.
Fine. So I assume that you knew that your lawyer was going to ask for an adjournment. The lawyer didn't prepare you for trial, did he?
No.
No.
Your Honor.
So he was. I'm not listening to you.
As a witness, can I just say something?
About what?
The trend that another gentleman, he tried to accuse of scratching his car. We have evidence of that.
Just a second. That I'll listen to in a minute.
Okay.
The second time your case was on, did you go into court or did you wait outside?
I waited outside.
Then if you waited outside, you knew again your lawyer was going to ask for an adjournment. The first time the case was on, did you attend the court hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you inside the court?
Yes, ma'am.
She was not there.
She was outside. Yes, ma'am.
The second time when the case was adjourned, were you in court?
Yes, ma'am.
Was she there?
Yes, ma'am.
Outside or inside?
She was outside.
Did her lawyer ask for an adjournment?
Continuance.
A continuance?
Yes, ma'am.
Same thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Did it happen more than twice?
Yes.
On the third time you went to court, did you go to court?
Yes, ma'am.
Was she in court?
Yes, ma'am.
Inside or outside?
She was outside, and what happened, I had sold the house, and we moved an hour away.
Just a second. You were there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I'm going to let you stand up now, and you're going to show me where he accused somebody else of keying his car in the back in January. Show me.
Nancy's husband, Jerry, rises.
No.
He tries to approach the bench. Judy waves him back, then Kevin comes and collects a document from him and brings it to her.
Well, this says that on January 18th, which was 4 days before this incident, you reported another vandalism to a Nissan Titan.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the car that you saw her key or believe she keyed?
No, ma'am, that's a different vehicle.
That's what I thought. That's a different vehicle. That has nothing to do with this car.
Well, the gentleman that he accused of, he didn't even have arrested or didn't want to press charges.
Just a second. Okay, so now I'm going to let you stand up, and I'm going to give you my end of the riot act, because if this is what you're deluding yourself with, I'm going to tell you. He didn't have video of anybody on the 18th around his car. In your wife's case, sir, he had prior experience with her. She had no business walking right in front of the house when there are plenty of other places to walk. If they are not on great terms, he had every right to call the police, show them the video, and they had every right to arrest her. Do you understand that?
I understand that, but
Good.
that doesn't
This has
prove
nothing.
that she scratched the vehicle. That doesn't prove that.
Just a second. That's what a trial is for, sir. That was up to a jury. What your wife is suing him for is for false arrest. He didn't arrest her. The police arrested her. Now sit.
Jerry sits.
May I see the invoice? Have you had the car fixed?
Yes, ma'am, I have an estimate, and I also have the police report. where
I'd like to
read
see
her own
both.
words.
I'd like to see both.
Zachary hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews them.
So the police officer indicated that after you were told about what the officer saw on the video, you've decided to make no more statements about the incident, and you were placed under arrest for malicious damage. The officer also reported that the scratch on the back of the car was fresh because there were fresh paint chips on the street that were red paint chips. There's a red car that came off that car, which demonstrates to the eyes of any layperson that since there's traffic back and forth there, if there are fresh scratches and fresh paint, it means it just happened. So your counterclaim for false arrest and anything addendant thereto is dismissed.
I did not do it, Your Honor.
Right, well, okay, maybe the case was dismissed. That doesn't mean you're entitled to money from him. Police had probable cause to believe that a crime was committed and probable cause to believe that you committed that crime. The rest of it is up to a jury. So you have a beef with the police department, not with him. They had an absolute right to arrest you. I'm not giving you $2,500 for this scratch, sir. Get it out of your mind. Do you understand?
Why not?
It's not a $2,500 scratch.
I mean, that's an estimate from a
$500. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Nancy, then Zachary.
Well, she was incorrect because I did not do it.
You know, we took an oath when we went inside to tell the truth, and she lied repeatedly, and she got mad at me when I said that's a lie, but it was a lie.
That he saw me walking by and looked at the car and said, oh.
The next day I called the police to see what happened, and they informed me they arrested her.
I thought they were there because I had called about him harassing me, and then all of a sudden they just said, you scratched his car. And I said, no, I didn't.
I think she should have stayed in jail longer.
They placed me in custody.
The lady does nothing but lie. She's a liar.
It was horrible.
In chambers, Judy with Sarah.
I actually thought his behavior when the defendant brought her granddaughter over subsequently and said, can't she play? Because evidently there are 2 or 3 kids who live close by and they always play together. All of a sudden, the granddaughter is excluded from that play. There's a certain amount, as a parent, he should have had some sense of that and said, well, of course they can play, but your daughter owes me an apology. You know, if you're behaving like an adult, your daughter owes me an apology. I tried to do a responsible thing. I didn't want to let my son watch more than one stranger child in a pool, which is absolutely smart because, God forbid, something happened to one of those children, they would certainly turn around and sue him.
Yeah.
So he did the responsible thing. Was it hurtful to the other child? Yes. According to him, his daughter was playing at Patrick's house. She came over and said, you can't come, because they're little children. They don't understand. You can't come. Only one person can come. But you're a grown-up. So understand how that could be hurtful to an 8-year-old. Anyway, I think that they both behaved badly, and he's very smart to have moved out of that.
Out of the cul-de-sac, out of the neighborhood.
Yeah, could you understand why she would walk her dog there?
Yeah, I agreed with you that if you've already had even just a hint of distaste with any of your neighbors, I just walk on the other side of the street, just avoid it. And this seems like a perfectly avoidable house in the cul-de-sac.
You actually have to
go into his loop in order to make the loop. So I don't know. I think both sides questionable, but I'm glad that he got something that you were willing to give him for his car.
Yeah, get your car fixed reasonably, and the police absolutely had a right to arrest her.
Yeah.
There was a complaint. They looked at the complaint. They saw the damage. They saw it was fresh. They saw her right there on the video. They had a history of bad feelings between them. They had an absolute right to arrest her.
Yeah.
Too bad. I feel sorry for the little girl.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
হ্যালো গাইস, হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ কি অবস্থা তোমাদের? কেমন আছো তোমরা? আশা করি সবাই ভালো আছো। আর একটা নতুন ভিডিওতে জানাচ্ছি সবাইকে স্বাগতম। তো গাইস, এখনো যারা লাইক করোনি, লাইক শেয়ারটা করে দাও ঝটপট করে।
हेलो चॉकलेट भाई क्या अवस्था?
এই তো ভালো, কি খবর?
ये देखो अपना एप्लीकेशन ये रहा, इसको मैं आपको प्ले स्टोर में प्रोवाइड कर दूंगा, सब वहां से ले लेना। ये जो एप्लीकेशन है मैं खुद भी यूज करता हूँ। मैं क्या करता हूँ, पहले इसके कुछ सेटिंग्स के बारे में बता देता हूँ, इसकी कुछ फीचर्स के बारे में। देखो इधर मैं आपको इन्फो पे जाके दिखा देता हूँ मैं कौन सा वर्जन यूज कर रहा हूँ। तो मैं बीटा 2.0 12 वर्जन यूज कर रहा हूँ इस समय। अगर आप देखो यहाँ पर देखने को मिलता है ना ये सेटिंग का ऑप्शन, इसके बारे में आपको बताता हूँ। सेटिंग में देखो आपको सबसे पहले लैंग्वेज का ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, इसको नहीं छेड़ना है। ये जो UI साइज है ना, ये आपका जैसे कि ये पूरा स्क्रीन है ना, ये जो है पूरा स्क्रीन जो इतना आपको दिख रहा है ये छोटा बड़ा करने के लिए होता है। मैं आपको एक बार माइनस करके दिखा देता हूँ। ये देखो छोटा हो रहा है ना, इसको जैसे मैं बड़ा करता हूँ ये बड़ा हो रहा है। डिस्कॉर्ड होता है, अगर आपको ज्वाइन करना है तो आप कर सकते हो। और एडिटेड क्वालिटी ये होता है जैसे किसी का लो डिवाइस है, सो क्या करना है, इसको लो पे करके रखना। जब भी आप कोई मॉडल वगैरह डिजाइन करते हो, लाइक एनिमेशन वगैरह देते हो, तो इसे लो करके रखना चाहिए। अगर आप जब एनिमेशन कर ले तो लाइटिंग वगैरह जब देने जाते हैं तब इसे हाई करते हैं, बट हम इसे अभी लो करके रखते हैं। जब लाइटिंग देंगे तब इसे हाई कर लेंगे। अब हमने क्या करना है, ये देखो आपको इधर इंपोर्ट का ऑप्शन एक देखने को मिलता है, एक न्यू वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है। इंपोर्ट के बारे में आपको आगे चल के बताने वाला हूँ। सबसे पहले न्यू वाले पे हम क्लिक कर देते हैं। न्यू वाले पे क्लिक किया तो देखो कुछ इस तरीके के इंटरफेस आपको देखने को मिलता है। अब देखो इधर आपको कुछ टूल्स देखने को मिलते हैं, इधर आपको एनिमेशन वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, इधर आपको मॉडलिंग का देखने को मिलता है, इधर आपको 3 डॉट पे इसके बाकी होम वगैरह सेटिंग्स के बारे में देखने को मिलता है। नीचे आप बोन वगैरह सेट करते हो, इधर से आप कटिंग वगैरह करते हो। अब कैसे कैसे क्या क्या करना है एक एक करके मैं आप लोग को समझाता हूँ। सबसे पहले मैं इस टूल के बारे में बताऊंगा बताऊंगा। और ये देखो, ये अपना बीच में जो है ना, यहाँ पर अपना सारा मॉडल आने वाला है। देखो जैसे मैं इस क्यूब पे क्लिक करता हूँ तो अपने कुछ मॉडल्स आ जाते हैं। अब सबसे पहले क्यूब वाले में आपको देखो क्या क्या देखने को मिलता है। एक क्यूब देखने को मिलता है, एक स्फीयर देखने को मिलता है, एक सिलेंडर देखने को मिलता है, एक प्लेन, फिर ये देखने को मिलता है, ठीक है। और इसके नीचे आपको मोर का जो ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, ये है स्टोर का ऑप्शन। मतलब स्टोर में कुछ मॉडल्स देखने को मिल जाते हैं जिनको आप यूज कर सकते हो फ्री में। देखो काफी सारे मॉडल्स हैं जिनको आप यूज कर सकते हो, ये सारे फ्री वाले मॉडल्स हैं। ये पेड दिखा रहा है, पहले ये फ्री में था, लगता है काफी लोगों ने यूज किया होगा इसलिए इसे भी पेड कर दिया गया है। सबने क्या करना है, सबसे पहले मैं आपको क्यूब वगैरह लेकर दिखाता हूँ। देखो ये क्यूब आ चुका है। अब आपको ये ध्यान रखना है कि आपने इस एनिमेशन वाले पे क्लिक नहीं करना है, ये जो मॉडलिंग वाला क्लिक है ना, जस्ट इस पे क्लिक करके रखना है। तब ये जो ऑप्शन आपको देखने को मिलता है ना, ये आएगा और ये वाले ऑप्शन आते हैं। अब देखो आप जैसे ही इसके मॉडल पे क्लिक करते हो, लाइक देखो मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ, इस मॉडल पे जैसे आप क्लिक करते हो साइड में देखो बॉल का ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है। ये क्या चीज़ है, देखो अब जैसे बॉल पे क्लिक करोगे ना तो आपको कुछ ऑप्शंस देखने को मिलते हैं, लाइक कलर का, टेक्सचर का, फिर रिफ्लेक्शन का, फिर नीचे और भी ऑप्शन है जैसे कि ये ट्रांसपेरेंट का। ये सब क्या है, देखो कलर वाले पे जैसे मैं क्लिक करता हूँ तो मैं अपने ये जो मॉडल है इसे हम मॉडल कहेंगे। ये जो आपको देखने को मिल रहा है ना, ये सब हम मॉडल कहेंगे, ठीक है। क्यूब है तो इसको मैंने कलर देने के लिए इधर से यूज करनी है, आपको कलर इधर से देखने को मिल जाता है। अगर आप कलर अपने हिसाब से एडजस्ट करना चाहते हो तो लाइक इधर देखो ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ना, जस्ट आपको इस पे क्लिक करना है। फिर आपको देखो नीचे स्क्रॉल कर करके ऐसे देख लोगे तो आप अपने हिसाब से इसमें कलर मतलब अपने हिसाब से एडजस्ट कर सकते हो, जो कि मुझे काफी ज्यादा बेटर लगा था इस एप्लीकेशन के अंदर। अब इधर आपको टेक्सचर का ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है। अगर आपके पास कोई टेक्सचर अवेलेबल, लाइक मैं इसमें कोई भी टेक्सचर ऐड करके दिखाता हूँ, उससे पहले हम इसे व्हाइट कर लेते हैं, बिकॉज जब टेक्सचर देंगे तो वो येलोइश सा हो जाएगा, जो कि हमें नहीं चाहिए। सबसे पहले मैं इधर अपने फाइल में जाता हूँ, डाउनलोड वाले ऑप्शन में देखते हैं अगर हमारे पास कुछ टेक्सचर अवेलेबल है तो मैं इसमें ऐड कर देता हूँ। जैसे कि मेरे पास एक बनी का टेक्सचर है, नहीं बट हम इसे नहीं ऐड करेंगे, थोड़ा हाई क्वालिटी का टेक्सचर हो, लेकिन कुछ बॉडी बिल्डर का टेक्सचर है, सो मैं इसे ऐड कर देता हूँ। देखो अब ये टेक्सचर ऐड हो चुका है, कुछ इस तरीके का टेक्सचर ये आ चुका है इसमें, ठीक है। तो सब कुछ डिटेल से बताने वाला हूँ, लास्ट तक बने रहोगे तो आपको लाइटिंग का, मॉडल डिजाइनिंग का, एनिमेशन का सब कुछ बताने वाला हूँ, ठीक है। कैसे करना है, कैसे आप रेंडर कर सकते हो। देखो ये आ चुका है। अब क्या करना है, आप अगर एनिमेशन वगैरह देना चाहते हो उसके बारे में बताऊंगा कैसे दोगे। अब नीचे आप हल्का से स्क्रॉल करोगे तो ये आपको रिफ्लेक्शन का ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है। जस्ट आप इस पे क्लिक करोगे तो देखो ये जो इसके मॉडल का देखो थोड़ा रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहा है ना, देखो कलर थोड़ा चेंज हो रहा है, लाइटिंग वगैरह आ रही है इसमें, ये देखो ये रिफ्लेक्शन के लिए होता है। इसका यूज भी बताऊंगा आगे, ठीक है, जब जब हमारा जिस टूल का काम आने वाला है उसके बारे में बताऊंगा आपको। अब नीचे आपके देखो पिक्सल वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, इसे आप हमेशा ऑन रखना, ठीक है, इसको छेड़ने की जरूरत नहीं है। और नीचे देखो आपके प्लस वाला ऑप्शन भी देखने को मिलता है। ये क्या चीज़ है, देखो जैसे मैं प्लस वाले ऑप्शन पर क्लिक करता हूँ तो एक और बॉल अपना आ जाता है। मैं इस बॉल पे क्लिक कर दूंगा, ये व्हाइट हो जाएगा। इस बॉल में इसका टेक्सचर है। अब ये किस काम के लिए होता है पहले मैं आपको वो समझाता हूँ। लाइक मैं क्या करता हूँ, इसका एक क्यूब लेता हूँ, इसके बारे में आपको बताता हूँ। इस पर आप डबल क्लिक करो, जैसे आप डबल क्लिक करते हो तो आपका ये ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है। डबल करोगे या सिंगल करोगे तो आपको ये ऑप्शन देखने को मिल जाएगा। ये देखो ये जो पहला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ये हाइड का होता है। देखो हाइड हो चुका है, बट आपका इधर देखो हाइड का भी ऑप्शन आ चुका है, ठीक है। और नीचे जो ये ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ये नेम का, जैसे कि इस क्यूब का नेम आपने चेंज करना है। लाइक मैं इस पर क्लिक कर देता हूँ, इधर मैं 1 लिख देता हूँ, ठीक है, B1 या 1 लिख देते हैं, इसे ओके कर देते। देखो नेम चेंज हो गया। आप इसे कॉपी वाला दबा दोगे तो ये एक और मॉडल कॉपी हो जाएगा। लाइक मैं देखो इसे कॉपी पे प्लस कर देता हूँ तो ये देखो कॉपी हो चुका है। देखो दूसरा मॉडल भी आ चुका है। जस्ट मैंने क्या करना है, इसे आगे करना है, ठीक है। इधर मैं कर देता हूँ इस मॉडल को, लाइक मैं इसे आगे कर चुका हूँ, ठीक है। अब देखो ये दोनों का सेम टू सेम कलर है। अगर आप इधर से ना कोई भी चेंज करोगे, लाइक मैं इसे कलर देता हूँ तो दोनों में सेम कलर हो रहा है, बट हमें सेम कलर नहीं चाहिए तो हमने क्या करना है, इस मॉडल पे क्लिक करना है। लाइक मैंने इस मॉडल पे क्लिक किया हुआ है। इस पे क्लिक करने के बाद जैसे मैंने इस पे क्लिक किया, ठीक है, इस पे क्लिक किया है, फिर आपको ये बॉल वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, इस पे क्लिक करना है, फिर आपके वाला ऑप्शन आ जाएगा। अब प्लस वाला आइकन पे आपने क्लिक करना है, फिर आपको एक और बॉल देखने को मिलेगा, जस्ट आपको इस पे क्लिक कर देना। देखो ये व्हाइट से हो गया। अब इसका टेक्सचर आप डिफरेंट ऐड कर सकते हो। लाइक मैं इसमें कलर दे देता हूँ, देखो ऐड हो चुका है। तो आपको मतलब इस टूल के बारे में पता चल गया। इधर से आप टूल्स वगैरह ले आ सकते हो। लाइक मैं आपको एक और बार दिखा देता हूँ, जैसे कि मैं ये ले आता हूँ, ये देखो ये आ चुका है, सिलेंडर आ चुका है। इधर मैं स्पेयर भी ले लेता हूँ, लाइक ये स्पेयर आ चुका है। मतलब इधर से टूल वगैरह के आते हैं कि आप टूल्स वगैरह ले आ सकते हो इजीली। बहुत सिंपल है, बहुत आसानी से आप एनिमेशन इसमें बना सकते हो। एंड्रॉइड एनिमेशन का फुल कोर्स है तो लास्ट तक जरूर देखिएगा। बाकी इधर मोड वाले सेटिंग पे आपको कुछ मैं ले आके दिखा देता हूँ, जैसे मॉडल्स वगैरह हैं। इधर से मैं ले आ देता हूँ, एक सिंपल सा कार ले आ देता हूँ। तो ये जैसे डाउनलोड होता है आपको मैं दिखाता हूँ कैसे होता है। सिंपल से मैटर है यार, आपको बस लेकर आना है। देखो आपका ये मॉडल भी आ चुका है कार वाला। मैं आपको एक छोटी सी एनिमेशन करके दिखाता हूँ, सिंपल सी। उसके बाद हम हाई एनिमेशन पे भी जाएंगे कि आप हाई क्वालिटी का एनिमेशन कैसे बना सकते हो अपने एंड्रॉइड में। तो ये हो चुका है। अब देखो इसके बारे में आपको आगे चल के बताने वाला हूँ, बट पहले मैं आपको एक छोटी सी एनिमेशन क्रिएट करके दिखाता हूँ। और ऊपर देखो आपको क्या देखने को मिलता है, कैमरे का देखने को मिलता है, एक लाइट का देखने को मिलता है। जब आप वीडियो बना लेते हो ना उसके बाद एक काम आता है। तो एनिमेशन क्रिएट करने के लिए हमें इधर एनिमेशन वाले ऑप्शन पे जाना होगा। उससे पहले देखो आपके ऊपर अंडो रीडो का ऑप्शन देखने को मिल जाता है। लाइक मैं इसे बैक करता हूँ तो पीछे चल जाएगा, देखो ये हट चुका है। इधर मैं वापस अपने मॉडल को ले आ देता हूँ तो ये अंडो रीडो का ऑप्शन है। इधर जो 3 लकीरें देखने को मिलते हैं, जस्ट आप इस पर क्लिक करोगे तो आपको कुछ ऑप्शंस देखने को मिल जाता है। लाइक होम का, होम पे प्रेस करोगे तो अपने मेन स्क्रीन पे चले जाओगे। सेव पे प्रेस करोगे तो ये मॉडल सेव हो जाने वाला है। रेंडर पे प्रेस करोगे तो देखो जो आप एनिमेशन वीडियो बना चुके होगे तो ये रेंडर के समय काम आता है, इसके बारे में बताऊंगा अभी मैं। 3D इंपोर्ट पे जब आप कोई मॉडल इधर लेकर आओगे इसके बारे में बताऊंगा। 3D एक्सपोर्ट, जैसे कि आप किसी को मॉडल अपना शेयर करना चाहते हो तो इधर से शेयर होता है। हेल्प वाले पे जाके अगर आप कुछ हेल्प वगैरह लेना चाहते हो प्रिज्मा 3D का ऑफिशियल साइट से तो आप इधर से ले सकते हो। बाकी नीचे आपको बोन्स का ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, तो इसके बारे में अभी आगे चल के बताने वाला हूँ, कैसे बोन्स ऐड होगा, कैसे आप मूवमेंट करा सकते हो, इन सब के बारे में। बाकी इसके टूल भी मैं आगे बताने वाला हूँ। तो देखो सबसे पहले क्या करना है, आपको जो एनिमेशन वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ना, जस्ट आपको इस पर क्लिक करना है तो आपके देखो कुछ की फ्रेमिंग आ जाता है। इसे हम की फ्रेमिंग कहते हैं, पहले मैं आपको बता देता हूँ। देखो इस की फ्रेमिंग के अंदर हम अपनी एनिमेशन करते हैं। कैसे करते हैं, देखो सबसे पहले हमने एक कार एनिमेशन क्रिएट करना है। उससे पहले मैं क्या करता हूँ, ये जो आपको देखने को मिल रहा है ना, जितने भी मॉडल है, कार वाले मॉडल को छोड़ के मैंने सबको डिलीट कर देना है। डिलीट कैसे करते हैं, आपको सिंपल सा उस मॉडल पर क्लिक करके रखना है, लॉन्ग प्रेस करना है। उसके बाद ये आपका डिलीट वाला ऑप्शन आ जाता है। देखो ये कट वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिल रहा है ना, जस्ट आपको फिर इस पर क्लिक कर देना और ये डिलीट हो जाने वाला है। मैंने देखो जैसे इससे रोटेशन वगैरह करानी तो वो कैसे होता है, देखो इधर वाले ऑप्शन से आपका क्या होता है मैं आपको क्लिक करके दिखाता हूँ। जस्ट इस पर क्लिक किया तो ये आगे पीछे करने के लिए है, बट इसको आप अगर रोटेट करना चाहते हो तो वो कैसे होता है। रोटेट वाले के लिए ये वाला ऑप्शन है, जस्ट मैं इस पर क्लिक करता हूँ, देखो ये रोटेट हो रहा है, ठीक है। अगर आप इसकी साइज को घटाना है बढ़ाना चाहते हो तो 2 ऑप्शन देखने को मिलते हैं अपने को इसमें भी। लाइक ये देखो इधर से आप इसकी साइज को इंक्रीज कर सकते हो, लाइक देखो इस तरीके से कुछ कर सकते हो, बट हमें इधर से नहीं करना है क्योंकि इधर से काफ़ी ज़्यादा बेकार हो जाता है यार। मतलब कि मैं आपको बताता हूँ किस तरह, देखो इसकी साइज़ किस तरह अजीब सी होगी, बट मैं इस मॉडल की जैसे साइज़ को एकदम एक्यूरेट सेट करना चाहता हूँ अपने हिसाब से। देखो ट्रांसफॉर्म का ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, जस्ट आपको इस पर क्लिक करना है, नीचे हल्का सा स्क्रॉल करना है, फिर आपको स्केल का ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है। इधर X, Y, Z तीनों की साइज़ को आप अपने हिसाब से सेम कर लेना। लाइक मैं इसे 3 कर लेता हूँ, देखो 1 2 3, अब इधर भी मैं 1 2 3, अब नीचे वाले को भी 3। अब ये जो साइज़ है ना एकदम एक्यूरेट है, हर जगह से सेम टू सेम है, कोई भी चेंजेस नहीं है, सब जगह एकदम बढ़िया सेट है। अब मैं एक छोटी सी एनिमेशन आपको क्रिएट करके दिखाने वाला हूँ। जस्ट क्या करना है, सबसे पहले आपको इधर प्रेस करके रखना है, ठीक है। जस्ट मैं इस पर प्रेस किया हूँ, इसको हल्का सा पीछे करता हूँ। अब देखो नीचे पहले मैं रोड ले आ दूँ, हाँ रोड ले आ देते हैं। रोड के लिए मैं क्यूब का यूज़ करने वाला हूँ। क्यूब आपको पता है ना इधर से लेकर आया हुआ है, अब मैं इधर से ले आऊँ। अब क्यूब का क्या करना है, मैंने इसका रोड बनाना है तो इसकी स्केलिंग कर देता हूँ, थोड़ी साइज़ को इंक्रीज़ कर देता हूँ। साइज़ में इधर से इंक्रीज़ कर रहा हूँ। अब इसको मैं थोड़ी सी ऐसे कर देता हूँ। देखो जो मैं प्रेस कर रहा हूँ कि वैसे इसके बारे में इसलिए मैंने आपको पहले ही बता दिया है ताकि आप लोगों को कोई भी प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट ना हो। देखो फिर मैं इससे थोड़ी सी साइज़ को और इंक्रीज़ कर चुका हूँ। अब सिंपल से मैं इस कार वाले मॉडल पर क्लिक करके इसको रोटेट करके थोड़ा सीधा कर देता हूँ और हल्का से इसे ऊपर कर देते हैं बिकॉज इसकी टायर जो है ज़मीन में जा रहे हैं। बाकी टायर वगैरह के एनिमेशन हम हाई एनिमेशन बनाएंगे तब अभी आपको सिंपल सा क्रिएट करके दिखाने वाला हूँ, जिसमें आपको एकदम सिंपल सा बता रहा हूँ कि कैसे क्रिएट हो सकता है। लाइटिंग वगैरह आपको आगे बताने वाला हूँ, तो वीडियो में बने रहें तब जाके पता चलने वाला है। देखो बिगिनर से लेकर ये एडवांस तक है, सो हो सकता है थोड़ी लॉन्ग वीडियो हो जाए, बट आपको एक एक चीज़ एकदम क्लैरिटी से समझाने वाला हूँ क्या क्या चीज़ कैसे कैसे होती है। इस तरीके के एनिमेशन में आपको भी पता है, स्टार्टिंग मैंने बता दिया बहुत ज़्यादा पैसे होते हैं, सो आप बहुत आसानी से काफ़ी ज़्यादा अर्निंग जनरेट कर सकते हो। बाकी सिखाने के लिए मैं बैठा हूँ, आपको एक एक तरीके का एनिमेशन में सिखाने वाला हूँ इसी चैनल पे, अगर आप बने रहते हो तो। बाकी सेकंड चैनल पर हम अर्निंग के कोर्सेज देते हैं कि आप और भी कैसे डिफरेंट मेथड से अर्निंग कर सकते हो, लाइक एफिलिएट मार्केटिंग, नेटवर्क मार्केटिंग और भी बहुत सारे, ड्रॉप शिपिंग हो गए, सोशल मीडिया इन्फ्लुएंसर, गूगल एड्स या फेसबुक एड्स, इन सबसे अर्निंग कैसे की जाती है, इनकी कोर्सेज हम सेकंड चैनल पर प्रोवाइड करते हैं। अगर आपने हमें व्हाट्सएप पे फॉलो नहीं किया तो वहाँ जरूर से फॉलो कर लेना, क्योंकि उधर हम ऐसे कोर्सेज प्रोवाइड करते रहते हैं। देखो हमने क्या करना है, सिंपल सा हमने इस मॉडल पे क्लिक करना है। जस्ट जो आपका कार वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, जस्ट इस पर क्लिक कर देना अपने इस मॉडल पे। उसके बाद इधर आपको देखने को मिलता है की फ्रेमिंग। देखो आप जहां से की फ्रेमिंग स्टार्ट करना चाहते हो, लाइक मैंने 0 से स्टार्ट करना है, 0 पे प्रेस किया है मैंने, इसको पहले प्रेस किया फिर इसको प्रेस किया, फिर जाके मैंने 0 को प्रेस किया है। अब थर्ड ये रहेगा कि मैंने देखो ये जो घड़ी वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, जस्ट इस पे प्रेस करना है। अब सेकंड मेथड ये रहेगा कि आपको इधर से देखो 10 पे, 20 पे या 30 पे जितने का भी गैप देना है। लाइक मैं 30 पे क्लिक करता हूँ और थोड़ा सा इसे आगे करता हूँ। उसके बाद देखो 30 पे मैंने क्लिक किया हुआ है, उसके बाद मैंने इस पे क्लिक कर देना है। देखो अपना ये की फ्रेम सेट हो चुका है। एक बार प्ले करके आपको दिखाता हूँ। प्ले कहाँ से करना है, ये वाला जो ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, जस्ट मैंने प्ले किया, देखो गाड़ी चल रही है। अब थोड़ा सा आपको आगे इसको फिंगर से स्क्रॉल करना है। स्क्रॉल करने के बाद जो 60 वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ना, जस्ट आपको इस पर क्लिक करना है। लाइक मैंने इस पर क्लिक कर दिया। अब देखो अपना मॉडल सिलेक्ट है, पहले मैंने मॉडल को आगे किया, फिर जाके मैंने 60 को प्रेस किया, फिर जाके मैंने एक घड़ी वाले ऑप्शन को प्रेस कर देना है। बट घड़ी वाले को प्रेस करने से पहले हमने थोड़ी सी इसे आगे करना है। अब घड़ी वाले ऑप्शन को प्रेस करना है। मैं एक बार प्ले करके दिखाता हूँ। देखो गाड़ी जा रही है इसी तरीके। अब इसको आप कैसे वीडियो में कन्वर्ट कर सकते हो वो मैं आपको बता देता हूँ। देखो छोटी सी एनिमेशन है बट इसको कन्वर्ट करना भी तो आना चाहिए। एडवांस कैसे करना है वो मैं बताने वाला हूँ। अब इसका काम आता है आपके जो 3 लकीरें देखने को मिलते हैं ना, यहाँ पर आपको प्रेस करना है। इसको आप जैसे प्रेस कर देते हो तो आपको कुछ और ऑप्शंस देखने को मिल जाते हैं। ना आपको होम पे जाना है, ना आपको सेव पे जाना है, आपको जाना है ये जो रेंडर वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है। इसमें भी काफी सारे ऑप्शंस देखने को मिल जाते हैं। नीचे स्क्रॉल करोगे तो आपको काफी ज्यादा ऑप्शंस देखने को मिलते हैं। सो इनके बारे में मैं डिटेल से बताऊंगा। अभी एडवांस जब हम जाने वाले हैं ना, तो वहाँ ये अपना थोड़ा सा मैं मतलब बेसिक समझा रहा हूँ, जिसकी वजह से आपको समझ आ जाए कि कैसे आप बना सकते हो। अब देखो इधर आपको 180p ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है। जस्ट आपको इस पर क्लिक करना है। बाकी देखो फ्रेम का ऑप्शन है। जैसे हमने 0 से स्टार्ट किया था ना, तो ये फ्रॉम 0 से स्टार्ट हुआ है। अब लास्ट कहाँ तक लेकर गए थे हम? 60 तक। बट हम 10 फ्रेम आगे कर रहे हैं, 70 पे कर रहे हैं। ठीक है। अब देखो डे और नाइट का ऑप्शन देखने को मिल जाता है। इसके बारे में आगे आपको बताने वाला हूँ डे नाइट क्या होता है। वैसे ऐसे देखो नाइट कर देता हूँ तो ये देखो इधर ये नाइट सा हो गया ना। अगर मैं डे कर देता हूँ तो देखो ये डे सा हो जाएगा। ठीक है, ऐसा कुछ है। तो ये लाइटिंग में आपको समझ आएगा। मुझे अभी पता है काफी लोगों को नहीं समझ आ रहा होगा, बट जिसको समझ आ रहा है तो अभी मुझे कमेंट करो कि भाई बहुत बढ़िया समझा रहे हो, मजा आ रहा है वीडियो देखने में। ऐसी वीडियोस आप और भी लेकर आना, हम डिटेल से देखने वाले। फुल जो वॉच कर रहे हैं थैंक यू सो मच। जिसने सब्सक्राइब कर दिया उसका भी धन्यवाद, जिसने लाइक कर दिया उसका भी धन्यवाद। अब देखो ये जो रिमूव वाटरमार्क देखने को मिलता है ये रिमूव कर लेना यार। देखो क्योंकि जब वीडियो आप अपलोड करते हो किसी भी प्लेटफॉर्म पे करते हो तो उसका वाटरमार्क ना रहे तो बेटर, देखने में अच्छा लगता है। देखो इधर इसका वाटरमार्क आ रहा है ना, ये जो आपको छोटा सा वाटरमार्क दिख रहा है, मेरे को पता नहीं दिख रहा होगा, बट जिसको दिख रहा है आंखें बहुत ज्यादा आपकी क्या बताऊं। अब देखो ये रिमूव वाटरमार्क है। जस्ट मैंने इस पर क्लिक किया, उसके बाद ये देखो रेंडर वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है। इस पर मैं जैसे ही प्रेस कर देता हूँ अपनी रेंडरिंग देखो स्टार्ट हो चुकी है। अब ये जैसी कंप्लीट हो जाती तो अपनी वीडियो बन चुकी है। जी हाँ, सिंपल सा था यार। ऐसी वीडियोस बना के आप काफी ज्यादा अर्निंग कर सकते हो। देखो बन गई वीडियो, आप इसे कहीं पर भी अपलोड कर सकते हो। बट अब आते हैं हाई एनिमेशन पे। आप हाई एनिमेशन कैसे बना सकते हो, उससे पहले आपको मैं मॉडल डिजाइन करना सिखाता हूं। बिकॉज यार मॉडल डिजाइन किए बिना हम कुछ भी नहीं क्रिएट कर सकते, तो इसको आपको डिलीट करना होगा। सिंपल से आपको ये देखो ऊपर ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ना, ये दोनों को सिलेक्ट करना है। लाइक मैंने इसे लॉन्ग प्रेस करके रखा है, इसके बाद मैंने इसे सिलेक्ट कर लिया है। अब ये जो कट वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, जस्ट इस पर क्लिक कर दूंगा और ये कट हो चुका है। सिंपल सा था। बट अब देखो एक और चीज आप लोगों ने ध्यान देना है। अब एनिमेशन करते वक्त ना, जैसे कि मैं इधर एक मॉडल लेकर आ गया हूँ, क्यूब लेकर आ गया हूँ। ठीक है, इसे मैं थोड़ा जूम कर लेता हूँ बिकॉज काफी ज्यादा छोटा हो चुका है। देखो ये आ चुका है। अब मॉडल आ चुका है। काफी लोग बोलेंगे भाई ये तो एनिमेशन वाला है, इसमें हम कटिंग वगैरह कैसे करें? तो कटिंग वगैरह करने के लिए आपको मॉडलिंग वाले ऑप्शन में जाना होता है भाई। तो ये चीज आप ध्यान देना। मॉडलिंग वाले में हम चले गए। अब इधर से आप मॉडल को कट कर सकते हो, इसकी साइज को बढ़ा सकते हो, टेक्सचरिंग दे सकते हो, अपने हिसाब से मतलब मॉडिफाई कर सकते हो। टेक्सचर के लिए हम अलग एप्लीकेशन का यूज करेंगे, इसमें दरअसल टेक्सचर नहीं होता है। सो वो कौन सा एप्लीकेशन है आगे आपको बताने वाला हूँ। उसकी भी ट्यूटोरियल आपको शायद इसी में देखने को मिल जाए या किसी और वीडियो में उसको बना दूंगा। बिकॉज टेक्सचर की जो डिटेलिंग वगैरह है वो थोड़ा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड होता है। अगर आप उसे सीख लेते हो ना तो आप दूसरों के लिए मॉडल बना के भी काफी अच्छी खासी अर्निंग जनरेट कर सकते हो। एक मॉडल क्रिएट करने का आप किसी भी बंदे से 1000 रुपए तक चार्जेस कर सकते हो। स्टार्टिंग 500 से होती है, 1000 रुपए तक चार्ज कर सकते हो और एंडिंग इसकी 50,000 से ऊपर होती है। मॉडल क्रिएट करने का बोल रहा हूँ सिर्फ भाई। आप कोई भी सिटी वगैरह क्रिएट कर दे तो फिर तो लाखों तक चली जाती है, उसकी बात वो अलग है। ठीक है, तब देखो मैंने क्या करना है, इसकी साइज को हल्के से पहले मैं इंक्रीज कर देता हूँ। बिकॉज यार हमें कोई एक ऐसा मॉडल क्रिएट करना है जो देखने में थोड़ा अट्रैक्टिव लगे। मुझे भी नहीं पता मैंने क्या क्रिएट करना है, बट आप लोगों को सिखाने के लिए मैं कुछ भी क्रिएट करने वाला हूँ। सिंपल देखो मैंने इससे ले लिया है। अभी आपको इस मॉडल पे आप जैसे ही क्लिक करते हो तो आपका ये ध्यान देना, ये पहले वाले पे क्लिक रहेगा ना तो आपका कुछ भी कटिंग वगैरह नहीं होगी। बट जब आप सेकंड वाले पे क्लिक करते हो तो देखो आपको कुछ ऑप्शंस और देखने को मिल जाते हैं। लाइक ये वाले ये क्या है? ये है कटिंग करने के लिए। कैसे कट करते हैं मैं आप लोगों को सिखाता हूँ। देखो जैसे कि मैंने इस पे क्लिक किया है, अब मैं जैसे ही इस वाले ऑप्शन पे क्लिक करता हूँ ना तो मेरे को कटिंग के कुछ टूल्स देखने को मिल जाते हैं। लाइक ये देखो मैं इधर से ये बैक करता हूँ, इसे मैं इधर सेट कर दिया हूँ। देखो इधर से मेरे को इतना कट करना है तो सिंपल से जो टिक वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है इसे मैं सिलेक्ट करके ऐसे टिक कर दूंगा। देखो कट चुका है। अब यहाँ से देखो एक ही तरफ का कटा है, बाकी कहीं पर भी कटा है। देखो इस तरफ नहीं कटा है, यहाँ कटा है, ये चीज कट चुका है। अब आपको कैसे पता भाई कट चुका है? तो देखो आपको क्या करना है, सिंपल सा ये वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ना, इस पर आपको क्लिक करना है, फिर इसको बाहर की ओर खींचना है। देखो हो चुका, बाहर आ चुका है। देखो एक अलग सी शेप बन चुकी है इसकी। बनेगी नहीं, बिल्कुल अलग शेप बनी है। पहले ये एकदम क्यूब सा था, अब देखो मैंने कुछ ऐसा डिज़ाइन कर दिया। अब मैंने क्या करना है, देखो वापस से इस पर क्लिक करना है। अब मुझे जैसे कि इसके एक ही साइड अभी कटिंग हुई ना, अब मैं चारों तरफ से कट करता हूँ, तो उसके लिए मुझे इस वाले ऑप्शन क्लिक करना होगा, इस वाले, ठीक है। उससे पहले मैंने अपने मॉडल को क्लिक करना है। ज़्यादातर लोग जानते हो क्या मिस्टेक करते हैं जब इस एप्लीकेशन को यूज़ करते हैं, तो भाई मॉडल को नहीं क्लिक करते, वो डायरेक्ट इस पर क्लिक करने लग जाते, कटिंग हो कटिंग हो कटिंग हो। नहीं होगा कट यार, आप कैसे कट करोगे, आपको नहीं पता चलने वाला कि कहाँ पर कैसे कट करना है। देखो जैसे मैंने इसे कट कर दिया, अब मैंने क्या करना है, एक ही तरफ कट हुआ है ना, सिंपल से मैं पूरे मॉडल को पहले सिलेक्ट करने वाला हूँ। लाइक ये पूरे मॉडल को सिलेक्ट करते हैं हम। देखो मैंने पूरे मॉडल को इसके सिलेक्ट किया, उसके बाद मैंने इसको सिलेक्ट करना है। जस्ट मैंने इसे सिलेक्ट किया, अब मैंने इसे देखो कटिंग करना है, ये मैंने कट किया, ठीक है। देखो चारों तरफ से कट हो चुका है ना। अब मैंने इधर से जैसे कि इस वाले शेप को निकालना है बाहर, तो उसके लिए मुझे क्या करना है, इस वाले ऑप्शन क्लिक करना है। ये जो आपको ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, इस वाले ऑप्शन क्लिक करके इसे मैं बाहर कर सकता हूँ। देखो कुछ ऐसे बाहर आ चुका है। अब मैं क्या करता हूँ, इसके नीचे से इधर से थोड़ा सा कट करता हूँ। उसके बाद एक छोटा सा मैं कुछ ब्रिज सा बनाने वाला हूँ, वो कैसे बनता है आप लोगों को मैं डिटेल से बताने वाला हूँ, तो वीडियो में बने रहना। अब मैं इसे थोड़ा इधर से कट करता हूँ, स्क्रॉल डाउन। अब देखो इधर से मैं करके इसको नीचे की ओर मैं करने वाला हूँ। सिंपल से मैं इधर करके देखो नीचे कर चुका हूँ। एक छोटी सी ब्रिज सी बन चुकी है। मैं इसी को एक हाउस सा बना दूँ, आप क्या कहते हो, एक मॉडल हम डिजाइन कर देते हैं जिसमें आपको हॉल टाइप का कुछ दिखाने वाला हूँ। ये देखो अपने सामने का फ्रंट का कुछ इंटरफेस हो गया इस तरीके का। बट अगर आप डिफरेंट कलर जैसे कोई हाउस वगैरह क्रिएट करो, उसके लिए डिफरेंट कलरिंग होती है ना, तो वो थोड़ा अलग तरीके से होता है, वो मैं बताता हूँ कैसे होता है। बट देखो एक तरीके की दीवार कुछ ऐसी अपनी आ चुकी है। अब इधर आप टेक्सचर वगैरह देना चाहो तो सिंपल सा इधर टेक्सचर दे सकते हो। आपको काफी सारे टेक्सचर्स का ऑप्शन देखने को मिलते हैं, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया था। ये देखो कुछ ये आ चुका है जो कि मुझे थोड़ा सा अजीब लग रहा है, बट काफी ज्यादा अमेजिंग है, बेटर है, कोई बात नहीं। देखो इस तरह आप इसमें कटिंग कर सकते हो। अब बात करते हैं नेक्स्ट टूल के बारे में। तो अपने हिसाब से आप डिजाइन कर लेना मॉडल को, तो आपको पता चल जाने वाला है। वैसे मॉडल डिजाइन में आपको एक छोटा सा हाउस क्रिएट करके दिखाई देता हूँ। सिंपल से क्या करता हूँ, मैं इससे पहले डिलीट करता हूँ, एक हाउस क्रिएट करता हूँ, ठीक है। सिंपल से ये मैंने लिया है। मैं थोड़ा जल्दी करने वाला हूँ, ठीक है, क्योंकि आप लोगों का टाइम ना वेस्ट हो, इसलिए मैं थोड़ा फास्ट कर रहा हूँ। अब देखो ये मैंने किया हुआ, अब इसे मैंने कॉपी करना है। एकदम सिंपल सा मैं हाउस बनाने वाला हूँ और कुछ नहीं। कॉपी वगैरह कैसे करना है अगर आप लोग को अभी तक नहीं समझ आया तो आप बैक कर लेना। देखो कोई भी अगर आपको फिर भी प्रॉब्लम आती है, सब मेरे से इंस्टाग्राम पे कांटेक्ट कर लेना। मैं आपका देखो 48 घंटे के अंदर जो भी आपका सवाल होगा उसका जवाब दे देने वाला हूँ। मैंने इसे क्रिएट कर लिया है। अब मैं थोड़ा सा एक और कॉपी कर लेता हूँ इसे मैं ग्रुप, ठीक है। अब मैं इसे एक बार कॉपी करता हूँ, मैं इसे रोटेट कर देता हूँ, रोटेट कर दिया हूँ। अब मैं इसे बाहर निकालता हूँ, थोड़ा इसे आगे की साइड करते हैं। देखो एकदम सिंपल सा मैं हाउस बनाने वाला हूं, एकदम सिंपल सा, कुछ नहीं होएगा, बिल्कुल सिंपल सा हाउस होगा। आप भी बोलोगे भाई लिटरली इसमें एंड्रॉइड में इस तरीके की मॉडल कैसे क्रिएट किया जा सकता है। आपने कभी सोचा नहीं होगा कि इस तरीके की एनिमेशन आप इसमें बना सकते हो। बहुत ज़्यादा, मतलब इतना ज़्यादा बेटर मैं आप लोगों को इसमें सिखाने वाला हूँ। इस तरीके की एनिमेशन आपको पूरे यूट्यूब पे किसी ने नहीं सिखाई होगी, ना ही किसी ने बताई होगी। वैसे जो मैं आप लोगों को बता रहा हूँ इसके लिए पेमेंट लगती है, आप लोगों को पता है, पेमेंट देनी पड़ती है यार। लोग इसके लिए पता नहीं कितने कितने चार्जेस करते हैं, बट मैं आप लोगों को फ्री में सिखाने वाला हूँ क्योंकि मेरा एक ड्रीम है। आप मेरे इंस्टाग्राम प्रोफाइल पर चल जाना, आप लोगों को उधर पढ़ने को मिल जाएगा कि लिटरली मेरा क्या ड्रीम है, क्या चीज़ मैं करना चाहता हूँ। एनिमेशन में ना जानते हो अभी के टाइम पे एनिमेशन में जितना क्रेज है किसी चीज में नहीं है। आप पुरानी चीजों को न्यू बना सकते हो। मैंने स्टार्टिंग में आप लोगों को बताया कि आप एक एनिमेशन ही एक ऐसी चीज है, जैसे मूवी की कोई आप क्लिप ले लो, उसको आप रीमेक कर सकते हो, आपको कोई भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगी। आप उसको अपने हिसाब से डिजाइन कर सकते हो। कोई स्टोरी वगैरह आपको दिखानी तो आप पैसा नहीं खर्च करना चाहते हो तो आप 3D एनिमेशन के जरिए उसे सिखा सकते हो। काफ़ी बेटर है यार। देखो 3D एनिमेशन एक ऐसा जरिया है जिससे आप काफ़ी अच्छी खासी अर्निंग तो जनरेट कर ही सकते हो। अगर आप इसमें अपना करियर बनाना चाहते हो तो वो भी आपको चांसेस मिलते हैं। इससे बेटर और क्या है यार कि किसी चीज़ में हमें अगर अपना करियर बनाने का मौका मिल जाता है तो हम ईजिली बना ले। तो मेरे को काफ़ी ज़्यादा बेटर लगा था, इसलिए मैंने 3D एनिमेशन का जो करियर है चूज़ किया था। प्लस मैं मास्टरी कर रहा हूँ अर्निंग वगैरह के ऊपर कि अर्निंग वगैरह हम कैसे कर सकते हैं, ऑनलाइन इनकम कैसे जनरेट कर सकते हैं। क्योंकि काफ़ी लोगों को काफ़ी ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम होती है कि भाई ऑनलाइन अर्निंग नहीं होती। बहुत अच्छी खासी अर्निंग होती है, आप बहुत अच्छा अर्निंग भी कर सकते हो। तो मैं डिटेल से बताऊंगा। अब देखो आप सेकंड चैनल पर चल जाना, उधर वैसे मैंने काफ़ी सारी वीडियोस इसके ऊपर बना के रखी हुई है। जिसको सेकंड चैनल हमारा नहीं पता है तो सेकंड चैनल मुझसे लिंक मांग लेना कमेंट में, या मैंने पहले से कमेंट कर दिया हो तो आप देख लेना, वहाँ पर आपको मिल जाने वाली है। तो वो कुछ इस तरीके का अपना कुछ मॉडल बन के है। अब इधर मैंने क्या करना है, इधर अब मोड पे जाता हूँ। इधर मैं सिंपल सा ना कोई बैकग्राउंड देखता हूँ, कुछ मस्त सा हो, लाइक आई डोंट नो मैं क्या करने वाला हूँ, बट मुझे इतना पता है कि जो भी करने वाला हूँ काफ़ी ज़्यादा अमेजिंग बनने वाली है। अब सिंपल से मैं देखो मैं इसे डाउनलोड करता हूँ, उसके बाद मैं इसे थोड़ा साइज़ को इसकी इंक्रीज़ कर लेता हूँ क्योंकि मैं जो करने वाला हूँ ना आप लोगों को भी अच्छा लगना चाहिए, देखने में बेटर लगेगा तभी जाके मजा आएगा। वरना देखो हर कोई बकवास करता है जो कि मुझे भी नहीं पसंद है कि बकवास करी जा रहा है ये वो। मेरे को भी यार गुस्सा चढ़ने लग जाता है कि भाई क्या है, तुझे अगर सिखाना है तो सिखा, नहीं सिखाना तो नहीं, फालतू की बकवास नहीं करना है, ठीक है। मैं इसकी साइज़ को हल्की से और इंक्रीज़ करता हूँ। आप लोगों को समझ आ गया होगा कि मैं करना क्या चाह रहा हूँ। अब मैं इसे थोड़ा सा इधर कर देता हूँ, ठीक है। मेरे ख्याल से थोड़ा टेढ़ा है, नहीं ओके रिपोर्ट है, तो इसे मैं इस तरफ लेकर चलता हूँ। देखो कुछ इस तरीके से अपनी बन के आने वाली है। भाई इस तरीके का मॉडल बताओ, आपको किसी और सॉफ्टवेयर प्रोवाइड करते हैं कि भाई किसी और सॉफ्टवेयर में, ये पेड प्रमोशन नहीं है, इसको मैं फ्रेम बता रहा हूँ कि भाई इस एप्लीकेशन का आप यूज़ कर सकते हो। सो ये मत कर देना कि भाई साहब आप प्रमोशन वगैरह करो एप्लीकेशन का, आपको प्रमोशन वगैरह मिला है कि पैसे पूसे दिए क्या इस एप्लीकेशन के बारे में। काफ़ी लोग कमेंट कर देते हैं, सो इसलिए मैं बोल रहा हूँ। अब मैं इसे थोड़ा सा इधर कर देता हूँ अपने हिसाब से एडजस्ट। इसी तरह आपको एडजस्ट करना होता है। एक बार बस आपको मॉडल बना लेना, उसके बाद एनिमेशन में आपका बिल्कुल भी टाइम नहीं खर्च होने वाला है। जी हाँ, बिल्कुल भी नहीं खर्च होगा। मैं इसे पहले सेट कर लेता हूँ। ओके, आई थिंक इसे नीचे करना है मुझे। नाउ इज बेटर लुक। देखो अब कुछ इस तरीके का मॉडल अपना बन के आया है, कितना ज़्यादा अमेजिंग लग रहा है। इधर आप कार ले आओ, सिंपल से कार ले आते हैं। ये जो कार वाला ऑप्शन है इसे हम सिंपल से डाउनलोड कर लेते हैं। बाकी और भी ऑप्शंस देखने को मिलता है, आप अपने हिसाब से जब डिजाइनिंग वगैरह करोगे ना तब आपको मज़ा आने वाला है, वैसे नहीं आएगा। अब मैं इधर देखो इसकी साइज़ को हल्के से इंक्रीज़ कर देता हूँ, इधर से कर देता हूँ थोड़ी सी और, ठीक है। हल्के से इसको मोटा, ठीक है। अब मैंने क्या करना है, इसको इधर पार्क कर देना है। देखो लग रहा है ना अमेजिंग सा कुछ आ चुका है लुक वगैरह। अब इसका हम टेक्सचर देना चाहते हैं तो टेक्सचर दे देते हैं। अगर कलरिंग वगैरह जो कहते हैं, कलरिंग देना चाहते हो तो इधर से आप कलरिंग दे सकते हो। लाइक मैं इधर दे देता हूँ। देखो आपके पास टेक्सचर कहाँ से डाउनलोड करना है, कैसे डाउनलोड करना है, इसके ऊपर मैं बताने वाला हूँ। अभी एक पूरी मतलब जब कोर्स है तो यार फुल देखो, आपको सबको समझ आने वाला है कि भाई एक्चुअली मैं समझाने क्या क्या वाला हूँ। बहुत मजा आने वाला है, बहुत कुछ सीखने वाले हो। ऐसा कोर्स आपको पूरे यूट्यूब पे नहीं मिला होगा। मैं 100% एक गारंटी के साथ कह सकता हूँ कि भाई आपको कहीं नहीं मिला होगा। बाकी आप देखो इमेजेस देख सकते हो, कितनी सारी अमेजिंग मेरे पास इमेजेस अवेलेबल है। ये मैंने क्रोम से डाउनलोड किया था। मुझे ना इस तरह की इमेज काफ़ी ज़्यादा पसंद है। मैं कोई और भी वर्क कर रहा हूँ जिस पे मैं अभी रिसर्च कर रहा हूँ, तो मैं आपको बाद में बताऊँगा कि क्या रिसर्च है, क्या कर रहा हूँ मैं। अभी बता दूंगा तो कुछ मज़ा नहीं आने वाला है। अब मैं इधर देखो टेक्सचर में दे रहा हूँ, इधर कुछ टेक्सचर देखो भाई कितनी अमेजिंग लग रही है अपनी, बहुत खतरनाक लग रही है। इस तरह की टेक्सचरिंग आप भी दे सकते हो। टेक्सचर इस तरह कहाँ से मिलेंगे सब कुछ बताने वाला हूँ। मतलब इस वीडियो में आपको ऐसी चीज़ प्रोवाइड करने वाला हूँ ना जो आपने कभी सोची नहीं होगी। अब देखो ये मॉडल अपना क्रिएट हो चुका है। आप बताओ ये आपको कैसा लग रहा है। सिंपल से मैंने मॉडल क्रिएट किया है, 2 मिनट। इसका टेक्सचर हमने नहीं दिया है, इसके भी टेक्सचर को हम दे देते हैं। कलरिंग पे जाके थोड़ा इसका ब्राउन हो, ठीक है ये रहा। अब देखो किस तरह लग रहा है ना काफ़ी अमेजिंग सा कुछ। अब इस हिसाब से आप सोचो कितनी बढ़िया सी वीडियोस बना सकते हो। आपको मैं कैमरा एंगल भी इसी बता देता हूँ ताकि आपको प्रॉब्लम ना करे। तो अब वापस आपको क्यू वाले ऑप्शन पे जाना है। अब इधर आपको लाइटिंग वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, प्लस ये वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है। इसको सेट करने से पहले हमने क्या करना है, इधर सेव वाला ऑप्शन है, पहले आप मॉडल को सेव करो, ठीक है। जस्ट मैंने इस पे सेव पे प्रेस कर दिया है। अब मैं इधर होम पे चलता हूँ। उसके बाद हम लाइटिंग सेट करने से पहले ये आपको सेटिंग का ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ना, जस्ट आपको इस पे क्लिक करना है। इसके बाद देखो ये जो लो है इसको क्या करना है, आपको हाई कर लेना है, बिकॉज अब आप लाइटिंग देने वाले हो। सिंपल से मैं वापस से इसे ओपन कर लेता हूँ। ओपन करने के बाद देखो अपना मॉडल ये आ चुका है। अब हमने इसमें लाइटिंग देनी है। लाइटिंग कैसे देनी है, लाइटिंग के लिए हमने क्या करना है, जो लाइटिंग वाला ऑप्शन है इस पर बस प्रेस कर देना। उसके बाद आपकी लाइट आ जाने वाली है। तो मैं करने वाला हूँ सनलाइट का यूज़। पहले इसके बारे में आपको डिटेल से बता देता हूँ। ये देखो ये पॉइंट पे है। पॉइंट बोले तो जैसे कि अभी एक जगह है, मुझे जैसे इसी मॉडल पे अभी लाइटिंग देनी है। लाइक देखो ये मॉडल के पास गए। अब ये आपको कुछ ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है। मैं लाइट पे क्लिक करता हूँ, ये आपको कलर का ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है। जैसे आप लाइट के कलर वगैरह चेंज करना चाहो तो इधर से आप लाइटिंग के कलर वगैरह चेंज कर सकते हो, जो कि मुझे नहीं करना है, सो मैं इसे छोड़ देता हूँ। अब देखो क्या करना है, मैं इसे वाइट कर देता हूँ। वापस से मैं इसे वाइट कर दिया हूँ। अब इस लाइट पे जैसे ही क्लिक करते हो तो आपको कुछ और ऑप्शन देखने को मिलते हैं, लाइक इंटेंसिटी, रेंज, फिर नीचे शैडो का ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है। ये क्या चीज़ है, तो मैं इंटेंसिटी पे जैसे ही क्लिक करता हूँ, देखो अभी ये मॉडल पे जैसी लाइट पड़ेगा थोड़ा हाई करेगा। देखो लाइटिंग कितनी ग्लो करेगा। मैं इसे नीचे करता हूँ थोड़ा, देखो ये ग्लो कर रहा है, तो काफ़ी ज़्यादा ग्लो कर रहा है। अब मैं इसे कलर एक बार चेंज करके दिखाता हूँ। देखो लाइट चेंज हो रही है ना, तो इस तरह आप कर सकते हो। अब ये देखो इंटेंसिटी को मैं और इंक्रीज करता हूँ तो और ज़्यादा लाइटिंग करेगी, बट मैं ज़्यादा इंक्रीज नहीं करना चाहता हूँ। अब देखो ये रेंज क्या होता है, रेंज जैसे कि इसकी रेंज आप देखो, अब मैं थोड़ा जूम आउट कर देता हूँ। अब ये जो आपको देखने को मिल रहा है ना गोल सा, ये रेंज है, ठीक है। इसको मैं एक बार रेंज आपको दिखाता हूँ। ये देखो ये बड़ा हो रहा है, मतलब कि ये ज़्यादा दूर तक फैलने वाला है। इसका जो नेक्स्ट ऑप्शन है शैडो का है। देखो शैडो नहीं आती, जब आप धूप में चले जाते हो शैडो देखने को मिलता है, तो ये शैडो वाला ऑप्शन जस्ट मैंने इस पर क्लिक कर दिया। देखो आपको शैडो को देखने को मिल जाएगा इस कार का। उससे पहले नीचे आपको एक ग्राउंड तो सेट करना पड़ेगा ना, शैडो कहाँ पड़नी चाहिए। तो मैंने एक प्लेन ले लिया है। अब इसकी मैं साइज़ को हल्की से इंक्रीज़ कर देता हूँ, हल्की से क्या काफ़ी ज़्यादा इंक्रीज़ कर देता हूँ। अब देखो नीचे आपको शैडो देखने को मिल रही है, तो इसमें भी मैं कलरिंग दे देता हूँ। लाइक मैंने ये वाली कलर दे दिया है, देखो शैडो देखने को मिल रहा है इस कलर की। जैसे अब ये देखो आप नोटिस करो, ये आपको शैडो देखने को मिल रहा है इस चीज़ का। अगर मैं लाइट को हटा देता हूँ, लाइट में से एक बार डिलीट कर देता हूँ, आपको कुछ नहीं देखने को मिल रहा है। बट जैसे आप लाइट को, ये जो ऊपर ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है अंडो रीडो का, मैं इस पर वापस करता हूँ, देखो आपको लाइट देखने को मिल रहा है। ये होती है लाइट का कमाल, ठीक है, ये होता है लाइट का कमाल और ये होता है लाइट का काम, दोनों चीज़ें। देखो मैं इसे थोड़ा सा हल्का सा ऊपर करता हूँ, बिकॉज थोड़ा बेटर लगना चाहिए। देखो अब ठीक है, अब थोड़ा बेटर लग रहा है, देखने में काफ़ी ज़्यादा औसम लग रहा है। वापस मैं लाइट पे क्लिक करता हूँ तो मुझे ये देखो, आप अगर नीचे स्क्रॉल करोगे तो आपको ट्रांसफॉर्म वगैरह कुछ ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, जो मैंने पहले बता दिया है। जैसे ही क्लिक करते हो इस पर तो आपको देखो सन का ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, प्लस पॉइंट का देखने को मिलता है, स्पॉटलाइट। तो मैंने आपको पॉइंट का बता दिया, पॉइंट बोले तो एक ही जगह पे लाइटिंग करने वाला है, स्पॉटलाइट बोले तो आप जैसे कोई, मैं आपको करके दिखाता हूँ, ऐसे नहीं समझ आएगा। ये देखो ये कुछ आ चुका है ना, इस पर मैं एक सेपरेट जगह पे लाइट फैलाना चाहता हूँ। लाइक मैंने इधर क्लिक किया, देखो ये एक ही जगह पे लाइटिंग देगा। ये जिस जगह पे मैं लाइट देना चाहता हूँ, लाइक मैंने इसी जगह पे इसके देना है, या मैंने क्या करना है इधर देना है लाइटिंग। देखो ये इसी जगह पे लाइटिंग देगा और कहीं नहीं। अगर आप इसकी इंटेंसिटी को बढ़ा देते तो देखो काफ़ी ज़्यादा लाइटिंग करेगा। फिर अगर आप इसकी रेंज को हाई कर देते तो, लाइक मैं इसकी रेंज को जो है 120 कर देता हूँ, फिर आपको देखना किस तरह का लगने वाला है। देखो 120 करने के बाद किस तरह हो गया, इसके मैं थोड़ा ऊपर करता हूँ, उसके बाद देखो ये होती है, मतलब एक सीपरेट जगह पे ये देने के लिए होता है। मैं बैक कर देता हूँ क्योंकि मुझे ये नहीं चाहिए। अब देखो मैंने क्या करना है, अब ये जो सन वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, ये मुझे काफ़ी ज़्यादा अच्छा लगता है ये ऑप्शन। देखो सन पे मैं जैसे ही क्लिक करता हूँ तो हर जगह लाइटिंग हो गया, हर जगह देखो कितनी ज़्यादा लाइटिंग आ चुकी है। अब इसके बारे में आपको मैं डिटेल्स समझाने वाला हूँ, बिकॉज ये जो पार्ट है ना, अब मेन पार्ट स्टार्ट हो चुका है। सो अब स्किप मत करना, अगर आप पहले से स्किप कर रहे थे तो। सिंपल से मैं इंटेंसिटी पे गया, इंटेंसिटी को मैं हल्की सी लो कर लेता हूँ। इंटेंसिटी को मैंने लो कर लिया है। देखो ये आपको थोड़ा जूम आउट करोगे तो ये कुछ लाइनिंग सा देखने को मिलता है, लाइक कभी नहीं देख, ये जो लाइनिंग सा देखने को मिल रहा है ना, ये आपके ज़्यादा जूम करने की वजह से हो रहा है। तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, आप थोड़ा मॉडल को छोटा या बड़ा अपने हिसाब से जब डिज़ाइन करोगे तो उस हिसाब से ये सेट हो जाने वाला है। अब देखो आप ये सेट कर चुके हो तो आपको क्या करना है, अब इधर शैडो आप अपने हिसाब से इंक्रीज कर चुके हो। अब सनलाइट को आप एडजस्ट करो। देखो जैसे मैं इधर थोड़ा सा सन कर दूँ हाई। अब आपको क्या करना है, ये जो रोटेशन वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ना, जस्ट आपको इस रोटेशन वाले पे क्लिक करना, आप रोटेट करके आप अपने हिसाब से एडजस्ट करना होगा। लाइक मैं एक बार एडजस्ट करके आपको दिखाता हूँ। देखो इस तरह करके आप एडजस्ट करो इसे आगे पीछे करके, जहाँ पर आपको लाइटिंग सेट लगे कि हाँ ये लाइटिंग थोड़ा ठीक लग रहा है तो इधर हम रहने देंगे इसे। लाइक ओके, मैं इसकी इंटेंसिटी को अब हल्का सा ग्लो करता हूँ, थोड़ा सा बैक। ओके नाउ अब थोड़ा बेटर लग रहा है। देखो किस तरीके का लग रहा है, काफ़ी ज़्यादा ऑसम लग रहा है, मुझे तो काफ़ी ज़्यादा बेटर लग रहा है। बाकी आप कमेंट करके बताना आपको ये मॉडल किस तरीके का लग रहा है। मैं थोड़ा ऊपर करता हूँ, इस कार को भी मैं हल्का सा ऊपर कर देता हूँ। ये भी पीला हो गया है, सो मुझे नहीं अच्छा लग रहा है। मैं इसका पहले कलर को चेंज करता हूँ, इसके कलर को हम देने वाले हैं, ठीक है अब थोड़ा सही लग रहा है क्योंकि दोनों पीला पीला हो गया था, नॉट बेटर। ठीक है अब क्या करना है, हमने कैमरा एंगल सेट करना है। तो वापस से मैं इस पर क्लिक करता हूँ तो आपको एक कैमरा वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिल जाता है, फिर आपको इस पर क्लिक करना है। अब क्या करना है, देखो कैमरा आ चुका है। कैमरे में भी आपको जंप इन का ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, हाइड करना चाहते हो कैमरा को तो वो, नेम चेंज करना चाहते हो तो वो, कॉपी का ऑप्शन देखने को मिल जाता है। बाकी एक ग्रुप का ऑप्शन देखने को मिल जाता है। सेंटर पे क्लिक करोगे तो आप बिल्कुल इसके सेंटर पे चल जाने वाले हो, बीच में। ठीक है देखो ऐसा कुछ, पर हमें सेंटर में ही जाना है। वापस में जो कैमरे वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ना, जस्ट इस कैमरे वाले पे क्लिक करूंगा, फिर उसके बाद क्या करना है, डबल क्लिक करने पर ऑप्शन आ जाता है, फिर जंप इन पे क्लिक कर दूंगा तो मैं कैमरे के अंदर अभी आ चुका हूँ। अब मैं देखो वापिस अब क्या करना है, हमने एक एनिमेशन करने वाले हैं तो सिंपल से जो एनिमेशन वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ना, इस पर क्लिक करना है। इस पर मैं जैसे ही क्लिक करता हूँ तब क्या करना है, मैं आपको इधर से स्टार्ट करने वाला हूँ, इसके अंदर से। देखो यहाँ से हमने एनिमेशन स्टार्ट करनी है। तो देखो सबसे पहला की फ्रेमिंग हमने कहाँ देना है, सबसे पहला हमने देना है 0 पे। 0 पे देखो ये जो लकीर है आपको इस पर क्लिक करना है, जस्ट मैंने क्लिक किया है इस पर। उसके बाद देखो घड़ी वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, इस पर प्रेस कर देना है। अब मैं थोड़ा सा आगे चलता हूँ, जैसे कि मैं इधर आ जाता हूँ, अब 60 पे आ जाता हूँ। 60 पे आ चुके हैं। अब थोड़ा सा मैं स्क्रीन से ऐसे जूम इन जूम आउट करूंगा अपने हिसाब से जिस तरह मैं सेट करना चाहूँ। उसके बाद एक और फिर प्रेस करके घड़ी वाला दबा दूंगा। अब वापिस से मैं चलने वाला हूँ, जैसे कि 120 पे चलता हूँ। 120 पे आ चुके हैं। अब मैं हल्का से इसे ऐसे रोटेट करने वाला हूँ, वापस से मैं घड़ी वाले प्रेस कर दूंगा। इसी तरह आपको करना है, मतलब आप कैमरा एंगल सेट करो जिस तरीके से आप स्क्रीन पे दिखाना चाहते हो ना। लाइक अब मैं वापस से इस पर प्रेस करता हूँ, अब मैं थोड़ा सा बैक चलता हूँ, अब मैं थोड़ा सा और रोटेट करता हूँ, अब फिर से मैं कैमरा एंगल प्रेस कर देता हूँ, फिर से मैं इसी तरह आपको अपने हिसाब से जिस तरीके की स्टार्टिंग में अभी आपको पता चलने वाला है मैं एक्चुअली कर क्या रहा हूँ। देखो ये हो चुका है। अब मैं वापस से बैक चलता हूँ, इसके कुछ सीक्रेट ट्रिक्स हैं, कुछ सीक्रेट टिप्स हैं जो मैंने अपने यूट्यूब चैनल पे वैसे पहले से अपलोड किया है, सब वो वीडियोस भी जरूर देख लेना। अब देखो मैं एक बार प्ले करके आपको दिखाता हूँ। देखो किस तरीके का, इस तरीके के कुछ सीन अपने जब हम क्रिएट करते हैं ना, तो इस तरीके कुछ मॉडल नहीं आता है, जैसे आप कुछ सिनेमैटिक सीन शूट कर रहे हो तो इस तरीके से आप शूट कर सकते हो। देखो ये हो चुका है। अब क्या करते हैं, हम थोड़ा सा इसको ऊपर की तरफ लेकर जाते हैं। लाइक मैंने इसे 400 पे लेकर आ चुका हूँ, तो इसे मैं ऐसे कर देता हूँ। देखो अब ये हो चुका है। अब मैं एक बार प्ले करता हूँ आप लोगों के लिए। देखो इसी तरीके का बिल्कुल आपका आने वाला है, आपको कुछ भी नहीं करना है। अब काफी लोग मुझसे पूछते हैं कि भाई बैकग्राउंड को ग्रीन कैसे करते हैं। अभी देखो बैकग्राउंड में ब्लैक ब्लैक सा है ना, तो इसे आप ग्रीन कैसे कर सकते हो, ये कोई और कलर कैसे दे सकते हो, उसके बारे में बताता हूँ। उसके लिए आपको क्या करना है, जस्ट ये जो बैकग्राउंड वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ना, बाकी आपको कुछ भी नहीं छेड़ना है। जैसे कि मैं इसे देखो इस कलर में कर चुका हूँ, अगर मैं ये करना चाहूँ ये कर सकता हूँ अपने हिसाब से। आप लोग कहते हो ग्रीन, तो ये लोग ग्रीन भी आ चुका है, बट मैंने ग्रीन नहीं करना है, मैंने ये करके रखना है। अब मैं दिखाता हूँ एक बार प्ले करके, देखो किस तरह लग रहा है। इस तरीके से आप बहुत ही ज़्यादा आसानी से वीडियोस बना सकते हो, आपको कोई भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं होने वाली है। अब मैं आपको सिखाने वाला हूँ कैसे आप हाई एनिमेशन जनरेट कर सकते हो, वो भी अपने स्मार्टफोन की मदद से। जो तो बहुत कम वीडियोस अवेलेबल है इस टॉपिक पे। हमारे चैनल पे एक वीडियो बनाई गई है, अब देखो मैं हो चुका है, तो मैं सिंपल सा बैक करता हूँ। अगर आप वीडियोस को वापस से रेंडर करना चाहते हो तो देखो जो वीडियो आपने बनाई है, सिंपल सा आपको क्या करना है, इधर ऑप्शन पर क्लिक करना है। उसके बाद ये जो रेंडर वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, इस पे क्लिक करना है। इस पे आप जैसे ही क्लिक कर देते हो तब का ये वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिल जाता है। अब मैं बताता हूँ इसके बाकी ऑप्शंस के बारे में। 1080p पे करके आप लोग करना। अगर आप स्क्रीनशॉट लेना चाहते हो ना, ये आपको स्क्रीनशॉट का ऑप्शन देखने को मिल जाता है, तो आप इधर से स्क्रीनशॉट ले सकते हो। बाकी देखो हमने 400 की फ्रेमिंग तक किया था, 10 फ्रेम आगे आ चुका है। 0 से स्टार्ट किया था, इसे 0 पे रहने दो। आप फ्रेम साइज को भी बढ़ा सकते हो, लाइक 60 फ्रेम्स पर सेकंड, 60 फ्रेम्स या ऐसा कुछ है, ठीक है। तो आप नीचे चलते हैं। अब नाइट वाले पे क्लिक कर दूंगा तो देखो नाइट सा हो गया कुछ, है ना, तो ये नाइटिंग का आ गया है। अब मैं डे वाले पे वापस क्लिक कर दूंगा, डे आ जाएगा। देखो डे हो चुका है। अब नीचे आपको कुछ भी नहीं छेड़ना है, सिंपल से क्या करना है, आपने रेंडर करना है। रेंडर वाले ऑप्शन पे क्लिक कर देना है। आपकी रेंडरिंग देखो स्टार्ट हो जाने वाली है, बट मैंने इसे रेंडर नहीं करना है क्योंकि मैंने आप लोगों को सिखाना था। ये जैसी रेंडर कंप्लीट हो जाता है तो आपके गैलरी में जो आपका वीडियो है वो सेव हो जाएगा, फिर आप उसे कहीं पर भी इजिली अपलोड कर सकते हो, आपको कोई भी प्रॉब्लम देखने को नहीं मिलने वाली है। देखो आप चलते हैं हम थोड़ा एडवांस वीडियो के ऊपर कि एडवांस वीडियो हम कैसे बना सकते हैं। मैं इसे सेव करता हूँ, सिंपल सा होम पे चलता हूँ। अब मैं बताता हूं आप हाई क्वालिटी के मॉडल्स कैसे डाउनलोड कर सकते हो फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट, कोई भी पैसे नहीं लगने वाला है, इसी में देखो आने वाला है। अब मैं चलता हूं बैक। अगर आप यहां तक आ चुके हो तो अब जो है बहुत ज्यादा मजा आने वाला है। देखो आपको क्या करना है, सबसे पहले आपको किसी भी एक ब्राउजर को ओपन कर लेना है। किसी ब्राउजर को आप यूज कर सकते हो, मैं तो क्रोम को यूज कर रहा हूं। आपके स्मार्टफोन में जो भी हो आप उसे यूज कर लेना। अब ये जो सर्च वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ना, आपको मैं 2 ऐसी वेबसाइट बताने वाला हूं, 2 ऐसे सीक्रेट वेबसाइट जिसकी मदद से ना आप बहुत ही खतरनाक मॉडल्स डाउनलोड कर सकते हो, बहुत डेंजर। सबसे पहले हम दिखाने वाले हैं रिग मॉडल, जो कि इसमें काफी अच्छे से वर्क करता है। लाइक ये मैं रिग मॉडल लिखा हूं, इस पर मैं जैसे ही जाता हूं तो देखो फ्रंट में अपनी एक वेबसाइट देखने को मिल जाती है। इस पर मैं क्लिक करता हूं, इधर से आप बहुत अच्छे मॉडल्स, हाई क्वालिटी के मॉडल्स डाउनलोड कर सकते हो। ये देखो कुछ इस तरीके के मॉडल्स आप लोगों को देखने को मिलते हैं। जैसे कि मैं आपको एक सिंपल सा एयरप्लेन वाला ये जो मॉडल देखने को मिल रहा है ना, इधर मैं जाता हूँ, इसको मैं डाउनलोड करके आप लोगों को दिखा देता हूँ। इसे मैं कट करता हूँ। देखो ये वाला मॉडल मैंने देखो नहीं बनाया, बट इस मॉडल को मैं उसमें लेकर जाने वाला हूँ। हाँ, कैसे लेकर जाने वाला हूँ सब कुछ बताने वाला हूँ। नीचे स्क्रॉल करोगे तो आपको ये वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, सिंपल से आपको इस पर क्लिक कर देना है। फिर आपका ये जो मॉडल है सिंपल सा कुछ सेकंड लेगा, उसके बाद डाउनलोड हो जाने वाला है। डाउनलोड होके सेव हो जाएगा। उसके बाद एक और प्रोसेस है जो आपको इसमें अप्लाई करना होता है। काफी लोगों को नहीं पता होता, वो ढूंढने लग जाते हैं भाई मॉडल कहाँ गया। ये देखो आ चुका है ना ऊपर डाउनलोडिंग कुछ, तो ये देखो अपना मॉडल ये रहा। ये जैसे डाउनलोड हो जाता है फिर मैं आपको बताता हूँ नेक्स्ट प्रोसेस क्या होने वाला है। अभी हम बैक चलते हैं, आपको और भी मॉडल दिखा देते हैं। लाइक मैं अभी बैक आता हूँ, देखो ये हो चुका है। पहले मैं आपको इसके बारे में बता देता हूँ, बाकी हम वापिस से इसी वेबसाइट पे आएंगे। देखो आ चुका है। अब क्या करना है, आपको इधर वापस से इस पे क्लिक करना है। इस पे क्लिक करने के बाद आपके ये आपके प्रोफाइल में भेज देने वाला है। देखो अभी मैं अपने गैलरी में आ चुका हूँ। मैंने नीचे स्क्रॉल करना है। अब आपको ये एक्सट्रैक्ट वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है। देखो यहाँ पर एक्सट्रैक्ट करने से आपका मॉडल और प्लस आपका जो टेक्सचर है वो अलग हो जाता है। ये क्या होता है भाई, हमें नहीं पता है, सो मैं बताता हूँ वो क्या होता है। पहले मैं इसे हटा देता हूँ, इधर मैं लिख देता हूँ एरोप्लेन। एरोप्लेन स्पेलिंग सही है ना चलो कोई बात नहीं, जो भी है ठीक है। देखो हो चुका है, ये एक्सट्रैक्ट हो चुका है आपका मॉडल और प्लस जो फाइल वगैरह वो एक्सट्रैक्ट हो चुका है। मैं इसे कट करता हूँ। वापिस आपने अपना प्रिज्मा 3D को ओपन करना है। जस्ट मैंने ओपन कर लिया। अब आपको इंपोर्ट वाले ऑप्शन पे क्लिक करना है। देखो मैं जैसे इंपोर्ट वाले ऑप्शन पे क्लिक करता हूँ तो ये मेरे प्रोफाइल में भेज देने वाला है। देखो भेज दिया है। अब ये मेरा जो मैंने सेव किया था ना वो मेरा डाउनलोड वाले ऑप्शन पे था। देखो एरोप्लेन आ चुका है, AIROPLAN, नहीं पता नहीं स्पेलिंग सही है कि नहीं मुझे नहीं पता। अब देखो नीचे स्क्रॉल करोगे तो आप काफी सारे चीज़ें देखने को मिल जाती है। बट आपको क्या करना है, ये जो 2 ऑप्शन देखने को मिलते हैं ना, इसमें में से किसी एक आपका वर्क करने वाला है आपके स्मार्टफोन में। जैसे कि मेरा हमेशा सेकंड वाला वर्क करता है, मैं सिंपल से इस मॉडल पे क्लिक कर दूंगा। जैसे ही मैं क्लिक करता हूँ तो थोड़ा सा टाइम लेगा, उसके बाद मेरा मॉडल यहाँ पर आ जाने वाला है। देखो ले रहा है ना इंपोर्टिंग 3D मॉडल्स, ये जैसे इंपोर्ट होता है देखो भाई बिना बनाए आपका देखो 3D मॉडल आ चुका है। क्या औसम बात है ना। इस तरीके से आप वीडियोस बनाओगे तो कितना ज्यादा अमेजिंग लगेगा। इसमें ये लेकर जा सकते हो। अब इस ये थोड़ा टेक्सचर वगैरह नहीं है, इसमें कलरिंग वगैरह रियलिटी में मतलब रियल वाला कैसे करना है वो मैं आपको सिखाता हूँ। क्योंकि आपको सिंपल से इस मॉडल पे क्लिक करना है, फिर टेक्सचर जैसे देना है जैसे मैंने बताया, फिर मॉडल पे क्लिक करने के बाद आपको बॉल वाले पे क्लिक करना है, फिर टेक्सचर पे क्लिक करना है, फिर प्लस वाले ऑप्शन पे क्लिक करना है। इस पर जैसे क्लिक कर दो तो आपको कुछ ऑप्शंस आएगा। तो अब गैलरी में अगर आपका टेक्सचर मिल जाता है तो वहां चल जाना, वरना फाइल वाले ऑप्शन पे जाके जैसे मैं बैक आता हूँ, देखो फिर एरोप्लेन वाला जहां आपका फाइल था ना, ये रहा एरोप्लेन। यहां पर आने के बाद आपको देखो ये टेक्सचर्स देखने को मिल जाते हैं। आप इन सब में टेक्सचर पे क्लिक करोगे तो आपका टेक्सचर ऐड हो जाने वाला है। लाइक मैं टेक्सचर पे जैसे क्लिक करता हूं, देखो अभी अपना टेक्सचर देखो ऐड हो चुका है। कितना ऑसम लग रहा है। अब इसके अगर ये देखो ये सब भी देखने को मिलता है, इसमें भी टेक्सचर ऐड कर देते हैं। उसके बाद हम नेक्स्ट करने वाले हैं। नेक्स्ट प्रोसेस, इसको थोड़ी सी एनिमेशन देकर भी आप लोगों को दिखाने वाला हूँ किस तरह एनिमेशन आप लोग दे सकते हो इसमें। ठीक है, मैं इस पर क्लिक कर दिया हूँ। इस पर जैसे क्लिक करता हूँ देखो अभी अपना ये भी टेक्सचर हो चुका है कंप्लीट। अब देखो कितनी ज़्यादा ऑसम लग रही है। बट इसका ये वाले भी टेक्सचर को हम दे ही देते हैं, बट इसमें मैं थोड़ा अंदर के साइड ना कलरिंग देने वाला हूँ। बिकॉज कलरिंग देंगे उसके बाद हम ये जो ट्रांसपेरेंट देंगे, फिर इसकी जो ट्रांसपेरेंसी मैं इसे कम कर देने वाला हूँ ताकि अंदर का सीन पानी जो है हमें पता लगता रहे। देखो क्या लग रहा है भाई, बहुत ज़्यादा ऑसम लग रहा है। अब मैं इसके अंदर साइड भी इसकी टेक्सचर को दे देता हूँ। सिंपल से मैं देखता हूँ ये वाला टेक्सचर, हाँ ठीक है, इसे मैं बैक करता हूँ। अब देखो कितना ज़्यादा औसम लग रहा है आपका मॉडल, आप देख सकते हो। अब इसको मैं आपको छोटी सी एनिमेशन करके दिखाता हूँ, ठीक है। उसके बाद हम आगे बढ़ने वाले हैं। एनिमेशन करने के लिए आपको पता ही क्या करना है, ऊपर जो एनिमेशन वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ना, जस्ट आपको इस पर क्लिक करना है। मैं इस पर क्लिक कर देता हूँ। अब देखो एनिमेशन क्लिक करने के बाद मैंने सिंपल से देखो इस मॉडल पे क्लिक करना है, उसके बाद 1 पे क्लिक करना है, फिर अपना घड़ी वाला आ जाता है उस पर क्लिक करना है। देखो मैंने मॉडल पे क्लिक किया, उसके बाद मैं ये 1 पे 0 पे क्लिक किया हूँ, फिर ये इधर एक की फ्रेम लगा दिया हूँ। फिर इसको थोड़ा सा आगे करूँगा, लाइक मैं इसे कर देता हूँ 100 या 200 तक लेकर जाता हूँ, बिकॉज मुझे थोड़ा लॉन्ग एनिमेशन चाहिए। 180 तक लेकर आ गया हूँ, इसे मैं थोड़ा सा आगे करता हूँ ऐसे। उसके बाद मैं एक इधर लगा दूंगा, फिर थोड़ा सा आगे चलते हैं, फिर इधर थोड़ा इसको मैं आगे ले जाके ऐसे, फिर मैं थोड़ा सा ये, फिर थोड़ा सा इसे मैं और आगे करने वाला हूँ। लाइक इसे मैं थोड़ा सा इसे देखो क्या करूँगा, हल्का सा उठाऊँगा, देखो ऐसा उठाऊँगा और हल्का सा इसे आगे करूँगा ऐसे। फिर मैं इसे करने वाला हूँ थोड़ा सा और आगे, फिर मैं हल्का सा और आगे करने वाला हूँ, फिर थोड़ा सा और आगे चलते हैं, फिर मैं और आगे करने वाला हूँ। फिर ऐसे करके आपको बनाना है। फिर आपको रेंडर पता ही कैसे करना है, मुझे बताने की जरूरत नहीं है क्योंकि वो आप लोगों को पता चल ही गया। मैं एकदम ही आगे करके इसे उड़ा देने वाला हूँ। इस मॉडल पर क्लिक करते हैं, लाइक 500 पे आ चुका हूँ। अब मैं इसे शू करके उड़ा चुका हूँ। अब मैं आपको एक बार प्ले करके दिखाता हूँ किस तरीके का लग रहा है। देखो एनिमेशन देखो, आप लोग चढ़ रहा है, आपका एरोप्लेन आ रहा है। अब एरोप्लेन जैसे ही उड़ जाएगा उसके बाद आप लोगों को पता चलने वाला है। देखो ये उठा, ये आपका चल रहा है, इसके बाद ये उड़ जाएगा। देखो एरोप्लेन जा चुका है। मैं आपको एक बार इसका स्क्रीन में आप लोग कैसे वीडियो एक्सपोर्ट कर सकते हो वो भी मैं बता देता हूँ, उसके बाद हम आगे बढ़ते हैं। अब सिंपल से मैंने क्या करना है, जो कैमरा वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, आप इस पर क्लिक करना है, कैमरा लेकर उसके अंदर जंप इन कर लेना है। उसके बाद वापस 0 की फ्रेमिंग पे जाना है। जी हाँ, क्योंकि हमने वापस से की फ्रेम सेट करना है ना एक अपनी वीडियोस बनाने के लिए। अब मैं इधर 0 पे आ जाता हूँ, फिर आपको बताता हूँ आपने क्या करना है नेक्स्ट स्टेप। देखो अभी मैं आ चुका हूँ 0 पे, मैंने इधर 0 पे प्रेस किया। अब यहाँ से अपनी वीडियो स्टार्ट हो रही है ना, बट मैंने इसे थोड़ा आगे से लेना है। इसके बैकग्राउंड को मैं चेंज कर देता हूँ। बैकग्राउंड आप लोगों को मैंने बताया कैसे चेंज होता है, सो आप वहाँ से चेंज कर सकते हो। लाइक मैं थोड़ी इसे ऐसे रखने वाला हूँ। अब ठीक है, अब मैं इसे पहला की फ्रेम 0 पे था अपना, दूसरा की फ्रेम हम कुछ ऐसे देने वाले हैं और पीछे चलते हैं हम। इसे हम ऐसे करते एक बार प्ले करके देखो आप लोग, ये देखो कुछ आपकी ऐसी वीडियो बन के आ रही है। अब यहाँ से जब उठता है ना तो मैंने इसे थोड़ा सा नीचे लेकर जाना है, बिकॉज मुझे इधर से ये वाले सीन को शूट करना है ऊपर की साइड को। लाइक मैं इसे सेट कर चुका हूँ। अब मैं थोड़ा सा और आगे चलते हैं। अब लाइक यहाँ पर अब देखो ये मैं थोड़ा सा इधर जूम करता हूँ, वापस मैं पहले इधर कट करता हूँ, कैमरे पे जाते हैं, फिर इधर करते हैं। मैं प्ले करके दिखाता हूँ आपको वापस से, देखो किस तरीके की वीडियो लग रही है। इसी तरीके से सिंपल से आपको क्रिएट करना है। अभी मैं आपको हाई एनिमेशन में सिखाने वाला हूँ, हाई एनिमेशन कैसे क्रिएट कर सकते हो। देखो ये अपनी ये आ चुकी है, इसके बाद ये उड़ जाएगा। देखो ये गया। अब हमने क्या करना है, यहाँ पर ऐसे ही रखना है। अब इधर एक की फ्रेम लगा के अब बैक करना है, बैक करके इधर से देखना है, ये उड़ रहा है। अब थोड़ा सा और आगे चलो, ये उड़ चुका है। अब मैं एक की फ्रेम इधर देता हूँ, उसके बाद एक की फ्रेम इसके आगे चलते हैं ऐसे। इसकी स्क्रीन को मैं थोड़ा सा ऐसे रोटेट कर देता हूँ। देखो मैं एकदम आगे कर देता हूँ। देखो अभी प्ले करके देखो आप लोग। बस सिंपल से आपको रेंडर करके इस वीडियो को जो है एक्सपोर्ट कर लेना है। अब ये जैसी आपकी रेंडर हो जाएगी, आप कहीं पर भी अपलोड कर सकते हो। लाइक ये देखो कुछ इस तरीके की वीडियो अपनी बन के आई है। आपकी एरोप्लेन गई, ये देखो जा रही है। तो सिंपल सा था यार। अब यहाँ पर आपको सिंपल सा क्लिक करना है। अगर आपको इस वीडियो को निकालना है तो वापस से रेंडर वाले पे जाके सेम प्रोसेस है, वाटरमार्क हटा के रेंडर वाले पे क्लिक कर देना। आपकी वीडियो रेंडर हो जाने वाली, फिर आप कहीं पर भी सेव कर सकते हो। मैं होम पे वापस चलता हूँ, आपको नेक्स्ट मॉडल ले आके दिखाता हूँ, नेक्स्ट मॉडल भी कैसे आ सकते हैं। वैसे इस वेबसाइट पर काफ़ी सारे मॉडल्स देखने को मिल जाते हैं। मैं बैक चलता हूँ, ये रहा अपना मॉडल, इसे मैं कट करता हूँ। ठीक है, जस्ट मैंने इसे कट कर दिया है। अब आपको इसे भी हटा देना है। अब देखो कुछ ऑप्शंस आपको वापस देखने को मिल रहा है, ये वाले। तो आपको वापस से इस पर क्लिक करना है। आपको जिस टाइप का मॉडल चाहिए, लाइक मुझे चाहिए मैन का, ठीक है, मैं इधर मैन लिख देता हूँ। नहीं, कोई कार्टून लिखता हूँ, कार्टून लिखते हैं। अब देखो कार्टून के काफ़ी सारे मॉडल्स आ जाने वाले हैं। देखो इसे कट करता हूँ, देखो आ चुका है ना, एक गाड़ी वगैरह भी आ चुका है आपका, ये भी आ चुका है। बाकी ये गर्ल की बॉडी भी आ चुकी है, काफ़ी सारे आ चुके हैं। ये देखो इनको आप यूज़ कर सकते हो। देखिए पांडा वाला हो गया, ये बॉल वाला हो गया। इसे स्क्रॉल करते ही देखो आपका सुपर मारियो भी देखने को मिलता है। लाइक मैंने सुपर मारियो का एक बार डाउनलोड करना है, उसके बाद इसमें आपको छोटे इसमें एनिमेशन करके दिखाता हूँ। स्क्रॉल करता हूँ, नीचे स्क्रॉल कर रहा हूँ। और नीचे आपको और भी सारे मॉडल्स देखने को मिल जाते हैं। ये देखो इनको भी आप यूज़ कर सकते हो। कुछ भी नहीं करना है, सिंपल सा डाउनलोड करना है, उसके बाद आप आराम से यूज़ कर लेना। अब ये हो चुका है, देखो काफ़ी सारे देखने को मिलते हैं। अब सिंपल से मैं नीचे स्क्रॉल करके इसे डाउनलोड वाले ऑप्शन पे क्लिक करता हूँ। ये जैसे ही डाउनलोड हो जाता है उसके बाद हम वापस से अपना नेक्स्ट प्रोसेस, इसमें एनिमेशन कैसे देना है, एनिमेशन का आपको बताता हूँ। फिर जाके हम आगे और बढ़ेंगे कि अब क्या होने वाला है। देखो मैं ये डाउनलोड हो चुका है। अब मैंने क्या करना है, अब इस वाले ऑप्शन पे वापस से क्लिक करना है। इस पर जैसे ही क्लिक करोगे ये एक्सपोर्ट का प्रोसेस, आपका मॉडल और जो टेक्सचर है दोनों अलग हो जाता है। वापस मैं एक्सपोर्ट वाले पे क्लिक कर दिया हूँ। ये जो एक्सट्रैक्ट का ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, इधर मैं सुपर मारियो लिख देता हूँ या हीरो लिख देता हूँ। सिंपल सा मैंने कट किया मारियो, ठीक है। इसे मैं एक्सट्रैक्ट कर देता हूँ। इससे अपना मॉडल और वो जो फोल्डर है वो भी अलग हो चुका है। अब मैं वापस से बैक चलता हूँ, अपने इस प्रिज्मा 3D को ओपन करता हूँ। इंपोर्ट वाले ऑप्शन पे अभी हम वापस से आ चुके हैं। इंपोर्ट वाले ऑप्शन पे आने के बाद हमें क्या करना है, वापस अपने जो प्रोजेक्ट है उसको लेकर आना है, जो मॉडल है। बैक चलते हैं, अब देखो बैग आ चुके हैं। अब क्या करना है, ये देखो मारियो का ऑप्शन देखने को मिल रहा है, इधर आपको मॉडल देखने को मिलता है। लाइक ये जो मॉडल है, अब मैं इस पर क्लिक कर देता हूँ। इस पर जैसे क्लिक करता हूँ तो अपना मॉडल आ जाने वाला है। अब मैं आपको बोन्स ऐड करना सिखाने वाला हूँ, कैसे आप बोन्स ऐड कर सकते हो, मूवमेंट दे सकते हो। उसके बाद हाई क्वालिटी की जो एनिमेशन वगैरह जनरेट होती है वो आपको मैं सिखाऊंगा, वो कैसे होगी। देखो ये आ चुका है आपका मारियो। देखो मारियो में हम टेक्सचर देते हैं। टेक्सचर देने के लिए आपको क्या करना है, तो बॉडी कितनी एक्यूरेट है, आपको बनाना भी नहीं पड़ा, आपको फ्री में मिल चुका है, सो आप यूज़ कर सकते हो कहीं पर भी। आपको कोई भी कॉपीराइट वगैरह नहीं देने वाला है, क्योंकि ये लाइसेंस प्रोवाइडेड होती है। क्रिएटिव कॉमर्स कुछ ऐसा है, तो उधर से आप इजीली डाउनलोड करके यूज़ कर सकते हो। मैं से सिंपल से देखो ये टेक्सचर दे दिया है। अब इसके हैंड में भी टेक्सचर दे देते हैं। वापस हम टेक्सचर वाले पे जाते हैं, जिसका हैंड वाला कौन सा होगा, आई थिंक ये वाला इसका हैंड का है। देखिए हाँ ये इसका हैंड का है। इसके माउथ को भी दे देते हैं, फेस को। वापस से टेक्सचर वाले पे क्लिक किए, वापस से इस पे आए। देखो ये इसका टेक्सचर ये रहा। अब इसके आइस वाले पे देते हैं, इसका आइस भी है। वापस से टेक्सचर पे जाते हैं, अब इसकी आइस ये रही। देखो आइस भी हो चुका है। इसकी कैप को भी दे देते हैं हम, टेक्सचर ये रहा। इसकी कैप ये रही मारियो की। इसके ईयर्स को भी देना पड़ेगा हमें। देखो ईयर्स है ना, तो इस पर भी टेक्सचर दे देते हैं। वापस से टेक्सचर वाले पे चलते हैं, प्लस वाले पे। अब वापस से टेक्सचर पे आ चुके हैं। अब देखो ये रहा इसका ईयर और हेयर। देखो अभी आपका जो मारियो है रेडी हो चुका है। अब इसमें मूवमेंट कराने के लिए कुछ भी नहीं करना है, सिंपल सा आपको मूवमेंट देना है और इसे बना देना है। चलो अब मैं आपको सिखाता हूँ आप इसमें मूवमेंट कैसे दे सकते हो। तो चलो फिर हम जल्दी से सीखते हैं कि मूवमेंट कैसे की जाती है। एक चीज़ आपको बताता हूँ। तो इसके लिए आपको क्या करना होगा, देखो ये जो एनिमेशन वाला ऑप्शन आपको देखने को मिलता है ना, जस्ट आपको इस पर टैप करना है। इस पर आप जैसे ही टैप कर देते हो तो इधर आ जाते हो, बट इधर आने से पहले इधर तो हम एनिमेशन देते हैं ना, इसके बोन्स कहाँ है यार, इसके बोन्स तो ऐड करने पड़ेंगे ना। तो बोन्स कैसे ऐड करना है मैं आप लोगों को बताता हूँ। देखो ऊपर जो ऑप्शन आप लोगों को देखने को मिल रहा है मॉडलिंग, जस्ट आपको इस पर क्लिक करना है। इस पर आप जैसे ही क्लिक करते हो तो देखो पहले आपको इसके मॉडल पे क्लिक करना है, उसके बाद ये जो आपको ऑप्शन देखने को मिल रहा है ना, ये जो बोन्स वाले हैं, एलियन सा कुछ दिख रहा है, जस्ट आपको फिर इस पर क्लिक करना है। मैंने इसके मॉडल पे जस्ट देखो क्लिक कर दिया है। अब मैं इधर क्लिक करता हूँ, उसके बाद हमने बोन सेट करना है। जिस तरीके से मैं बोन सेट करने वाला हूँ सेम इसी तरीके से सेट करना, वरना आप लोगों का मिस्टेक हो जाएगा तो भैया आपका वर्क नहीं करने वाला है। अगर फिर भी कोई भी प्रॉब्लम होती है तो आप मुझसे कांटेक्ट कर सकते हो इंस्टाग्राम पर, मैं आपको बता दूंगा उसका सॉल्यूशन। देखो सबसे पहले मैंने इसके एक पेट के पास बोन सेट करना है, देख लेते हैं। एक्यूरेट हमने बिल्कुल मीडियम में सेट करना है। ओके यहाँ पर सेट करना है। अब इसको एक ऊपर, फिर इधर, फिर एक इधर, फिर इसके फेस पे। ओके ये हो चुका है। अब मैं एक इधर शोल्डर के पास, एक इधर देता हूँ, एक इधर देता हूँ। प्रोफेशनल बोन ऐड करना भी सिखाऊंगा। पहले आपको मैं सिंपल से एक एनिमेशन क्रिएट करके दिखा देता हूँ ना कि आखिर मूवमेंट होता कैसे है। नहीं तो भाई आप लोगों को यहाँ तक भी नहीं समझ आएगा तो मेरे लिए भी प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट हो जाएगी कि भाई इतना समझाने का मेरा कोई भी प्रॉफिट नहीं होगा फिर। तो चलो फिर आपको समझाता हूँ। देखो सिंपल सा इसी बोन पे मैं टैप करता हूँ, फिर नीचे टैप करता हूँ, फिर से इसी बोन पे टैप करूँगा, फिर नीचे टैप करूँगा। अब जस्ट मैं इसको थोड़ा सा रोटेट करके इसके नीचे देख लेता हूँ सेट है कि नहीं। जस्ट फिर इधर करता हूँ, इसे थोड़ा सा इसे और पीछे करना पड़ेगा मुझे लग रहा है। ओके फिर इसे मैं इधर करता हूँ। अब ये वाले बोन्स को मैं इधर कर देता हूँ सेट। ठीक है ये सेट हो चुका है। अब मैंने क्या करना है, ये हो जाने के बाद अब ये वाले ऑप्शन को क्लिक करना है। अब इसको पहले बोन्स देखो बाहर आ चुका है ना, इसे मैं अंडर कर देता हूँ। अंदर करने के बाद इधर क्लिक करता हूँ, फिर मैं इधर करता हूँ, फिर जस्ट आगे कर देता हूँ। इतना होने के बाद मैंने टिक वाला जो ऑप्शन है उसे क्लिक कर देना। उससे पहले एक बार मैं इसे और सही से सेट कर लेता हूँ। देखो अभी ये हो चुका है। अब मैं ये जो टिक वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ना, ये जो आपको चेक वाला है, जस्ट इस पर क्लिक करना है। उसके बाद आपका बोन्स ऐड हो जाने वाला है। देखो बोन्स ऐड करते वक्त काफ़ी बार हो सकता है आपका बोन्स एक्यूरेट ना ऐड हो। ये क्यों होता है, क्योंकि देखो जब भी आप कोई बोन्स वगैरह ऐड करते हो तो वो अपनी जगह से हिल जाता है। लाइक मैं एक बार मूवमेंट करके दिखा देता हूँ। देखो इसकी बॉडी हिल रही है, बट इसके साथ इसका देखो टेक्सचर भी साथ में आ रहा है। ये आप देख रहे हो ना, ये जो टेक्सचर इसके साथ में आ रहा है। सो इसका सॉल्यूशन ये है कि आप इसके ढंग से बोन्स को ऐड करना, तब ये वर्क करेगा, वरना नहीं करने वाला है। मैं आप लोग को अभी प्रोफेशनली ऐड करके दिखा देता हूँ कि कैसे ऐड होगा। इसके लिए मैं दूसरे कैरेक्टर का यूज़ करने वाला हूँ। इसमें जो है मैं दूसरा मॉडल आपको ऐड करके दिखाऊंगा, फिर आपको बताऊँगा आपको कैसे करना है। जस्ट मैं इससे पहले मैं डिलीट करता हूँ। उसके बाद आपको एक और वेबसाइट के बारे में बताता हूँ जिधर से आप 3D मॉडल्स को डाउनलोड कर सकते हो। सिंपल से आपको अपने क्रोम पर जाना है। उसके बाद आपको एक सर्च वाले ऑप्शन पे कुछ सर्च करना होगा, जैसे कि एक वेबसाइट है स्केचफैब नाम की, ठीक है। स्केचफैब मैंने इसे सर्च कर लिया है। तो आपको लॉगिन वगैरह करने का आएगा, सो आप लॉगिन वगैरह कर लेना। जस्ट मैं इस पर क्लिक करता हूँ, उसके बाद ये आ जाने वाला है। देखो कुछ इस तरीके का इसका इंटरफेस आएगा। उसके बाद आपको जो सर्च वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है, इधर आपको कोई भी मॉडल को सर्च कर लेना है। लाइक मैं लिख देता हूँ फ्री फायर। अगर आप लोग देखते हो तो उसी के रिलेटेड मैं कुछ सर्च करने वाला हूँ। वैसे मोटू पतलू के कैरेक्टर भी इधर आप लोग को देखने को मिल जाता है। इधर जो ऑप्शन देखने को मिल रहा है, इधर मैं सर्च कर रहा हूँ। इससे पहले मैं कट कर देता हूँ, ठीक है। इधर मैं लिख देता हूँ मोटू और पतलू, इसे फिर मैं सर्च कर दूंगा। जैसे ही सर्च करता हूँ नीचे स्क्रॉल करोगे तो आपको मोटू पतलू के काफ़ी सारे कैरेक्टर्स देखने को मिल जाएंगे, जिनको आप यूज़ कर सकते हो। ये विदाउट कॉपीराइट के आपको कोई भी कॉपीराइट देखने को नहीं मिलने वाला है अगर आप इन कैरेक्टर को यूज़ करते हो तो। जस्ट ये जो डाउनलोड वाला आपको ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है ना, आपको इस पर क्लिक कर देना। इस पर आप जैसे ही क्लिक कर दो तो आपका जो डाउनलोडिंग वाला प्रोसेस है वो आ जाएगा। फिर आपको ये देखो ये जो डाउनलोड मॉडल वाला ऑप्शन है, इस पर क्लिक करना है। उससे पहले लॉगिन करने को बोलेगा, सो लॉगिन कर लेना। रिग मॉडल वेबसाइट पे चलते हैं, इधर से कोई और मॉडल को उठा लेते हैं। रिग मॉडल्स, उस वेबसाइट में आपको देखो पहले लॉगिन करना होगा। इसे मैं डेस्कटॉप मोड से हटाता हूँ क्योंकि मुझे डेस्कटॉप मोड में नहीं करना है यूज़। तो सिंपल से मैं रिग मॉडल पे जाता हूँ। इधर देखो लॉगिन करने का भी झंझट नहीं होता, आराम से आप काफ़ी सारे मॉडल्स को फ्रीली यूज़ कर सकते हो, आपको कोई भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगा। लाइक स्पाइडरमैन वाला मैं इसे डाउनलोड कर लेता हूँ। जस्ट इसके बाद इसमें हम एनिमेशन वगैरह देंगे, जो भी करना है वो आपको बताता हूँ कि वो कैसे होगा। ये डाउनलोड वाला ऑप्शन है, जस्ट मैं इस पर क्लिक करता हूँ। इसके बाद ये डाउनलोड होता है, फिर आपको मैं बोन्स वापस ऐड करके दिखाऊंगा। देखो उसमें जो टेक्सचर वो ऐड हो जा रहा था, आपको उसके लिए प्रोफेशनली टेक्सचर ऐड करना होगा, मतलब प्रोफेशनली बोन्स ऐड करना होगा। वो कैसे होगा वो मैं आपको इसी वीडियो में बताने वाला हूँ आगे चल के, जब हम प्रोफेशनली मूवमेंट कराना भी सीखेंगे। जी हाँ, मैं आपको 2 टाइप के मूवमेंट करना सिखाने वाला हूँ, जिसकी मदद से आप अलग अलग टाइप के मूवमेंट करा सकते हो। पहले इसका नेम चेंज कर देता हूँ, क्योंकि बाद में जब अगर मैं इसे सर्च करता हूँ अगर मुझे ना मिला तो SUPER स्पाइडर है ना, SPIDR स्पाइडरमैन, ठीक है। ओके, ये हो चुका है। मैं सिंपल से कट करता हूँ, अपने प्रिज्मा 3D को ओपन करता हूँ। इसको पहले पूरा हमने काट देना है क्योंकि हम न्यू एनिमेशन बनाने जा रहे हैं ना। जैसे डोंट सेव कर दो, वापस हम न्यू चलते हैं और इंपोर्ट वाले ऑप्शन पे क्लिक करते हैं। ये एक्सपोर्ट वाला ऑप्शन है, जस्ट बैक करता हूँ इसे मैं। तो वो एक्सपोर्ट में आप किसी को अपनी फाइल को शेयर कर सकते हो, बट इंपोर्ट में जो आपका फाइल है, देखो ये आ चुका है ना, तो इधर से आप शेयर कर सकते हो। इसको सेव कर लोगे जो भी आपने मॉडल वगैरह क्रिएट किया हो, फिर आप किसी को भी शेयर कर सकते हो। इधर से आप सेविंग का ऑप्शन भी देखने को मिल जाता है, जो कि मुझे काफ़ी ज़्यादा अच्छा लगा है कि आप शेयर वगैरह कर सकते हो, काफ़ी बढ़िया है। मैं इधर होम करता हूँ, ठीक है। इंपोर्ट वाले पे क्लिक करके मैं डायरेक्ट अपने फोल्डर में आ चुका हूँ। इसे मैं बैक करता हूँ। उसके बाद ये रहा स्पाइडरमैन। जस्ट मैं नीचे स्क्रॉल करता हूँ, ये देखो अपने मॉडल्स आ चुके हैं, इस पर मैं क्लिक कर दिया हूँ। अब ये जैसे अपना मॉडल आ जाता है, इसमें हम टेक्सचर दे देते हैं। टेक्सचर मेरे ख्याल से 1 क्लिक में हो जाने वाला है। जी हाँ, 1 क्लिक में हो जाएगा, बिकॉज इसका सारे टेक्सचर जो है एक ही फाइल में है। ये मुझे काफ़ी अच्छा लगता है यार। एक फाइल में अगर टेक्सचर मिल जाता है तो हमें बाद में कोई भी प्रॉब्लम देखने को नहीं मिलती है। देखो ये आ चुका है। इसमें आपको मैं मूवमेंट करके दिखाऊंगा। उससे पहले बोन्स ऐड करना है। बोन्स ऐड करने के लिए सिंपल से इस बॉडी पे क्लिक करना है, फिर आपको इधर क्लिक करना है। उसके बाद जैसे मैं जिस तरीके से बोन्स ऐड कर रहा हूँ, आपको भी इसी तरीके से ऐड करना है। वैसे इसमें पॉइंट दिख रहा है जो काफ़ी बेटर है यार, क्योंकि इसकी वजह से हमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होने वाली है। मैं इसे सिंपल से ऐड कर लेता हूँ। वेट 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 भाई के एक इधर, फिर एक इधर, फिर पूरा थोबड़े पे, ठीक है। अब एक शोल्डर पे आएगा ना इनके। वैसे ये तो इधर उधर हिल जाते हैं, तो इनका मुझे नहीं लगता कुछ ज़्यादा करने की ज़रूरत पड़ने वाली है। फिर भी हम कर देते हैं इनको। बैक हो जाओ तुम, इधर आओ। ओके, अब इधर, ठीक है, इधर। अब इनके फिंगर पे भी एक कर ही देते हैं हम, ठीक है। फिंगर पे भी ऐड हो चुका है। अगर पूरा प्रोफेशनली ऐड करना तो अभी बताऊँगा, वेट करो। आप लोगों को सब कुछ डिटेल से बताने वाला हूँ कैसे क्या क्या होने वाला है। जस्ट मैं एक इधर क्लिक करता हूँ, फिर मैं इधर क्लिक करता हूँ, इधर क्लिक कर देता हूँ। ये हो चुका है। अब देखो जस्ट इधर वाला क्लिक करके इधर, फिर मैं इसके नीचे लेकर जाने वाला हूँ, इसके थंब में। ओके, ये घुटने के पास कर दिया हूँ। फिर एक डायरेक्ट नीचे करने वाला हूँ मैं यहाँ पर, फिर एक इधर कर देते हैं। ओके, ये भी हो चुका है। अब जस्ट मैं वापस से इधर ही क्लिक किया। अब इसके दूसरे घुटने पे वापस अब नीचे जाके मैं इधर लगा दूंगा, एक इधर कर देने वाला हूँ। देखो अभी बोन्स मैंने कहीं पर भी नहीं ऐड करना है, सिंपल से इसे क्लिक करके यस कर देता हूँ। अपने बोन्स जो है ऐड हो चुका है, बिल्कुल प्रोफेशनली ऐड हुआ है। एक बार मैं आपको मूव करके दिखा देता हूँ। देखो देखो मूव हो रहा है, कोई भी दिक्कत नहीं यार। ये हल्का सा घूम रहा है, इसका टेक्सचर जो है बोन्स जो है काफ़ी ज़्यादा हो गया मैसी। तो मैं इसे ठीक कर देता हूँ। इस पे जाते हैं, इसके बोन्स पे। ओके ओके, ये है बोन्स। हल्का सा नीचे हो जाओ, इसकी पूरी बॉडी नीचे होगी। अब हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते, मैं आपको सिंपल सा एनिमेशन करके दिखाने वाला हूँ कि एनिमेशन आप लोग कैसे कर सकते हो। वही बस इंपॉर्टेंट, देखो ये बस ये मूव हो रहा है ना अपने को, और कोई भी दिक्कत नहीं है यार। क्योंकि देखो मेन चीज़ मूव हो रहा है, मैं आप लोगों को वही समझाना चाहता हूँ कैसे मूव करा सकते हो। अब इसकी एक प्रोफेशनली वीडियो मेरे पास पड़ी हुई है, मैं आप लोगों को प्रोवाइड कर दूंगा। वैसे इसमें भी सिखाने वाला हूँ कैसे हो सकता है। देखो क्या करना है, अब आपका जैसे ये मॉडल आ जाता है, उसके बाद मूवमेंट करानी। जिस तरह आप वॉल करते हो ना, आपको भी इसको भी वैसे ही वॉल कराना है। सो मैं नीचे एक वैसे ही सिंपल सा, ये देखो प्लेस सा कुछ ले आया हूँ, इसे मैं लॉन्ग कर देता हूँ। अब इसी के ऊपर हम इसे चलाने वाले हैं। इसे मैं थोड़ा सा ऊपर करता हूँ, ठीक है। ये हो चुका है। ओके, फ्लैट पे खड़ा है, ठीक है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं, सब कुछ ओके है। अब ने क्या करना है, इस पर क्लिक करना है, इसको थोड़ा पीछे करना है, थोड़ा नीचे सेट कर देना है इसे। अब आपको देखो इसमें मूवमेंट करानी होगी। मूवमेंट कराने के लिए क्या करना है, जैसे इसके पैर पे मैं मूवमेंट कराने वाला हूँ, आगे पीछे करने वाला हूँ। सबसे पहले मैं इसके एक पैर को आगे लेकर जाने वाला हूँ, फिर जाके पीछे करने वाला हूँ, ठीक है। तो उसके लिए देखो मैं इस वाले पोर्शन को टच करने वाला हूँ। जस्ट मैं सबसे पहले इस बोन को टच करूँगा, फिर इधर 0 पे क्लिक करने वाला हूँ। उसके बाद ये जो घड़ी वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है उस पर देखो, इस पर क्लिक किया मैंने। उसके बाद मैं इधर क्लिक करूँगा, फिर ये जो घड़ी वाला ऑप्शन देखने को मिलता है इस पर 0 पे मैंने क्लिक किया, फिर घड़ी वाले पे क्लिक किया, ठीक है। अभी खड़ा है। अब मैंने इसे आगे करना है, तो शांति से मैं 20 पे क्लिक किया। देखो 20 पे क्लिक किया हूँ, मैंने इसे पीछे करना है। अब पीछे किया, देखो अभी ये मैंने हल्का सा पीछे किया। अब इसे इधर क्लिक किया। अब मैं वापस से 60 पे जाने वाला हूँ, जैसे कि 40 पे आ चुका हूँ। मैंने इसे आगे करना है, फिर एक सेट कर देना है। अब मैं सिंपल से देखो फिर से 60 पे गया हूँ। अभी प्रोफेशनल सिखाने वाला हूँ। आप भाई देखो इस वीडियो में जिस तरीके की एनिमेशन सीखने वाला हूँ, ये आपका बिगिनर ट्यूटोरियल है। अभी मैं आपको इसमें एडवांस लेकर जाने वाला हूँ, जिसमें आप लोग सीखोगे ना तो आप लोग बोलोगे वाह भाई मज़ा आ गया। ऐसी चीज़ आपने पूरे यूट्यूब पे कहीं नहीं सीखी होगी। जिस तरीके से मैं आपको 3D एनिमेशन सिखाने वाला हूँ, पूरे यूट्यूब पे ऐसी वीडियोस आपको कहीं नहीं मिलने वाली है। जिस तरीके से सिखाने वाला हूँ ना, लिटरली आप कहीं नहीं सीख पाओगे। आप लोग को पैसे देकर इस तरीके की वीडियो सिखाई जाती है। तो भाई चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर लेना, क्योंकि इस तरह के कोर्सेज जो है हमारे चैनल पर प्रोवाइड किए जाते हैं, जिससे आप बहुत कुछ सीख सकते हो, लाइफ में काफ़ी ज़्यादा आगे बढ़ सकते हो। इस तरह के कोर्सेज सीखने के लिए वैसे लाखों रुपए दिए जाते हैं, बट मैं आपको फ्री में सिखाने वाला हूँ, आपको कोई भी पैसे नहीं लगने वाला है, सब कुछ। अगर किसी को कोई भी प्रॉब्लम आती है तो हमारे सपोर्ट टीम से कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं। मेरे इंस्टाग्राम पर आप लोग मैसेज कर देना, आपका जो है 48 घंटे के अंदर रिप्लाई दे दिया जाएगा। अगर उसकी वीडियो प्रोवाइड करना हमें ठीक लगा कि वीडियो हम इसके ऊपर बना देते हैं, तो वीडियोस भी आप लोगों को प्रोवाइड कर दी जाएगी। उसके लिए हमें कोई भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, हम आप लोगों के साथ रहेंगे। आपको कोई भी प्रॉब्लम हो तो आप मेरे साथ बेफिक्र होकर शेयर कर सकते हो। अब मैं देखो इधर बस सिंपल सा बोन्स ऐड कर रहा हूँ, ठीक है। 300 तक मैं बोन्स ऐड कर दूँ आपको, एक बार मैं दिखाता हूँ। देखो आगे पीछे वॉल कर रहा है ना, मैं आपको इसके हैंड मूवमेंट, बाकी सारी मूवमेंट भी सिखाने वाला हूँ कि वो कैसे होते हैं। वापस से हम देखो पीछे आ रहे हैं, मैंने क्या किया, इधर क्लिक किया, ठीक है। अब मैं वापस 0 पे स्टार्ट कर रहा हूँ, क्योंकि एक पैर की मूवमेंट हो चुकी है। अब हमें सेकंड पैर की जो है मूवमेंट स्टार्ट करनी है। तो अगर मैं तेज़ बोल रहा हूँ या ज़्यादा तेज़ बोल रहा हूँ, तो आपको सेटिंग पे जो स्लो करने का ऑप्शन मिल जाता है, सो आप वहाँ से स्लो कर लेना, ठीक है। अब देखो हमने क्या करना है, वापस मैं 0 पे आ गया हूँ, इसे यहीं छोड़ते हैं। 20 पे देखो ये पैर पीछे था, तो हमने इसे आगे करना है। जस्ट मैंने इसे आगे किया, अब हमने वापस 40 पे चलना है। अब ये देखो ये आगे था, तो हमने इसे पीछे करना है। देखो इसे मैंने पीछे किया, वापस से हम चलते हैं 60 पे। अब इसे मैं आगे कर देता हूँ। ऐसे करना है आपको, और कुछ नहीं करना है। और इसके बाद मैं आपको बताऊंगा कि आप इसे लॉन्ग कैसे कर सकते हो, क्योंकि भाई हम इसी तरह 1000 तक थोड़ी ना एनिमेशन लेकर जाएंगे। हमें कोई ईजी मेथड तो बताओ जिसकी मदद से हम इसी एनिमेशन को लॉन्ग कर सकें। सो आपको ये भी बताने वाला हूँ, ये भी इस ऐप के अंदर फीचर प्रोवाइड किया गया, जो कि मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छा लगा है। इस एप्लीकेशन की यही खासियत है भाई, अगर आपके पास 8 GB रैम फ़ोन है, तो आप काफ़ी अच्छी खासी एनिमेशन बना सकते हो। आपको लैग का भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं देखने को मिलेगा। काफ़ी लोगों ने मुझसे पूछा कि आप पीसी में यूज़ कर सकते हैं, तो भाई पीसी है आपके पास, आप iClone 7 यूज़ करो, ब्लेंडर यूज़ करो। इसके भी बहुत जल्दी हम कोर्सेस लाने वाले हैं। वैसे यूट्यूब पे काफ़ी सारे कोर्सेस अवेलेबल हैं, बट हम ऐसा कोर्सेस ले आएंगे जिसमें आपको VFX वगैरह भी सिखाया जाएगा। वैसे इस वीडियो में आप लोगों को पता ही है, CGI वगैरह भी बताने वाला हूँ, तो लास्ट तक बने रहोगे तो आप लोग सब कुछ सीखने वाले हो। एडिटिंग भी बताने वाला हूँ भाई, एडिटिंग कैसे करते हैं। वो कॉपीराइट वगैरह आपको नहीं आने वाला है, जैसे कि मैंने आपको स्टार्टिंग में तो बताया ही है, सब कुछ बताया है। तो भाई बने रहोगे। देखो अपने को जो इस वीडियो में सीखने को मिलने वाला है ना, अल्टीमेट आपको पूरे यूट्यूब पे नहीं मिलेगा। देखो अभी इसका, अभी देखो पैर मूव कर रहा है, बट अभी इसके हम हैंड मूव कराने वाले हैं। ये देखो एक जगह स्टेबल है ना, एक जगह सिर्फ कर रहा है। अभी मैं आपको एक ऐसा तरीका बताऊंगा जिससे ये भाई चलेगा। जी हाँ, चलने वाला है। उसकी आप सीन को शूट कर सकते हो। इसके बैकग्राउंड जैसे देखो ब्लैक है ना, तो ये भी आप लोगों को चेंज करना सिखाने वाला हूँ, कैसे आप इसे चेंज कर सकते हो। सब कुछ बताने वाला हूँ यार, बहुत कुछ बताने वाला हूँ। अब देखो वापस मैं 0 पे आ चुका हूँ। 0 पे ये स्टेबल था, बट 0 पे हम इसके शोल्डर को थोड़ा ऐसे कर देते हैं। ओके, इसे ऐसे हल्का से, इसके हैंड को भी ऐसे कर देते हैं। ठीक है, ओके अभी डन है ये। अब इसको मैं इधर से ओके करता हूँ। अब क्या करना है मुझे, तो 20 पे पैर पीछे था, इसका मैं आगे करता हूँ हैंड। ये हो गया हैंड आगे। अब वापस चलते हैं हम 40 पे। 40 पे आगे था, इसे मैं पीछे करता हूँ। ओके, अब वापस से मैं देखो 60 पे था, 60 पे देखो पीछे था, इसे मैं हल्का सा आगे करता हूँ। अब 80 पे आता हूँ, इसे मैं हल्का सा पीछे करता हूँ। मतलब अब जिस तरीके से अपना दिमाग थोड़ा सा लगाना होगा, जिस तरह हम चलते हैं ना, सेम इसी तरह आपको मूव वगैरह कराना है। अब रनिंग एंड जंपिंग, फाइटिंग वगैरह सब कुछ इस वीडियो में सिखाने वाला हूँ। कार एनिमेशन, फाउंटेन एनिमेशन, एनिमल वाली एनिमेशन किस तरह बना सकते हो भाई, इसी एप्लीकेशन के थ्रू सब कुछ पॉसिबल है। जी हाँ, सब कुछ पॉसिबल, आप लोग बहुत आसानी से बना सकते हो। कई लोग बोलते हैं भाई नहीं पॉसिबल है, मैंने पॉसिबल करके दिखाया है। इस तरीके का एनिमेशन मैंने इसी एंड्रॉइड में बनाया हुआ है। अब लोग पता है जिस एंड्रॉइड में मैं अभी क्रिएट कर रहा हूँ ना, 3 GB रैम का फ़ोन है, उसमें अभी कितना फिल है, 27 GB तो फिल ही होएगा। 32 GB स्पेस है इसमें, ठीक है। 27 मैंने पहले भर के रखा है। स्पेस जो खाली है 3 या 4 GB खाली होगी, उससे ज़्यादा नहीं खाली होगी, क्योंकि भाई इतने सारे फोल्डर्स में ही रखता हूँ, जिसके वजह से पहले से क्रैश होकर ख़त्म हो जाता है। तो इसलिए स्पेस वगैरह नहीं है, मैं इसमें बना रहा हूँ। बट जिसमें वॉइस वगैरह रिकॉर्ड वगैरह करते हैं, वॉइस में अलग से रिकॉर्ड कर रहा हूँ, आप लोगों को बता देता हूँ, ठीक है। देखो जो चीज़ें कर रहा हूँ मैं आप लोगों को इसलिए बता रहा हूँ, ताकि इन फ्यूचर अगर आप लोग भी करना चाहो, सो आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम ना क्रिएट हो हमारी तरफ से। भाई बिल्कुल भाई स्टार्ट कर दो, आप लोग कुछ भी माइंड में है बस स्टार्ट कर दिया करो। देखो हमें क्या, हमारी जो युवा है क्या सबसे बड़ी उनकी प्रॉब्लम क्या है, वो लोग स्टार्टअप नहीं करते हैं, कोई भी चीज़ स्टार्ट नहीं करते हैं, सोचते हैं बस हो जाए, कोई ईजी मैथड ढूंढते हैं। तो अगर हम ईजी मैथड के चक्कर में बैठे रहे ना, तो भाई कभी भी कुछ भी नहीं होने वाला है। लिटरली मैं 100%